It all started on the 8th floor of this crazy, tall tower, where everything was just ice and snow everywhere. A huge army of knights was marching through the blizzard, following this tough-looking guy with blonde hair. That dude was Kazuki, the top dog of the Blue Zone Guild, and he wasn't here to play around. He raised his hand and told his army to stop, making it super clear that they were here. While Kazuki was giving his pep talk, he spotted some new folks showing up through the snow, total boss vibes. Leading that new squad was a man with some serious presence and piercing blue eyes. This was Subaru Norukami, leader of the Blue Eyes Guild, and #1 in the rankings. He had a golden black mask, hiding his face, so you knew he meant business. Kazuki greeted him, sounded pretty friendly, and our boy said sorry for being late. But his comrade shut that down right away, telling him, actually, he was the first to arrive. Then Subaru asked if the Muram Alliance was joining them this time. Kazuki let him know that our protagonist was leading the charge and threw some shade, saying he thought the Muram Alliance just wanted to scoop up all the leftover loot. But our boy didn't care about that drama. Instead, he handed Kazuki a super rare item, Archangel's Pool. This thing could instantly bring back half your stamina if you were totally wiped out, and his comrade was straight up shocked. Our boy got really serious and said he wanted to win this fight no matter what, so he was giving the item just in case something went wrong. Kazuki, feeling reluctant, asked if it was okay to give him this kind of special item. Our boy just said to him that he can give it back later, which made Kazuki go quiet for a second, kind of emotional. Then our boy just put his hand on his comrade's shoulder and said, if he didn't want to give it back, then just keep the item. No big deal. But suddenly, things got nuts. Both of them felt this insane pressure, like something huge was coming. They realized the boss monster was showing up early. Boom. Out of the blizzard, the biggest, scariest sea dragon Hydra appeared, with so many heads and a crazy lightning vibe. Kazuki started yelling at everyone to get ready, because the fight was about to start. The sea dragon Hydra started charging up a huge attack from all its mouths. Our MC just stared at it, totally unimpressed, and called it ugly. Black and gold energy started covering his fist, and even the system sent out a message saying lightning was flowing through his body. Subaru was super confident and announced that today was the day they'd finally take this ugly beast out. The Hydra fired its powerful breath attack, and Kazuki freaked out, yelling for everyone to take cover. But our MC wasn't scared at all. He went forward, drew his sword, and told everybody not to bother hiding. Kazuki could hardly believe what our boy was doing. And then bam! He slashed his sword so fast and hard it crashed right into the monster's attack, making this massive explosion that blew the Hydra's breath away and ripped a giant line through the battlefield. Kazuki is behind our MC, who has just fended off the ugly monster's attack. Meanwhile, Subaru's team was just staring, totally shocked. The witch said something about all that training finally paying off. Another fighter was annoyed he missed out on the first attack. Dude was just one step too slow. The girl on Subaru's team asked him what he had handed over to Kazuki earlier, but he only said she'd find out later. He turned back to his squad, asked if they were ready, and declared it was finally time to kill this damn dragon. Everyone got their weapons ready. Kazuki just watched from behind with a sarcastic grin, thinking how ridiculous their power of friendship was. Then, his captain told him the troops were standing by, exactly as planned. He gave them a suspicious command and said they should get moving. Then, they just watch as our MC and his team fight the monster together. He looks unpleasantly at Subaru's team mage, who stands there to back their team up. Total chaos broke out then. Everybody rushed the giant dragon, which was roaring and going absolutely wild. The ashen-haired dude told his teammate, a masked lady, not to be careless. Then she just sliced one of the monster's parts like it was nothing, calling it a walk in the park. After that, the ashen-hair guy attacked the monster with massive ice power and told the masked lady to be more careful. Then, a red-haired warrior with red energy ran in, betting his friends he could deal the most damage and pierce the Hydra with a huge hit. Then, a guy with twin daggers took the bet instantly, saying the loser had to buy dinner. He jumped in with his crazy violet slash, moving so fast, and chopped off one of the dragon's heads. He even warned Chino, shouting at her to watch out for the falling head. Chino didn't even stress she was ready, telling him to keep attacking. She whipped up a giant pink magic shield, saying defense was her specialty. Kazuki suddenly appeared behind Chino. He whispered her name, all cold, and asked if she could block this attack too. She looked completely shocked. Before she could do anything, Kazuki stabbed his sword straight through her back, poking out her chest. He just sounded bored, saying their problem was being too confident. Subaru saw the whole thing and freaked out, calling Chino's name, looking like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Poor Chino just dropped to the ground, dead. with blood everywhere. Kazuki stood there, covered in her blood and smiling like a maniac, then turned to our MC and told him to focus on the monster instead of him. Our poor boy Subaru was just frozen, totally confused as to why Kazuki had just betrayed them like that. But he doesn't realize that the monster is very close and ready to eat him like a snack. At the exact moment the dragon was about to crush our boy, his mind did a total rewind. He remembered those weird system messages that showed up for everyone, that big announcement from the tower, picking them for some insane climb, basically telling them to get ready because it was all about to start soon. Back then, nobody had a clue if that message was some kind of blessing or just a curse in disguise. Even now, nobody really got what it meant. But the whole world listened anyway, and everyone started climbing the tower, chasing after a top that nobody had ever reached. People from all kinds of places, Earth, Muram, and even more worlds got dragged into this, and with their own secret missions, they just kept climbing, day after day. But dude, reality sucked big time. The scene just turned into a straight-up nightmare. All around our MC, his teammates were down, bodies everywhere, blood on the ice. Subaru was still standing after taking out that crazy Hydra, but he was breathing hard and looking around like he couldn't believe it. He started blaming his friends in his head, thinking they should have listened when he told them to escape. He regretted that they ignored him, and now, here he was, just sitting, completely drained, in front of that so-called unbeatable beast. They actually took the thing down, but this win felt totally empty. He looked at his fallen crew and told them, feeling totally crushed, that they were idiots for dying. He hadn't given them permission to go out like that. Then, wham, those system alerts started popping up for him. They warned that he was poisoned and couldn't heal naturally, and his fatigue was critical. The system basically said he was toast if his fatigue hit 100. And bro, that number was getting way too close. You could see in his eyes that he was pissed, but still ready to fight. Right then, Kazuki came strolling over, cold as ice, calling Subaru the Light Lightning Lord, like that was some kind of twisted compliment. Our protagonist shot him a look and demanded to know why this bastard stabbed them in the back. So, Kazuki walked up, acting all dramatic. He said he'd been coming for this day for 10 whole years, and that Subaru should understand better than anyone. He got up close, with this evil little smile, and said this was the only way he had a shot at beating our boy. He admitted that he used our protagonist team to distract him because otherwise they'd just get in his way. Then this bastard just lost it a bit, yelling about how our boy had always given him too much, and now he was totally over it. The dude picked the world instead of his friend, and didn't even try to hide it. He talked to our dying MC with a sarcastic laugh, telling, if that's a real shame, it had to end like this. Kazuki pulled out that Archangel's Pool, the rare item Subaru had given him earlier, and this bastard, with his evil grin, was telling him that he would keep it from now on, since when our boy dies, the Blue Eyes Guild would be gone for good. Harsh. As he started to leave, this bastard told our dying MC not to be sad because at least he'd go down as a legend in the history books, an extremely ironic taunt. Then, our hero just stared at him, with a bloody face, and gave a savage, sarcastic smile. He pointed out that Kazuki only ever heard what he wanted to, right up to the last second. And even though Subaru knew he was probably done for, there was no way he'd just lie down and die. Nope, our boy decided to go out fighting. He fired up his last skills, and Kazuki just freaked out, yelling that it was impossible. Our dying MC got to his feet, still bleeding, and gripped the legendary A-less fan, the one that spits out insane wind. He powered it up, telling Kazuki nothing about his plan, and you could see those determined eyes. The fan had 4 charges left, and he planned to use every single one. He thought of the 4 survivors from his team still hanging back, and with a giant blast of wind, he shoved them way off the battlefield, screaming that they needed to save themselves. Kazuki finally realized what was up and shouted at his soldiers to chase them down, like, now. The Muram fighters scrambled to follow orders, but Subaru wasn't having it. He stood right in their way, made a ball of lightning in his hand, and dared them to try and get past. His system warning was going nuts, fatigue at 95. And thunder started cracking in the sky, showing that his Lightning Lord power was almost out of time. Lightning came crashing down everywhere, making the whole place an electric nightmare. Kazuki watched with shaky nerves, calling Subaru stubborn for not giving up. With his fatigue at 96, Subaru rushed forward with his weapon ready and this absolutely scary aura around him. He couldn't help but wonder what Kazuki promised these guys to make them crazy enough to fight him head-on. Now our dying protagonist stood in front of a whole crowd of enemies, warning them that the price for attacking would be their lives. With his eyes glowing and his body busted up, he told everyone that nobody was allowed off the battlefield unless he said so. The enemy troops were provoked. It was fight or die. So, they charged at him. They think that he's outnumbered. so it'll be easy to kill him. Subaru fought back like a total legend, spinning his spear and blocking their swords, thinking that normally, these guys wouldn't be such a threat. But he knew if Kazuki jumped in, things could get really bad. He felt a little better now that his friends had gotten far away, but he was pushing the limit as his fatigue hit 97. He blocked another attack, feeling the pain get worse, but kept swinging anyway as his fatigue spiked up to 98. Then one of the soldiers finally landed a heavy hit, making him stumble. That gave the rest of them the opening they needed, and suddenly everybody was swinging at him from all sides. Blood went flying, soldiers screamed, and our MC was right in the middle of the chaos. Man, things just went from bad to insane. In the midst of the chaos, the Blue Zone soldiers started cheering like crazy, thinking they had finally finished off our boy for good. They really believed they pulled off the impossible, but bro, they seriously had no idea who they were dealing with. Right then, Subaru's voice came out all charged up, asking the crowd who exactly they thought they just killed. The soldiers turned and saw his eyes glowing gold, and in the next instant, lightning exploded out of him like a bomb. The shock was so strong it zapped the guys all around him, struck them, until they all fainted like they were trash. Bodies landed all over the ice, and the poor guy just dropped to his knees, pulled out the sword that was stuck in his chest, and was totally wiped out. The rest of the soldiers just stood there, terrified, and whispering about how this guy was a real monster who just wouldn't stay down no matter what they did. Kazuki stood far away, watching the whole mess with this cold smile, acting like he thought there was no way our MC could survive this. Suddenly, things were getting serious for our MC. That red system warning popped up, showing his fatigue was at 99%. It said if he hit 100, that was game over. He was dead for sure. But our protagonist pulled himself together, using whatever strength he had left, and started talking to Kazuki. He reminded Kazuki that if anyone should know, it was he, who always wins in the end. Our hero let out this insane scream, calling his victory, and threw his last spear with everything he had. The thing was glowing with lightning, shooting across the battlefield at impossible speed. Kazuki was standing there, holding the Archangel's pool jewel, super confident that he was safe. He even tried to act all cool, offering a sarcastic goodbye to Subaru. But then everything changed. Our boy's spear was thrown straight at his face, blowing it up and ruining this bastard's whole survival plan. The dude was so shocked he couldn't even talk. Then it all went dark for Subaru. His mind started slipping away, but even as he passed out, he told himself he was the true winner. He couldn't even see if Kazuki finally died, and he knew he looked pathetic. But deep down, he was sure his final throw landed. After that, there was only darkness, and our MC wondered if he was just stuck in some kind of void forever. Suddenly, a nasty smell hit his nose, and he heard the weirdest noise. He opened his eyes and, what the hell, he was inside a gross metal trash bin, in some filthy alley. The poor guy freaked out, wondering if this was hell. Then, a status screen popped up in front of him. It said his name was Subaru Hosoi, Level 1. He just stared at it, totally in shock and denial. That's when his old memories started coming back. They threw out some pretty harsh words, telling him he would never be even half the man the legendary Subaru Narukami was 20 years ago. Now that was a real insult. Our MC was still processing all that when he heard a voice in his head telling him he actually died 20 years ago. He looked at his reflection in some dirty glass and realized this wasn't his original body at all. He totally panicked, thinking this had to be some insane nightmare, and jumped out of the trash bin in a hurry. He fell onto the street, breathing hard and just trying to get it together. That's when he noticed a tablet sitting nearby. He recognized it as a player kit, the kind that could help him figure out what was going on in this crazy world. He quickly used it to look up the Blue Eyes Guild, but the info that popped up was all about the Blue Zone instead. It is called Blue Zone, the successor, and said it was still weak, even though they claimed to carry Subaru Narukami's will. While scrolling, he found a news headline with Kazuki's name on it. It turns out that bastard was still alive, promising to win some big tournament. Subaru just muttered to himself that there was no way that would ever happen. Then he saw Kazuki's picture older, wearing an eye patch, looking like a real villain, and realized the traitor survived after all. All of a sudden, his memory threw him way back to a night when he and Kazuki sat on a rooftop together. When they were still friends, his friend said he wanted to quit the Blue Eyes Guild. Our MC was surprised and tried to talk to him, but Kazuki just told him to break the news to everyone else and said Subaru would understand later. He promised to stay as Subaru's shadow, even if he left. Years later, that man started his own guild, using the name they used to joke about, Blue Zone. Back in the present, our boy was still bitter, thinking about how this shadow named his guild Blue Zone and was still stuck on the 9th floor after 20 years. So, basically, he'd done nothing big all this time. While walking through the streets, reading the news, he suddenly saw a picture of a huge building called the Subaru Narukami Memorial Hall. He was totally stunned. It was way fancier than anything he could have imagined. So, in the end, he decided to go there. In the memorial site, he went inside, and right there was this giant portrait of himself in the middle of the hall. Our boy just stood there, feeling bitter and asking himself what the point of remembering him like this was. He stared at all the pictures and statues, trying to figure out what the hell all this meant. Then, a hologram started playing of Kazuki at the hall's grand opening. The guy wore a sharp suit and gave this cheesy speech, pretending to honor Subaru and the Blue Eyes Guild. Kazuki claimed Blue Zone was now the true heir, but our MC couldn't take it. He trembled with anger and just wanted Kazuki to shut up. At that moment, our hero realized how much he hated Kazuki, not just for killing him, but for using his name and his memory. The video kept playing, with Kazuki saying Subaru would never come back, but that he'd never forget him. Subaru walked right up to Kazuki's hologram, eyes burning, and promised himself he'd rewrite that fake story from scratch. No more letting Kazuki control the past. Our MC was back, and he swore he'd use this second chance for real. Subaru was just standing there, minding his own business, when suddenly, bam! A little kid crashed into him from behind and ended up on the ground. The poor guy jumped to help the kid up and asked if he was all right, trying to be the responsible adult. But then the kid looked up, and Subaru's heart nearly stopped, because right there on the kid's face was his own old mask, the legendary mask everyone knew him for. Before our MC could even process that, the kid's parents rushed over, all worried about their son, Minato. Subaru tried to calm them down, telling them it was just a small accident, nothing serious. But then he really looked around, and things got weird. Not just the family, but the whole crowd was wearing that same mask. Some people were holding it like it was some holy thing, while others wore it straight up. Our boy just stood there, totally shocked, wiping his face, and wondering what the hell kind of ritual was going on. All this mask madness made our hero remember what that snake Kazuki once said to him, all sarcastic, how even if Subaru died, he'd still be some kind of immortal hero in history. And now, here it was, right in his face. Subaru finally got it. The whole thing was a giant, fake show. That traitor had twisted the story, turning his own betrayal into some legendary tale, stealing Subaru's glory and using it for himself. Then Subaru's eyes landed on this massive picture of himself with the famous mask, surrounded by candles and flowers, as if it were his own funeral. He realized that all these fancy ceremonies were just Kazuki's way of rewriting history to make himself look like the real hero. While our boy was busy, staring at all the flowers piled up in front of the photo, he noticed something that caught his eye, a little flash of blue energy glowing between the bouquets. He shoved his way through the crowd, ignoring all the angry shouts and complaints around him, not caring what anyone thought. When he finally reached the front, he knelt down and picked up a very special flower-shaped ice that gave off a faint, magical glow. Our boy whispered to himself in shock, because he knew right away that it belonged to Shigure Asagiri, an old friend. Somewhere above, on a rooftop looking over the whole scene, two people were watching everything. One of them, Shigure, said he was relieved that nothing bad happened this year. His companion, who sounded pretty sassy, told him they were way too reckless, and if they'd been late, they would have run into Blue Zone Guild members. She complained about why they had to risk their necks every year just to leave some flowers, but he said it was important, especially if something ever went wrong. He looked down at the crowd, saying all he wanted was for Subaru to notice the ice flower someday. The other person doubted it, asking if he really thought our MC was still alive. The guy said he couldn't believe our boy was dead until he saw a body with his own eyes. But the companion got harsh, saying Kazuki could find their hideout faster than for they to find our MC, and besides, our boy would never have left his friends waiting and hiding for 20 years if he was really alive. Back on the street, Subaru rushed out of the building, holding that ice flower and breathing hard. He was sure now Shigure was alive. Later, in his tiny, crappy room, our protagonist flopped onto his bed and started messing with his tablet, disappointed at how poor the original Subaru Hosoi was. He searched for any trace of the Blue Eyes Guild, but nothing came up. Still, because he found an ice-shaped flower, he knew one of his old friends had survived. Our MC figured out right away that the guy must be hiding, forced to stay underground for 2 whole decades. He also guessed it was all Kazuki's fault, since that snake would never let any witnesses to the truth keep breathing. Our MC wondered whether Shigure was the only survivor from that old battle, or whether all 4 of his friends had been saved somehow. But he knew one thing: if the traitor was still in charge, trying to reach out to his old allies right now would just get him killed. He looked out the window, admitting he was weak and powerless for now. There was no point jumping into a fight he couldn't win. All that would bring him was a quick, dumb death. Subaru stared at his hands for a long second, making up his mind that job number one was to get his old power back. That was the only way. So, he started making a plan using the memories of Subaru Hosoi. After 2 days of getting ready, the day finally came for the player training test to start. Subaru stood at the entrance, holding a sword and looking super focused, telling himself that all he had to do was survive for now. As long as his friends were out there somewhere, there was a shot they'd meet again. The next scene was in a huge test hall that looked like some Roman Colosseum. The exam proctor here was a scary dude named Hoiger, and he looked totally bored and a little pissed. One of the new trainees was down on the ground, gasping for air after killing a monster. This dude just stared at him and said he barely passed, but that wasn't the end. He asked if the guy wanted to try the next level, while the poor trainee was dying from exhaustion. Then the system popped up, saying that every new round added another goblin, but also better rewards. The trainee freaked out, yelling that there was no way he was going to fight 3 goblins at once. That was just suicide. This old man got annoyed and threatened to fail him, but the guy started begging and promised he was happy with his current score. This old proctor looked at the goblin bodies with disgust, thinking how lame it was that he had to let weaklings like this pass. In his head, he compared this loser to Isaac von Reinhardt, who had made it all the way to round 20. He thought that Isaac was the only one worth anything in this lame generation. While looking at his tablet, he complained to himself that the quality of new recruits was hitting rock bottom. But then, he heard footsteps, and here came our protagonist, walking forward with a cool, steady vibe. This old man sized him up, thinking the weight of that name didn't match the scrawny kid he was looking at. He asked our boy if he really thought he could pass. Subaru just played it chill and said yes. As soon as the system said it was time for 2 goblins, Hoiger didn't even get to finish his sentence before he felt a gust of wind zip past him. He turned, confused, wondering what the hell just flew by. There was our hero, right in the middle of all the blood, smiling and feeling good about himself for spending those 2 days testing what this new body could do. Now, regarding what happened with our boy this time. So, the guy had just found out his new body was way better than he thought. When the system asked if he wanted the next challenge, our MC didn't even hesitate. He told them to hurry up, saying he had no time to waste. Hoiger, the supervisor, stared with his jaw on the floor as he watched goblin heads flying everywhere. The whole arena turned into a mess of monster pieces, and this old man started freaking out, wondering what the hell was happening. He paid close attention and realized Subaru wasn't just swinging that sword around like a fool. He was reading every move, thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead before he even attacked. Hoiger had to admit, this wasn't just good sword fighting anymore. He couldn't believe even he wouldn't be able to pull off moves this sharp. When this old proctor looked at our hero's confident, smug face, he whispered to himself that this was impossible, unless this kid was actually Subaru Narukami himself. Honestly, the guy looked like a legend out there. Bro, that old guy didn't realize this Subaru is the real one. Subaru just kept destroying goblins, not even blinking. He was so fast and cold about it, with blood splashing everywhere, it was almost insane. Suddenly, the system announced that he'd cleared the 49th stage and asked if he wanted to try the final boss. Our boy wiped the sweat from his face, eyes shining, and accepted the challenge like it was nothing. That's when things got wild. The ground split open, and a huge hand came smashing up through the floor, rocks went flying, and suddenly the real boss was in the house. This old man lost his mind, screaming at Subaru to stop, calling him crazy and saying he wasn't the real Narukami. So, he needed to quit if he wanted to stay alive. This dude looked like he was about to have a heart attack, warning over and over that going against the Goblin King was pure madness. The supervisor kept shouting that it didn't matter how good Subaru was, there was just no way anyone could beat that monster with such weak stats. But our hero knew this already. He figured out he didn't have the power to hurt the Goblin King's tough body at all. Even so, there was no way Subaru was backing down. Suddenly, he let his sword drop to the ground. This old man absolutely lost it, yelling that our protagonist was out of his mind for throwing away his only weapon. Damn, does he want to give up his life? That's when the beast roared and charged in for a massive attack. But Subaru had been watching the arena carefully since the beginning. He noticed something weird and decided to use it. Right when the boss jumped in, he stopped, confused, because a needle had stabbed his leg. Subaru was now kneeling to pick up some needles from the dead goblin's club. Then he just showed up some poisoned needles in his hand and gave the monster a cocky smile, asking if he was surprised. Our MC even joked about making a bet on who would fall first, telling the monster he was about to turn him into a beehive. With a sharp gaze and full of confidence, our boy got ready. He threw the needles so fast they looked like lightning, and they hit the Goblin King right in the face and eyes. The monster screamed loud enough to shake the place and started swinging his massive axe everywhere, blind and furious. While the boss was going wild, our hero dodged all the attacks, moving around him like a pro. Our boy then landed, watching every move. He remembered some old lessons about how spinning gives you throwing power. Rina, his old friend, yelled at him about when his throws sucked. She'd always say anything could be deadly if you knew how to use it. Subaru did exactly what she taught him, aiming every needle with scary accuracy, hitting all the weak spots just right. The giant started bleeding and stumbling, covered in needles. Subaru stood there, explaining to himself that power came from spinning the weapon, and the more you hesitate, the worse your aim gets. He thanked Rina for those throwing lessons, thinking even he couldn't pull these moves off without her. Meanwhile, Huger just watched, sweating buckets. He realized the dead goblins and leftover needles from the earlier rounds never disappeared because the test wasn't over yet. Our boy had grabbed all those needles and used them like a genius, not just his sword. This old man kept thinking, genius? No, he's more than a genius. Finally, the Goblin King crashed to the ground, making a huge noise. It was over. Subaru walked up and picked his sword back up, cool as ice. He looked at the dead boss and told him there were no hard feelings, then finished the job. System messages popped up, saying the boss had been defeated, and finally, he completed stage 50 of the tutorial for the first time. Our boy wiped the sweat off his forehead and complained that putting a monster like this in a training stage was just cruel, even if it was only a tutorial. Next, more system messages rolled in, saying he leveled up, got credits, and a bunch of achievement points. The best part, the tutorial shop opened up, and this place could only be used right now. Subaru almost fell over when he saw he had 2,425 achievement points. That was insane, even for his old life. He started looking through the shop. Most of the normal stuff was cheap, only 50 to 100 points, so he had more than enough. Then, one sword caught his eye, the Unknown Demon Sword, a rare weapon for 1,000 points. This sword boosted your power but sucked away your health and soul, made by some failed blacksmith with magic. Subaru thought it sounded cool, but then remembered his lightning skill already used up health, so using both might just kill him. Then he saw the Holy Sword Miranda for 1,400 points. This one made you less tired and helped you fight longer. He figured safety sounded pretty good, but still, he didn't really like either choice. So now our hero was just standing there, totally stuck, trying to decide between going all out with a crazy dangerous sword or picking the safe, boring option. Man, talk about a tough choice. The poor guy was stuck just staring at that shop screen, trying to make the biggest decision of his new life. What the hell should he spend his first points on? He kept scrolling, and dude, he nearly lost it when he spotted a skill called Stake of Avarice, hiding way down in the F rank section for 1,400 points. Its main trick? It could stop the bad side effects from using busted skills or weapons. Subaru just started sweating buckets. He had never seen anything like this before, not in all his years grinding through the game. Right away, he figured out that if he had this, maybe he could ignore the crazy side effects from that demon sword he was eyeing, and maybe even stop his own lightning powers from burning him out. So, being the absolute madman he was, our MC just went for it. He bought both the Stake of Avarice skill and the Unknown Demon Sword, blowing most of his points in one go. When he summoned the Demon Sword, it looked as awesome as he hoped. He swung it around to check, and sure enough, the new skill and the sword worked together perfectly, just like he thought. Honestly, he liked having both options way more than just relying on his old skills. Suddenly, Huiger, the supervisor, popped in to give his opinion. The old man started out giving Subaru some props, saying his choices worked well together, but then he admitted he didn't really get why anyone would pick that particular skill. He said that, as a supervisor, he thought it was useless and didn't see the point at all, so he wanted to know what Subaru was even thinking. Subaru let out a tired sigh, acting like he couldn't believe he had to explain himself. He asked Huiger if the guy seriously needed him to break down every tiny detail. Well, that attitude didn't go over super well. This old man's face got red, and you could tell he was ready to explode. Our protagonist saw this and, being a bit of a troll, pretended to shake in fear and apologize for speaking so informally. That calmed this dude down a little. The old man just blamed Subaru's attitude on exam stress and said he'd let it slide this one time. Our MC looked at him and suddenly remembered that years ago, back when the badass old guy was just a snot-nosed kid, he'd come up asking for our boy's autograph. Our protagonist had told him he didn't have a cool signature, but signed his name anyway. Now that the brat had grown up and become the boss, wild how things change. This old proctor, trying to sound wise, jumped into a big speech about how the new generation was nothing but rude show-offs, saying they had no respect. Our boy honestly tuned most of it out. He was standing there thinking about how times change, just like the amount of hair left on this old man's head. Bro, if this dude had heard that, he would have lost his mind. Hoiger started ranting and tried to corner Subaru with more questions. Our MC just walked away, using the old excuse of exam secrets to dodge answering. This old man, flustered, shouted that our boy was probably just parroting stuff from the internet. He even threatened to teach Subaru some manners himself. Trying to act smooth, the old man suddenly switched gears and offered him a spot in the Chivalry Guild. But our protagonist just laughed it off, waved his hand and shut that idea down immediately. This dude couldn't believe he got rejected on the spot. Before he could say anything else, a system window popped up, asking our MC if he wanted to move on to the second floor. This badass old guy scrambled after him, yelling for him to wait, but our boy just ignored the guy and dipped out, leaving this dude alone and seriously disappointed with what the world was coming to. Meanwhile, our MC made it to the second floor, stepping out onto the busy streets of the City of Beginnings. It was packed with people and merchants yelling about all sorts of weird stuff: deep-sea rags from Runeterra, special dried meats, Murum silk, earth leather jackets. Our boy wandered through the crowds, soaking it all in. Honestly, it felt wild to be back here. He knew deep inside that he got something super rare, a real second chance at life. He remembered his old friends sitting around a fire and swore to himself he was going to make things right this time, especially after what happened to them before. Then, our boy made his way over to the training building and asked for a private room to try out his new gear and powers. The old worker at the desk barely looked up, sounding totally bored, and asked what floor Subaru came from. Our protagonist just told him he climbed up. The guy pointed down the hall and said, "Room 1 should be good enough, since it was just a basic spot with a straw dummy." But our MC surprised him by asking for room 5 instead. The employee looked at him like he'd just grown another head. He tried to warn our boy that it was a waste of money, and that he should stick to room 1. But our MC thanked him, and insisted on booking the hardest room for half an hour. He paid the 50 credits and took off down the hallway, while the employee shouted after him that there'd be no refunds if he quit early, calling Subaru just another wannabe hero. The higher the room number, the higher the difficulty. From training dummies, a spear trap, or even giant boulders. Sounds crazy, right? But Subaru didn't care. He shut the iron door behind him and got ready in the darkness. He drew the unknown demon sword, and right away, the thing glowed with this evil red light as the system figured out who was using it. Suddenly, a wave of red energy exploded out, and our hero felt his health and magic start draining like crazy, but his strength was going up fast. The stake of avarice skill kicked in, trying to help and giving him a tiny bit of health back, but honestly, it wasn't enough. The sword was still eating away at his life, and the pain kept getting worse, but his power kept doubling the more health he lost. Our boy gritted his teeth and realized he'd found his current limit. It sucked, but it was what he expected. So, like a maniac, he dropped 10,000 credits on the spot to level up the stake of avarice to level 2. The system told him that the next upgrade would cost 20,000 credits, which was pretty wild. But now the skill was actually doing some work, still not perfect, but way better than before. The sword kept eating his health, but the power boost was nuts. Feeling pumped, Subaru jumped high with his glowing red sword, yelling that it was finally time to see just how much destruction he could dish out. Our boy was absolutely ready to go wild. So, outside the training rooms, the old employee was fighting to stay awake at his boring desk job. Suddenly, the door to room 5 flew open, and our boy walked out as if nothing had happened. The poor employee just started shaking right there, trying to figure out if he was still dreaming, because there was no way a newbie should walk out of that room looking so chill. He stared at the door, totally confused, since Subaru had only been inside for about 10 minutes. He called out, calling our hero Dream Boy to check if his eyes were playing tricks on him. The guy slowly pushed the door open, and bro, he nearly fainted at what he saw. The whole room was wrecked. The walls looked like they'd been through an earthquake, and even all the traps and training equipment were destroyed like a piece of cake. The employee just stood there with his mouth wide open, wondering what kind of monster had just been in there. Meanwhile, our hero woke up in his hotel room, stretching as he'd just run a marathon. He wondered how long he'd slept, since his body still felt stiff all over. Thinking about his wild experiment with that demon sword, he realized that if it had been a normal sword, he'd probably be a dead man. Luckily, the pain had dropped a lot, and he managed to actually use the sword's power without dying. He checked his stats window, saw he'd reached level 10, and noticed his numbers were still pretty weak. Normally, a guy with his stats wouldn't even be able to lift that sword, let alone use it in battle. Subaru thought back to his training session, and how well his new Wedge of Greed skill worked with the sword. He felt pretty smart, honestly. He grinned and figured that if he added his old lightning powers to this mix, he could make something really sick. But then reality smacked him in the face. He looked at his balance and saw he had, like, 50 credits left. Upgrading his skill again was going to cost 20,000. Our poor guy just slumped in his chair, wondering if this Subaru had always been broke. He sighed and figured that, hey, dying and coming back probably explained being broke, but it still sucked. Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the lobby, snapping our MC out of his misery. A girly guy wearing cat ears was filming himself, doing a live stream for all to see. The guy was super hyped about his adventure on the second floor and kept talking about his newbie memories. Our boy watched as someone donated 1,000 credits to the streamer, right on camera. The streamer freaked out, accidentally spilled coffee all over himself, but then acted crazy nice for the camera and made sure to thank the guy who sent him money. Subaru just stared, thinking this dude must be nuts. He grabbed his tablet and started reading up on this whole live streaming thing, finding out that tons of players were doing it to make quick money. Apparently, 1 out of every 3 players was trying to earn points by streaming themselves playing or just hanging out. While he was lost in thought, our protagonist suddenly heard someone calling his name. He looked up and saw this seriously fancy guy in expensive clothes walking over, acting all friendly. The guy, Isaac, asked if our MC had climbed up to the second floor as well and said it was a weird coincidence meeting here. This rascal wanted to know where our boy was living now. Right away, our boy felt something weird in his body. Not anger, not annoyance, just this intense, electric feeling. It hit him that the old Subaru Hosoi and Isaac did not get along at all. This brat started talking down to him, telling him not to ignore people when they spoke and acting like our hero was just invisible. Subaru stared back and realized the feeling wasn't just awkwardness, it was way deeper than that. All these old memories started coming to him. Suddenly he remembered everything. The old Subaru had stood there, shaking in front of this bastard while this guy scolded him hard. This brat was telling him not to give him that blank face and stop acting so calm. The flashback kept going. Isaac called Subaru's name annoying, said he was too dumb for basic instructions, and accused him of pretending to be a cool orphan when he was just useless. Our MC remembered the old him, crying and trying to explain that the credit he gave this rascal wasn't enough. But Isaac didn't care. He just hit him so hard he fell to the ground, then told old Subaru not to answer back and called him trash. This bastard even told him he would live in a dump from now on, and if he ever left it, things would get ugly. Thinking about it now, Subaru wondered what kind of idiot just takes that kind of treatment and stays silent. Now he understood why the old body owner hid in a trash bin. Honestly, brutal. Back to the present, this rascal was still running his mouth, bragging that he'd cleared 20 stages and beat his own dad's record. Then this brat just demanded a drink, acting like our boy was his personal servant. Our MC just kept it cool, told this stupid guy he was leaving, and ignored all the bragging. That clearly ticked Isaac off. He barked at our hero, ordering him to get some cheap coffee on his way back. Our boy just sighed, looking so bored that this moron started getting angry. Dude could tell something was different, and he didn't like it. Isaac glared at him and asked what the hell was wrong, demanding to know why our protagonist was always staring at him and making some dumb joke about whether his soul got swapped out or something. Yeah, this idiot was definitely picking up on the fact that our boy was not the same pushover he used to be. This was about to get interesting. Our boy wasted no time. He told Isaac straight up that he had 0 credit, so if this idiot wanted coffee, he should go buy his own. He wasn't having any of this servant stuff, and moved to leave. But this stupid guy tried to pull the boss card, telling our boy to sit down in this low, threatening voice. Our MC just ignored him. Inside, he apologized to the old owner of his body, saying he didn't have time to get revenge right now. But he did warn this moron seriously not to get in his way. This stupid guy didn't like that one bit. He grabbed Subaru's arm, squeezing it hard, and started running his mouth about what happens to runaway trash. Our MC just looked him in the eye and told Isaac he should let go if he didn't want trouble. But this bastard squeezed even harder, warning our protagonist not to get cocky, and even called him Subaru in a way that made it sound like an insult. Subaru thought for a second, if he caused a scene here, with all these people watching, it would just backfire on him. Suddenly, this rascal laughed loudly and fakedly, saying he was only joking and he just wanted to scare our MC like the old days. He let go of our boy's arm and called him a coward and a nobody, then started guessing that our protagonist barely passed the tutorial. Our hero just stared back, feeling his body get tense with old fear. This idiot got up close and sneered, asking if our boy was really going to fight him, bragging about his powerful dad, and saying he could make our MC disappear with no problem. This stupid guy walked away, still laughing, and told our hero to be careful, calling him friend like it was some kind of joke. Our hero just stood there, boiling with anger, repeating that friend line to himself with pure sarcasm. Bro, that was cold. Well, let me explain how things worked in this tower world. There were two main ways to get stronger here. The first way was to train in the tower's virtual trials. This was the safe route. If you messed up, you only lost a bit of progress and some credit, but you never actually died. The other way was full-on monster hunting out in the real world, where things got very real, very fast. You could level up way quicker, but if you died, that was it. Game over. The monsters outside the safe zones made sure nobody got a second chance. Most people stuck to the safe trials, cause risking your neck for fast growth was just too scary. Cut to our MC, sitting all tired in front of this massive, ugly orc's corpse near the entrance of the orc's nest. He figured out the truth. Playing it safe was slow, but taking risks was the only way to get strong fast. Subaru looked at the dead orc, thinking how rough it all was. He pulled out his tablet to check for any good news, and saw something that made his blood pressure spike. There was this live stream going wild, and, bro, someone was out there pretending to be Subaru, mask and all. The fake Subaru had over 80,000 followers and was yelling at the screen, saying he was about to take on the third floor for the fans. Our MC felt sick watching all these fakes, making a ton of money off his name and his mask. Suddenly, an anonymous named Narukami Subaru is an idiot, gave this trash streamer a mission with a crazy reward of 20,000 credits. The copycat jumped on it, thanking everybody as if he'd just won the lottery. Then came more stupid missions, given by another anonymous users such as Badly Enthusiast and Empty Wallet. All of them paid huge, and the fake Subaru just kept raking in the cash while acting like a clown. Our poor guy looked at his own balance, still stuck at 50 lousy credits, while that faker was making a fortune goofing around. Our protagonist shook his head, totally bitter, but he knew he didn't have a choice. If he wanted to get stronger, he had to keep fighting. He grabbed his bloody sword and got ready for round 2. A bunch of angry orcs showed up, and right behind them was the boss, the orc general, with a crazy, scary aura. Our boy stood his ground, making fun of the orcs for thinking he was out of poison tricks this time. He told them he had something even better now. He fired up his stake of avarice skill, letting it suck up his health so he could hit even harder, and he started smiling like a total maniac, saying he was way too busy for this. He jumped up, stomped an orc's head flat, and felt his health and energy come back a bit. Then he went full beast mode, cutting down the orcs with superhuman speed. He even jumped right over the orc general's head and, with one big swing, wiped out the boss in one shot. A notification popped up saying he'd cleared the dungeon, and our MC just stood there like a legend, surrounded by monster parts. After the fight, Subaru took out his old mask and stared at it for a long time. He realized he had no choice now. He had to put it back on. He put the mask on in front of the mirror and decided if he was going to do this streaming thing, he would do it his own way. No faking. He said to himself that he was the real deal, the original. So, our hero started his own live stream with the title Narukami Subaru. The second he went live, everything at Suiten Entertainment Company went nuts. One woman was watching and got so mad she started cursing at her screen, but then she screamed in total shock. Her coworker ran over, asking what was up, while she pointed at the screen, still freaking out. She couldn't believe someone had actually finished a mission that almost nobody could beat. Only 5 people in the whole world had done it before. Her coworker tried to calm her down, reminding her to watch the bad language or she'd get hit with a fine, and wanted to know who this player was. She said the name was Subekichi, which just confused her coworker even more. Meanwhile, in the media company's office, an employee called Hatsuka was grumbling about all the copycats trying to steal Subaru Narukami's style. Her coworker wondered if the streaming business was already dead. The lady told him that this business was still their bread and butter, but even players risking their lives in the tower had gotten boring to watch. The guy asked her why she quit climbing the tower to work here. She just shrugged and said she got bored. She got a bit worked up and yelled back that he quit too, and that if she had more free time, she'd be out there finding real talent instead of dealing with all these fakes. The coworker admitted that he stopped because he just wasn't good enough. But her coworker knew something. The only reason he even tried tower climbing was to meet Subaru Narukami, so of course, she lost interest after her idol disappeared. Back at the office, there was a lot of yelling. This woman suddenly screamed and pointed at her screen as she'd just seen a ghost. Her coworker came running, asking if she'd found another weird streamer. She showed him a live stream of someone wearing Subaru's outfit, and the dude just called it terrible. He started shouting, saying it was insulting to watch some zero-view stream from the boring second floor, and if she was a real talent scout, she'd never bother with this garbage. But the workwoman just stared at the screen, saying that anytime she saw someone with that old mask, she couldn't help but feel a little hope. Then, out of nowhere, she pointed out to his coworker and said he owes 1,000 credits to her. Her coworker pretty much lost it, dropping to his knees and begging her to forgive him, for what nobody knew, but it was dramatic. Meanwhile, our hero was exploring the starter dungeon on the second floor. He said it wasn't that tough, but it was definitely tense, like something was watching him even though the place looked empty. He saw a few comments pop up from viewers. Someone wanted to know about the floor, so our MC replied that it was his first challenge here. Then, this viewer called Love Money popped in to warn him that streaming here was risky for beginners, since newbies usually didn't know the right paths. Our boy kept walking carefully, reading the advice, when suddenly, a one-eyed bat came out of nowhere and tried to jump at him. But our boy didn't even flinch. He smacked the thing down with one hit, got a notification for beating the monster, and then turned back to his chat, telling everyone that he doesn't care about what they said. Cold as ice, bro. He kept moving through the dark dungeon, while more comments started flying in. One viewer called White said our boy's reaction time was awesome, but Love Money still told him not to get greedy and to find a team. Our hero thanked them for the tip, but politely turned it down, saying that teaming up just wasn't an option for him. He actually told everyone he preferred to challenge stuff alone, which set off a bunch of sarcastic comments. The viewers started mocking him, thinking there was no way he'd make it on his own and calling him a wannabe, just trying to use the Narukami Subaru name. But our MC ignored their trash talk and focused on the next monster, which popped out fast. A mud merman lunged at him from under the ground. Our protagonist dodged easily and wrecked it with his demon sword, saying he wanted to see how far he could push himself. Another notification popped up, 2 more achievement points, and the chat totally freaked out, not understanding what they'd just seen. But then things got wild. Monster screams echoed everywhere as a whole crew of bats and mud merman showed up. Our boy just went full beast mode, tearing through monsters left and right with his glowing red sword. The viewers couldn't believe what they were seeing. This guy was supposed to be a rookie, but he was mowing monsters down like a pro. Notifications kept popping up about his kills and points, while our hero stood there in the dark, proving he wasn't just some fake, but a real force to watch out for. With the cave pitch black, our hero actually started teaching the viewers how to find enemies just by listening to sounds and noticing how many there were. Chat didn't buy it at all and kept making fun of him, saying he was lying and pretending to know stuff. Some called him a clown for wearing the Narukami Subaru mask, but our MC just touched the mask for a second, thinking that if these people knew what he really was, they'd get what was happening in his head. He kept walking, determined, telling himself he still didn't have enough points and he needed to collect as many as possible before leaving. The viewers stayed salty, dropping comments like a real man rushes forward in silence or asking if he'd even researched the place before coming in. But then, our MC stopped and looked up, and honestly even I got chills. The ceiling of the cave was covered, like totally covered, with huge crowds of one-eyed bats, all opening their red eyes at the same time. The chat started losing it, laughing and waiting for our boy to get wrecked, thinking he was about to die and have to start over. Right then, a new notification came in from a viewer called My Only Stream. They offered Subaru just 100 credits if he could take out all those bats. The rest of the chat called it a mean joke or a straight-up trap, but our protagonist totally shocked everyone. He just accepted the challenge, calm as ever, and thanked the viewer for the 100 credits like it was no big deal. Bro, this dude has nerves of steel. Meanwhile, back at the broadcasting company, Hatsuka's coworker was losing his mind, smashing the table because he couldn't get past the 6th floor. He apologized for making noise, but she was way too focused, glued to her screen. Her coworker asked what was up and why she suddenly got quiet. The workwoman said something was off. The guy panicked, thinking she had caught him gambling again, and started making promises that he'd stop and could pay everything back. But her eyes just got huge. She wasn't talking about gambling at all. She just pointed at her screen whispering, Narukami Subaru. Her coworker freaked out, asking if she was seriously still watching that stream. When he saw what was on her screen, his face went white with fear. Because, on the stream, our MC was going absolutely crazy, spinning through the bats and slashing everything with red arcs from his glowing sword. The chat was full of people screaming, saying there was no way this was a beginner level on the 2nd floor, and some even started to feel sorry for the bats getting destroyed like that. Everyone in the chat was stunned by how many monsters our hero was dropping every second. While fighting, Subaru's mind drifted back to something Shigure had told him long ago. Ashen Hair once said, "Our hero was amazing because he never lost his focus, not even his breathing or his gaze, when he changed his sword's direction mid-strike. He explained it always looked like our boy finished the fight in one blow, but what he actually did was read the enemy's movements and plan ahead. Our MC remembered telling his friend he didn't think what he did was special, which just confused the guy even more. Ashen Hair had grumbled that maybe it would be better if our boy didn't do that stuff by instinct, since it made him annoying. But coming back to the present, our MC was still tearing the bats apart, using everything he'd learned, reading his enemies, keeping eye contact, sending his intent straight out, and not wasting time on every monster when fighting a whole group. Bro, he was a machine. So, yeah, our hero was out there in the dark, mask on, sword blazing, showing everyone exactly why you shouldn't call him a copycat. In the midst of chaos, Subaru cleaned off his bloody sword and told the viewers that these one-eyed bats always attacked the same way, by shoving their heads forward. He explained that when a whole group did this, they left a big gap, so he just jumped in and took advantage. But the chat was having none of it. People complained his explanation made zero sense, and the other just freaked out after they saw his actions in life. Another viewer joked that Subaru's advice was about as useful as saying, if you put your foot forward, you can walk. The poor guy thought to himself that talking with people online was almost harder than fighting monsters. Then, Love Money, the dude who started the last challenge, reminded our hero not to forget about the 100 credits. Our MC totally froze. He finally remembered the reward and started poking at his tablet, but it was obvious the guy had no idea how to accept it. The viewer started freaking out, wondering why our boy had suddenly gone silent and speechless. Is his head going away from keyboard? Nope, he just stared at the screen, looking clueless, and the chat went nuts, roasting him for being a total boomer with technology. Finally, Love Money told him which button to tap, and our MC was so relieved when he finally got the credits that he actually thanked the guy for walking him through it. With his balance up to 150 and 118 achievement points, our boy told his followers that the next challenge would be his last for the day. He marched toward the dungeon's end, feeling pretty good about himself. Meanwhile, things were getting wild back in the office. Hatsuka let out a scream so loud her coworker nearly jumped out of his skin. He wanted to know what the hell happened, but she just pointed at the screen, asking if he'd ever seen anything like this before. The guy tried to keep it cool, saying it was just a second-floor stream, but the workwoman was so hyped, she looked like she might cry. She said she knew she was freaking out, but she had a good reason, and her coworker apologized, getting nervous. The workwoman started going nuts, talking about how maybe, just maybe, this was the real Subaru Narukami, like reincarnated or something. The poor office guy just stared, thinking she always lost her mind whenever our boy was involved. She actually asked him to pinch her, just to make sure she wasn't dreaming. The dude refused, asking if she really wanted to recruit this streamer. Hatsuka didn't even hesitate. She screamed that she would, because even if he wasn't actually Subaru, this guy had some real solo talent. The coworker tried to warn her about the boss getting mad, but she reminded him that he'd been betting just a minute ago, so he wasn't exactly in a position to talk. Then she whipped out her phone, glued her eyes to Subaru's stream, and told her coworker to just wait and see. She was sure she'd be right. Back in the dungeon, our MC reached a huge gate. When he walked through, a massive wolf-like beast sat there waiting for him. This was Greg the Wolf Warrior, and bro, he looked insane, like the final boss's older cousin. The viewers all started freaking out, saying, just looking at the guy's aura felt heavy, and one viewer even admitted he'd failed 8 times trying to beat Greg. A new challenge popped up, saying our hero had to earn the Wolf Warrior's approval to pass. Our MC explained to everyone that Greg wasn't some normal monster. He was a gatekeeper who decided if you were strong enough to move on. Suddenly, a mission from Safe Origin showed up, offering 3,000 credits if Subaru could actually defeat Greg. Subaru's jaw dropped. The chat went wild, calling the person offering that cash straight up evil and saying no way our protagonist was crazy enough to try fighting him. Greg, the big wolf himself, stared sharp as a blade. A system message said Subaru had to win the wolf's approval. That wolf asked our MC if he was alone. Our hero said it should be obvious from looking. The boss sniffed at our boy, saying he had the scent of a real warrior. The viewers in chat started making fun of how weird this all sounded compared to what they'd been told before. Subaru explained in his head that wolf tribe warriors could literally smell your spirit, not just your sweat and old t-shirt. The beast then announced that our protagonist had what it took to pass, and told him the test was over, he could go on. The viewers went wild, saying they didn't expect it to be that easy. But our hero didn't budge. He muttered that none of this had happened in his past life, and honestly, he sounded a little disappointed. He quietly explained his real target was the wolf himself, not just the gate. The gatekeeper looked surprised, asking if he meant to fight him, not just move forward. Our MC stared him down, eyes glowing under his mask, and confirmed it. Someone wanted him to take that wolf out. The wolf bared his teeth in a savage grin, saying this was what he expected from a true warrior. Back at Suiton Entertainment headquarters, things were getting tense. The department manager, John Tail, was typing like a maniac, keeping an eye on all the reports. He snapped, asking for the viewer count on our boy's stream. Seong-hyun, the poor, nervous employee, said there were maybe 20 people watching, but Hatsuka shut that down fast, saying they already passed 30 viewers, but her coworker thinks that difference isn't a big deal. The manager glared at them, sure they were slacking off on the job and gambling, and reminded them that their real job was to search for new talent. The workwoman just ignored his rant, eyes locked on the monitor, mumbling about the viewer count going up. The boss got even madder, screaming that this wasn't the point and that maybe the workwoman should start streaming herself if she liked it so much. Things were getting wild, both in the dungeon and over at the Suiton office. The workwoman suddenly screamed with excitement, cutting off her manager to announce that the viewer count just shot past 40. The boss, who was already losing it, yelled at her to pay attention, but honestly, there was no chance anyone could get her eyes off that screen now. Back in the dungeon, our boy was standing face to face with Greg, the wolf warrior. The beast was ready to tear him apart, growling like he hadn't eaten in days. Our hero grabbed his demon sword, and you could tell he was pumping himself up, telling himself to focus only on the fight and ignore everything else. That demon sword of his started sucking up his energy right away, but the wild thing? The more it took, the stronger and faster our MC got. Subaru kept his cool, tried to slow his breathing, and trusted his level 2 Stake of Avarice skill to fight off the sword's nasty side effects. He told himself to fight like he always did, even if this new body felt a bit weird. The wolf didn't wait. He launched himself at Subaru, claws swinging so hard they tore the ground up. Weapons clashed, sparks shot everywhere, and bro, it sounded brutal. The monster didn't hold back for a second. He came at our MC from every direction, claws flying, and our hero had no choice but to dodge and block over and over. That wolf was just too fast and strong. Our boy could only just keep up. He knew right then that matching this beast in raw strength was a total joke. No way could he win that way. So, our MC started thinking up another plan. The wolf, of course, was full of himself. While he attacked, he shouted that our protagonist had guts, but there was no way he could win. The chat blew up with people saying our hero was doomed. They called his moves too defensive and said the wolf was way too much for him. Some viewers even told him to quit and try again later, and one dude blamed whoever gave out this crazy mission in the first place. Our boy kept retreating, catching his breath, and thinking hard. He knew there were smarter ways to win than just trying to hit harder. Now, the wolf was ready to finish things. He slammed the ground so hard that it exploded in rocks and dust, and said that he would end it. But guess what? Our MC dashed out of the dust like a maniac and told the wolf that, actually, that was his line, not the wolf's. He went on to say the wolf's attacks were so one-sided and predictable that the beast's hand stuck on the cave wall, which left the beast totally stunned. Dodging the wolf's bite and claws like it was nothing, our hero said that avoiding those attacks was pretty easy. He took advantage of the opening and landed a brutal cut right into the wolf's side. The beast howled in pain, and Subaru didn't stop. He followed up with a massive sword strike, splitting the wolf's chest wide open. Blood went everywhere. Whew, that sounded painful, bro. Subaru stood there, sword dripping, all icy and cool. The wolf warrior, with his last breath, admitted our boy was stronger and called him a true warrior, and then he died, just like that. Standing in the middle of that bloody mess, our MC got bombarded with system messages. He cleared the wolf warrior and leveled up twice. His strength and agility both jumped. His focus and magic power rose too. And he bagged 500 achievement points in one shot. The stream chat? People were losing their minds, calling it insane because nobody thought one guy could beat that monster. While our protagonist tried to catch his breath, the viewer count shot up to 56. People started talking about how bold the sender of the impossible mission was, and then he got a notice. 3,000 credits had dropped into his account. The poor guy looked at his phone and said he was definitely going to use that cash well. Now his balance was over 3,000, with 600 achievement points stacked up. The giant gate at the end began to open, creaking like something out of a horror movie. But right then, a weird vibration hit the place. Our boy felt it, and the chat saw it too. Suddenly, a huge system screen popped up, showing a ton of test paths: ice, fire, earth, illusion, poison, metal, soul, water. The list went on. Viewers freaked out because someone in the chat said the record was only 16 options before and that the number you got depended on your talent. Subaru had 13. That's not bad, bro. Our MC didn't even look at the other options. He locked onto the lightning test, and the system asked if he was sure. The chat went wild, cheering him on, saying lightning was obviously the best choice for him. Our hero didn't hesitate. He answered confidently that, of course, he wanted it. The system confirmed his choice and, just like that, Subaru stepped into the blinding light. Meanwhile, back in the office, both the employees and the boss are yelling about Subaru's win. She shoved her phone in her co-workers' faces, showing the stream had hit 60 viewers already and was raving about the 13 test paths that popped up. The department manager, on the other hand, was sweating bullets, admitting it was crazy that our hero beat the Wolf Warrior, a monster nobody else had ever beaten. But he tried to play it safe and said that Subaru was still just some beginner on the second floor, and risking money on him now was way too dangerous. Hatsuka, though, she wasn't scared at all. She made a wild bet. If our MC failed to get the lightning element, she and her buddy Song Hyun would work for a fixed salary for 5 years. But if our boy won, the boss had to offer him a contract, no takebacks. Seong Hyun totally panicked, saying he didn't even know our protagonist, and trying to wriggle out of it, but she just covered his mouth so he couldn't ruin things. The boss laughed, not buying that our hero could win. He pointed out that the only person to ever get lightning before was Subaru Narukami himself. The workwoman just grinned, saying nobody would know the outcome until they tried. The manager took the bet, and Hatsuka kept her hand on Song Hyun's mouth, making sure he didn't blow her shot. So, back at the test arena, the system voice boomed out that the lightning test was starting. Our boy suddenly felt some bad vibes, like something dangerous was coming. Before he could even react, someone sprinted in, yelling at him and shoving him out of the way just in time too. A massive explosion rocked the place, with rocks and dirt flying everywhere. When the dust settled, there was a giant white monster just standing there, flexing like he owned the place. The stranger who saved our MC started scolding him, saying he must want to die if he was just going to stand there looking lost. Meanwhile, a system message flashed up, telling everyone to defeat the fragment of the giant. The poor guy was still on his knees, totally stunned, wondering what the hell this monster was doing here. Turns out the viewers were just as confused. This giant was supposed to be from the Circle of Giants, not part of the lightning test. Our MC stared at the thing, heart pounding, and realized, oh crap, this was a boss-class monster. It wasn't even supposed to show up until later. As the giant started gearing up for a fight, our boy wondered if maybe, because he destroyed the Wolf Warrior Greg so fast, the system decided to crank up the difficulty for him. That's what you get for showing off, huh? The giant wasn't going to wait around, though. He swung his huge club and smashed the ground, sending rocks flying everywhere and making the whole place shake. Our protagonist dodged with some slick moves, and while he was doing it, he reminded himself that this thing, for all its size, was actually weaker than Greg the Wolf in pure muscle. The only reason he knew that? Experience, bro. Sometimes it pays to have done your homework. But the stranger wasn't done yelling, telling Subaru not to waste the rescue and to get lost before he got himself wrecked. Our boy just ignored that and decided he needed to wrap this up quickly before anyone else tried to help. He pulled out his demon sword and activated its power. Yeah, the one that eats away at his health in exchange for more strength. To keep from totally wrecking himself, our MC also turned on that level 2 Stake of Avarice skill, which helped fight off the worst effects. The giant tried to stomp him flat, but our hero dodged again and then did something wild. Instead of running away, he sprinted right up the giant's arm, lightning fast. The monster looked totally lost, like he had no idea what had just happened. Suddenly, our protagonist was up in the air, right behind the giant's head. He landed on the big guy's shoulder and just drove his sword in hard, blood spraying everywhere. The beast howled in pain, but all our hero did was glare at him and complain about the noise, like, could this monster not yell so loud? Then, boom! One last move. Our MC finished the giant, telling him to shut up for good. Bloodshot oozed from the giant's neck, and the huge body crashed to the ground. The system popped up a message, defeated fragment of the giant, 4th stage cleared. The stream totally lost it. Nobody could believe he skipped from the 1st to the 4th stage that fast. And the rewards? Bro, insane. Subaru leveled up again, his strength, agility, health, and magic points all ticked higher. The system dropped 4,000 achievement points on him. Plus, he scored 2 rare items, the Heart of the Giant and Thunderclap armor. The comments section exploded. People kept saying it was nuts to get such rewards and clear 4 stages in one shot, just for killing the wolf earlier. Right then, the guy who had been saved by our hero, everyone on stream called them Falcon, came running back, totally out of breath and wide-eyed. He asked what the hell our boy even was. Still in shock, our MC just sheathed his sword, all cool, and told this poor guy they could figure it out just by looking. Our hero hit a pose and said he was the guy who came to beat the giant. The stream, of course, clowned on him for being so mysterious. But things didn't slow down. The scene shifted to a chill village, where our hero took a break at an inn, flopping onto the bed. The chat immediately started demanding he show off the loot he got. Our MC flashed a grin and said he was just as curious, so he opened up his bag. First up was the Heart of the Giant, a rare ring that boosted his health by 2 points and helped with recovery. Our protagonist said he liked the sound of that. Next was the Thunderclap Armor. This thing gave him 5 extra defense, was full of lightning power, and had an active skill that could block bad effects once a day. Subaru put it on, and bro, he looked seriously epic. Suddenly, new missions started flooding in. Someone named Love Narukami Subaru offered 5,000 credits if our hero could show off the lightning skill. And then more, I Am Bald, Mission Villain, Safe Origin, all dropped crazy offers, promising thousands just to see him use lightning. Our MC thanked everyone, saying he'd definitely show them what real lightning looked like. But deep down, our boy was wondering why everyone was so hyped about this lightning move. He started to get a weird feeling that the original Subaru Narukami must have been even more legendary than he thought. Then there was a knock at the door. Our boy told them to come in, while the chat pointed out that someone was probably eavesdropping. The door opened, and in came Falcon, panting, as usual, along with a knight in shiny armor. This poor guy politely introduced the knight as Lord Pellis, the commander of the village knights, and apologized for the delay. He explained how the giants had been attacking a lot lately, so the knights were on high alert every day and night. While the commander spoke seriously with his assistant about keeping the villagers safe, this poor guy said it was super weird to meet a stranger like our hero in these crazy times. Lord Pellis himself thanked our MC, saying he'd heard about him helping the village out when the commander was away. Our boy finally got his flowers. It's about damn time, honestly. Then our hero told Pellis he had just done what anyone would do, even though, inside, he was looking at the commander with respect. He remembered the captain as the wall that always protected this village. The leader got serious, and let everyone know that his team had finally found the giant leader's hideout. He said they were ready to risk everything to corner this monster. Then, dude, the knight actually bowed down in front of our MC, swallowing all his pride just to beg for help to save the village. Subaru watched in silence while his live stream chat went wild, dropping all kinds of mysterious warnings. Some viewers were calling Pellis by name, others shouting for people to stop spoiling what was about to happen. Our boy remembered the way the story used to go, and it hit him. The commander was supposed to die in the next part. That truth stung a little. But he told the knight to look up, with pity and determination in his eyes, and said he'd work with him. You could see relief and hope wash over the leader's face instantly. The guy was actually smiling now. Suddenly, the system popped up, alerting everyone that the 5th stage had started. It was called Survival. Nice name, but honestly, things were about to get anything but nice. The squad set off towards these rough mountains, and our protagonist was scrolling through his tablet, trying to keep up with the chat. There were way more viewers now, and the comments were blasting by so fast he could barely read them. Bro realized that talking to the chat and fighting for your life at the same time was not easy. Then, Pellis suddenly held up his hand and told everyone to stop. He pointed off in the distance, warning the group in a low voice. The enemy was right there. The giant boss was sleeping, lying on the ground, looking like a monster out of a nightmare, with tattoos everywhere and a beard big enough to hide a small child. After that, the knight came up with a plan. He said he'd draw the boss's attention, and our boy should attack from behind to catch him off guard. But our MC stopped him and asked him to wait, because something felt really off. Our hero's eyes got wide. He realized the giant was not alone. And then, bam, the ground shook. Other giants popped out of nowhere. Total ambush. There was now a whole army of giants with creepy pale faces, grinning like they just won the lottery. They surrounded the knights, tight as a trap. The commander froze in shock, and suddenly, one giant grabbed a knight and crushed the poor guy right in his hand. Screams everywhere, blood flying, and that giant just stood there, loving the chaos. Another giant stared coldly at another knight, smiling widely, giving extreme trauma. That was nightmare fuel, bro. Panic spread like wildfire. One knight tried to order a retreat, but nobody was listening, and the whole group started running in every direction. The giants just went berserk. It was a massacre, and our MC was right in the middle of it. One knight got caught, and his brother started screaming in horror, begging the giant to stop. His friends tried to hold him back, but he ran forward anyway, desperate to save his big bro. It was hopeless. The older brother got crushed, and the battlefield turned into straight-up hell. Through the chaos, Pelus started yelling at the soldiers, ordering them to retreat right now. He told them this was not up for debate, and pushed them to remember their families and the village that needed them. He promised it wasn't the end. They'd regroup and fight again. The soldiers finally listened and ran for their lives into the forest. The knight shouted at his assistant, Falcon, telling him to lead the survivors and make sure everyone got away safely. Then the commander turned to our hero and told him to run too, begging him to stay alive so they could rebuild and fight another day. But our boy just drew his sword, which started glowing red, and told the guy that this line was actually his. Our protagonist started walking straight toward the giants, totally calm, going the opposite way of everyone else. The leader just stared, thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? Our boy stopped and told the knight he couldn't fight properly with him around. He gave the commander a choice, leave now or stay and die together. The guy freaked out at first, saying he couldn't just run away and leave some stranger behind, but our protagonist shut him down, telling him not to make him repeat himself. Finally, the leader gave in, voice shaking, promising he'd go gather the rest of the men and begging our hero to hold on until they got back. He shouted that he owed Subaru his life and hoped he'd stay safe. Now it was just our MC, alone against all the giants. They came at him with their giant creepy faces and massive bodies, but our hero charged right in, sword ready. He told them, in the chillest voice ever, that he was their opponent now. Then he started moving like a bolt of lightning, zooming around their feet and landing perfect hits. 2 giants fell fast, and the system let him know right away that he'd scored some big points. But while he was fighting, our protagonist was thinking that even if this was just a test, being the one left behind to sacrifice himself was something he would never get used to. Meanwhile, Pilas stopped running and looked back, sweating and torn up with regret for leaving our hero alone. The sight behind him was straight out of a nightmare, giants everywhere, closing in on our boy, while the chat exploded with people freaking out that this was suicide. Viewers kept saying there were too many giants, and being a hero wasn't going to be enough this time. But our boy was thinking differently. He remembered that the knight was supposed to die here. With his new power, maybe he could save everyone and change that fate. Our MC was about to go all in. 2 giants came to our MC at the same time, but the poor guy was ready. With one smooth move, he sliced right through one of them, and the system quickly let him know that he got the points for the kill. He kept fighting, moving like a tornado between the giants. While warning, screens popped up telling him that using the cursed demon sword was draining his stamina fast. But hey, at least all his stats were going up like crazy. Not bad, right? Our boy kept cutting down giants all around him, thinking to himself that fighting them one by one wasn't actually that hard. The real problem, though, was how long he could keep using this sword before his body totally gave out. Yeah, that was pretty scary. So, he decided to mix things up. He wanted a better look at the battlefield and needed to find the boss. Fast. So, our guy started jumping, like really jumping, using the giants as stepping stones to launch himself up. He started slicing the giants from above, moving with insane speed and even smashing one giant's head with a kick. The chat was blowing up, freaking out about his crazy aerial fighting style, and people were saying this was classic Narukami Subaru stuff. While he was in the middle of this madness, the Wedge of Greed skill was working hard, fighting off the cursed sword's side effects. Our hero could actually feel his health and mental energy coming back. He had to admit, having good gear made a real difference in a fight like this. But there were way too many giants, and there was no end in sight. Our hero knew what he had to do now. He needed to take down the big boss before his body hit its limit. That's when the giant boss finally showed up, looking like the final boss from a horror movie, grinning like he wanted to eat someone. The monster raised his giant club, ready to smash everything, and honestly, our boy looked tiny in front of him. But our MC just ran at him, full of confidence. He knew this was it. If he didn't finish the fight in one big blow, he was toast. So, he gathered every bit of strength he had and charged, activating his shield skill, Lightning Bolt, and hoping for the best. Thunder exploded everywhere, and a massive golden lightning bolt hit the ground, lighting up the whole place. The shock stunned all the other giants, giving Subaru a perfect chance. He launched himself from the sky, straight at the boss, who was still reeling after getting zapped. The boss roared in pain and started yelling about humans, but Subaru didn't care. He stabbed his cursed sword right into the boss's head, pushing through, even though he could feel the sword sucking the life out of him. Finally, the big boss crashed to the ground, totally dead. Then the system went wild. It told Subaru he had beaten the giant seed and cleared the 5th stage, called it a fantastic achievement and everything. More messages followed, letting him know he leveled up twice and got a boost in strength, agility, vitality, and magic. The live stream chat was losing its mind, asking if anyone had ever beaten this boss before. Someone answered that no one had ever done it, and the test wasn't even meant to be cleared this way. Basically, our hero just opened a brand new path. But dude, reality was way rougher than he wanted. Subaru looked at his tired body and felt annoyed. He had hoped to end the fight with some super cool, comic book style move, but in real life, you don't always get to look cool. The clouds above started to break up, and the battlefield atmosphere shifted. The other giants seemed totally confused now that their boss was gone. Our protagonist landed, totally out of breath, and realized something brutal. His skill, the Wedge of Greed, couldn't block all the cursed sword's bad effects this time. Even worse, the monsters didn't disappear just because he cleared the stage. The rules said they were supposed to stay until the test's time limit expired. So now he was almost out of power, and the giants were starting to stare at him again, all with creepy smiles. Bro was in deep trouble. He had no energy left, and the giants were closing in. They were ready to tear him apart, and there was nothing he could do. Then, just as one of the giants was about to crush the poor guy, a black and gold lightning bolt shot down from the sky, slamming right into our hero. The place exploded with energy. Meanwhile, in another place far away, there is a quiet wooden cabin he saw jump to somewhere totally different. A quiet wooden cabin in the forest. A woman was sitting outside, chilling in the sunshine. Shigure came out and asked her why she was sitting out there. She said the weather was great, and she just wanted to enjoy the fresh air. She told him that enjoying moments like this was all they could do now. Ashen Hair looked out seriously, agreeing with her, and saying that time was almost up. They only had 1 year left, max. His face turned even more serious as he said it was finally time to wrap everything up. This guy noticed the woman, Rina, was totally distracted by her phone, like she always got when things got tense. He asked what she was looking at. She showed him her screen saying, "Look at this." She was watching a guy in a mask calling himself Narukami Subaru. Shigure's eyes went wide and he blurted out Subaru's name, but this lady jumped in with a cold voice, saying there was no way that was the Our MC they knew. She explained, while showing the live stream, that it was just some random streamer using the name taking the second floor test. This man stared at the moves on screen, totally stunned. Rina told him seriously that if our hero had really survived all that, Kazuki would have been long gone from the tower by now. Ashen Hair asked her what she meant. She looked sharp and sad, saying our protagonist was dead and this dude needed to accept it. This man tried to end the talk and leave, tired and upset, but this woman called out, asking how long he was going to keep living in the shadow of that boy. He shot back, asking her why she was watching the stream if she believed Subaru was gone. This lady just said she was bored and needed something to do. Then, suddenly, she froze. Her eyes went wide as she stared at the phone, surprising this guy, who saw her reaction. He looked at the screen, and his jaw dropped. He muttered in shock, not believing what he was seeing. And that's where things got really interesting, bro. Back to our MC, things went absolutely wild on the battlefield. Out of nowhere, a giant explosion of golden lightning ripped through the place, blasting the giants all over the field. When the smoke cleared, there was our hero, standing right in the middle of the chaos. He looked insane, glowing with electricity and red eyes, while a system message popped up. Our boy had just unlocked the legendary Thunder skill. Our hero stood there in shock, thinking to himself that this spot was never supposed to be where you learned that skill. He saw that he got a whopping 2,000 achievement points, and the system was asking if he wanted to keep going with the test or leave. The chat was buzzing, saying beating the giant boss must have been the secret trigger. Our MC checked the Thunder skill info. It was rank A+ and super strong, but it would eat up his health and magic every time he used it. Not exactly a free win, huh? While the giants were getting themselves together for round 2, our MC took a second to thank God for not dying. Messages started rolling in, quests completed, massive donations from fans, thousands of credits pouring into his account. So, our hero thanked everyone, because you gotta show respect when your wallet just blew up. He remembered he owed the fans a good show in return for all that cash, so he got ready to jump back into the fight. That's when the giants started roaring again, charging at him even harder. Subaru decided to give the viewers something crazy. He dropped all 20,000 credits at once to power up his Wedge of Greed skill. The system dinged again, saying Wedge of Greed was now level 3 and could handle the wild backlash from the thunder. Not bad, but our MC wasn't about to go full maniac. He played it smart. He only channeled the lightning through his right hand, keeping things under control for now. Once he was sure he could handle it, he dashed at the giants, sword in hand, moving way too fast for normal eyes. The demon's sword in his grip started crackling with dangerous, destructive energy. He raised his sword high, telling everyone it was finally time to let loose, just like the good old days. Then he slammed the blade down with so much force that a massive red and lightning rift tore right through the enemy group. Giants were torn apart. Our boy was left standing there, breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face. He cursed himself for overdoing it, realizing too late that he had nothing left for the trip back. Bro, classic our hero moment. Awesome, also a little dumb. All around him were giant bodies. He could barely stay upright, only managing to stand by kneeling on his sword. Suddenly, a bunch of armored knights ran up. Commander Pilu saw our hero start to fall, freaked out hard, and screamed for the savior. The poor guy was so out of it he was just gasping for air. Watching the knight run to him with panic in his eyes, our MC muttered to himself that the leader was a real fool for coming all this way just to help him. But as he started to collapse, the commander reached out and caught him just before he hit the ground. Dude, talk about a close call. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Hatsuka was glued to her phone, practically shaking with nerves. Her manager and her coworker, Seong-hyun, stood behind her, both looking totally confused. The employee asked if all this drama was even worth it, but the boss just said not to ask him about women's feelings because he honestly had no clue. This lady looked like she was about to explode, burying her face in her hands and whispering that this whole situation was a total disaster. Her face was turning so red, it was almost cartoonish. She started freaking out about the message she sent our protagonist, worrying it was way too cold and boring. She got mad at herself for not adding cute stuff or emojis, thinking he would just see it as some lame business note. The dude teased her, asking if she was in love with this guy or what. Hatsuka denies it, shouting that it was only business, nothing else. But deep down, the real problem was something else. Suddenly, she let out a huge scream, admitting that she was actually a superfan before she ever thought about being his manager. She couldn't stop herself from getting nervous around him. The manager tried to calm her down, but then he remembered the Thunder skill, that legendary move that only Subaru Narukami ever had. The woman jumped in, saying that now it wasn't just him, it was plural, meaning someone else had the skill too. Her coworker was just happy they still had their jobs after all the madness. The manager started thinking hard, saying it made sense. No one else had ever learned that skill before, and this new player deserved to be watched very closely. Suddenly, Seong-hyun's phone buzzed. She screamed with happiness, announcing that Subaru Narukami actually read their email. But then her whole face froze. He read it, but didn't reply at all. Oof. The other two just stared at her, totally feeling bad for her awkwardness. Elsewhere, in a high-tech studio, a new player entered the chat. This guy was Hawkeye, a super famous streamer who broke down player fights like a pro. He had his setup ready, reviewing highlight clips and throwing down sharp takes on all the top tower climbers. He pointed out Kurokawa Amon, a rising star in Kazuki's Blue Zone Guild, and even mentioned our archenemy himself, who everyone knew used to be in Blue Eyes. But today, this broadcaster said the big focus was the legend, Subaru Narukami. He told his followers that, no matter what people said, the lightning skill was something only he could really own. The stream went live, and he welcomed his viewers, saying they were about to dive into the most insane player around. He pulled up our hero's latest fights and asked everyone not to judge too soon. But, bro, even this creator was shocked. He started sweating as he watched, whispering that this player's focus was off the charts. He explained that our boy just picked up the Thunder skill, but was already using it like a genius, with control that most people could only dream of. Every move was perfect. No wasted energy, no mistakes. This streamer just stared at the screen, asking where the hell this monster even came from. He told his chat that most of them didn't even get how legendary the stuff on screen really was. And that's where things stood. Our MC made history, and everyone, from fans to haters to pro analysts, couldn't believe what they just saw. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the pro analyst dude, this guy was sitting in his studio, looking all serious, and told everyone watching that this new boy, yeah, our hero, was definitely going to be famous. Hawkeye said he was going to keep his eyes on him from now on. But right before he turned off his stream, he got all dramatic, his eyes shining, and claimed that, when it came to skill and control, this new player might actually be even better than the Subaru Narukami from back in the day. Bro, that's some wild praise. Switch scenes. Our MC woke up on his bed in the tower's break room, breathing heavy, like he had just finished a marathon. The system popped up some messages, announcing that Stage 6 was ready, and all his physical exhaustion was gone. But even with a fresh body, our boy thought his brain still felt totally fried, so he decided to hit pause on the next round. He grabbed his device and thanked everyone for watching his stream. Surprised to see he had 742 viewers, he was just wondering when that number got so high. Our protagonist apologized to his fans, telling them he was taking a day off and would be back streaming the day after tomorrow. The system confirmed he ended his live, and then he walked out. He made his way to the waiting area, checking his phone as he went. There was a message from Hatsuka at Suiten Entertainment, thanking him for his time and telling him to check his inbox. She said her company supported streamers and could get them the best profits. Our boy squinted at the phone, thinking maybe this was just some random spam. The name Sutin Entertainment sounded weird to him. Next thing, we got Subaru chilling at a fancy cafe, drinking coffee and scrolling his phone. He started searching for info on Sutin Entertainment and found out that it was actually a huge company, running tons of streamer channels and throwing down big cash to support them. Our MC just sat there, amazed at how much the world had changed. Like, now there were entire companies just to help gamers stream for cash. Our protagonist realized that Sutin was a serious top industry player in the entertainment game. While reading, he saw that the chat was still blowing up about the streamer's take on his skills. People were arguing like crazy. Some thought he was Hawkeye's next big star, others weren't buying it, saying a newbie couldn't be better than the old our hero, and a few started accusing the creator of being biased towards Sutin. Our boy realized this dude actually worked with Sutin while reading all that chaos. That made our MC blush a little, but he felt happy about it, thinking, this guy really did have an eye for talent. Meanwhile, outside the cafe, there was Isaac, the rich punk who always had beef with Subaru. This asshole was gripping his phone, scowling as he read Hawkeye's words about the new our boy possibly being even better than the legend himself. This smug was fuming, thinking our MC was just a nobody who barely made it to the second floor. He cursed the streamer and said he'd gouge the guy's eyes out once he finished this zone himself. Isaac shoved open the cafe door, grumbling that his day was pure trash, but then he spotted our protagonist sitting inside. Of course, he got all sarcastic, wondering if he was cursed since our hero kept popping up everywhere. This bastard strutted over, acting like a total jerk. He slammed right into Subaru's table on purpose, knocking hot coffee all over our hero's clothes. Our boy jumped up, burning from the heat. This idiot acted fake nice, saying it was his bad, and then fake surprise at seeing our MC. He kept taunting, saying they kept running into each other, and joked that the second floor was way too small. Then he tried to buy our protagonist another coffee, but made it clear he thought our hero was broke and should feel grateful for anything at all. But Subaru? He just ignored him and started to leave. This dumbface didn't like that at all. He yelled at our boy to stop, and when our MC turned and gave him a cold, dead-eyed stare, this bastard got super mad. This fool called our boy scum, grabbed him by the collar, pulled him close, and threatened to beat him down, saying he'd crush that attitude just like in the old days. But our protagonist just stayed chill, told him he didn't have time for his nonsense, and grabbed this asshole's hand, yanking it off his shirt. Our boy squeezed hard enough to make this smug face twist in pain. Guess someone didn't expect our hero to be that strong now. Our hero told him to consider it payment for the spilled coffee, thanked him for the treat, and just walked away. Bro, that was ice cold. Isaac totally lost it, screaming at Subaru to come back as our hero just left the cafe. This smug nearly exploded, saying he only wanted to climb the tower in peace for once. Then he started muttering to himself, furious about both Narukami Subaru and Hosoi Subaru, saying they both drove him up the wall. On the other side, our protagonist looked at his tablet and remembered something important. He pulled out his phone and sent a message. Far away, Atsuka was chilling in her bathtub with her rubber duck when she got a surprise message from our boy. He promised they'd meet soon, and you could tell it got her all hyped. Back to the action, Subaru headed into a creepy, wet dungeon called the Exiled Lizardman's Hideout. The place was full of monster corpses lying in nasty water. Our boy walked into the boss's room with his sword glowing and ready for a big fight. The system let him know that his Wedge of Greed skill was holding back the cursed sword's wild energy, while our hero told himself he was finally getting used to this new body. Suddenly, the boss showed up, a giant fire salamander monster, shrieking so loud the walls shook. Our MC decided to play it smart this time, testing out his thunder ability to see just how much power he could handle without another accident. He started charging his energy, focusing on pushing his max output higher. For a second, it looked like the old Subaru and his new self overlapped, like a ghost from the past. And that's where our MC stood, about to throw down with another boss, smarter, stronger, and ready to show the world what he could really do. Then, he was standing in the nasty, dark boss room, sword ready and glowing with thunder energy. Lightning started to twist all around his blade, making the cursed sword even scarier than usual. Our hero didn't waste any time. He jumped forward with some insane speed, basically flying right through the fire and smoke, smashing into the monster's attack like a real beast. The system started freaking out, throwing up red warnings that his Wedge of Greed skill couldn't handle the full recoil from all that thunder power. But hey, the skill leveled up a bit anyway, so something good came out of it. Even when his whole body screamed in pain, our boy just kept going and, with one huge swing, sliced the salamander boss clean in half. There was a giant explosion and a ton of energy everywhere. Ding, ding, ding. The system dropped some good news. Dungeon cleared. Level up. More strength, vitality, and magic points for our MC. Subaru dragged himself out of that dark swamp, heading back into the forest. He checked his stats and noticed the stamina drain actually wasn't as bad as he thought. The fatigue number was at 61, so he figured he could push his energy output higher next time and survive. But he still felt a little bit nervous, probably because it looked way too easy. Then he glanced at the upgrade cost for the Wedge of Greed skill and nearly had a heart attack. The system wanted 40,000 credits just for the next level, and every level up after that would take double the points. That was brutal. Our MC just sighed, wishing for a miracle or maybe a rich sponsor to drop out of the sky and solve his money problems. But of course, instead of a sponsor, someone else showed up. Subaru suddenly felt someone nearby and stopped. He turned around and, what a surprise, not really. It was Isaac, coming out of the trees with that annoying grin. Ah shit, here we go again. This guy asked if our hero was off to go monster hunting, but you could tell he wasn't here for small talk. He walked over with way too much confidence, saying that even though they'd known each other a long time, our protagonist still managed to surprise him. Our MC just looked at him with that cold face, thinking this guy was way too stubborn and seriously annoying. This bastard admitted he'd thought about things for a while, but he just couldn't hold back his anger anymore. So, he decided it was time to settle things right here. Our MC? He didn't look scared at all. He just smirked and acted like this was the least interesting thing that happened to him all week. Meanwhile, somewhere in the city at night, Hawkeye was strolling along the street and went into his usual cafe. As he came in, someone called his name. He turned and saw the suit and company manager sitting behind him, saying he'd finally tracked this guy down. They sat together, and the streamer said it had been a while since they last met. The manager asked how live streaming was going these days. This guy explained that the viewer numbers were steady, since it was mostly the same faces every time. The manager took a sip of coffee and said slow growth was the healthiest and most stable way to grow an audience. This dude put his coffee down and asked what the real reason for this meeting was. Nobody just shows up out of nowhere for tea. The manager got serious and said he wanted to talk about Narukami Subaru, the rookie Hawkeye reviewed yesterday. He asked if this guy really meant all that praise. This streamer didn't hesitate. He said with confidence that this rookie had more raw talent than the original Narukami Subaru at his peak. But, with one sharp look and that weird glowing eye, he explained that having talent and actually climbing the tower to those crazy heights were two totally different things. The manager smiled, saying this dude's honesty was exactly what he needed. He then revealed that he wanted to recruit our MC for the agency. This creator laughed, calling his boss smart, but warned him that our hero's view count and popularity were still teeny tiny for a huge company like Soughton. The manager just put his cup down and told him that hearing this guy's confidence was all the proof he needed. He planned to do a joint stream, Hawkeye and Subaru together, to boost our protagonist's numbers and get his name out there. The manager grinned, saying only the two of them knew about this secret strategy. Anyway, back in the dark forest, Subaru was locked in a stare-down with Isaac. This asshole started mocking him, saying that surviving the dungeon was just dumb luck and that maybe our protagonist had just run away before getting hurt. He looked at our boy with that classic "I'm better than you" look and warned him not to start thinking he was the real Narukami Subaru or dreaming about learning thunder. Skills. This bastard's anger started boiling over as he spat out some curses about Narukami Subaru, then grabbed our poor guy by the shoulder like he wanted to rip his arm off. He said if our hero were dead, he should just stay dead and rot in his grave. This smug's eyes went red with fury as he said that everyone named Subaru somehow knew how to make him lose his mind. Subaru just sighed, kind of sad, thinking about how his own era ended, and now the tower was full of copycats and fakes. So, he decided to just ask Isaac straight up, what was his problem? Was this all just because of his name? Our hero said it was weird to hate a name everyone liked so much. Well, that set this bastard off. He yelled back, asking if our MC was really asking that while knowing who his father was. Our boy just stared at him, totally unimpressed, and wondered what this fool's dad had to do with anything, saying this guy always brought his father up for no reason. This man told him his father's name was Reinhardt. Out of nowhere, the name Reinhardt hit Subaru like a truck. He remembered that man, the high ranker from the 9th floor. People called him the one-strike swordsman. Suddenly, old memories came flooding back. News spreading like wildfire in the tower about an earthling named Narukami Subaru who took down that warrior in one hit. The whole battle lasted less than 30 seconds. Our hero remembered that swordman, bleeding and screaming, trying to keep fighting before he finally fell into a giant crater left by our boy's attack. Wild times, bro. Back in the present, Isaac started screaming like a maniac, calling our protagonist a bastard and telling him never to say that name lightly again. That's when our boy finally pieced things together. This whole grudge was because this dude's dad lost his title to the legendary Subaru, not because of anything our MC actually did. Honestly, that's rough. Imagine living in someone else's shadow your whole life. Our poor guy didn't even ask for this drama. He stood there, glaring at Isaac with a sharp, pissed-off look. Our hero told this bastard straight up that he had no idea how much the real Hosoi Subaru had suffered because of Isaac's dumb grudge. But this smug just freaked out, shouting at our MC to shut up if he was going to talk nonsense. Flames started swirling all around this fool, making him look like a human torch ready to blow up the whole forest. This stupid guy yelled that he was done talking and our protagonist should just hurry up and die already. As the fire got hotter, Isaac screamed that he hated Narukami Subaru so much it made him sick. He kept whining, saying our hero wasn't even a special guy, but he still got all the fame and acted like he was better than everyone. This bastard blamed our boy, claiming that his arrogance is the cause of the deaths of all the blue-eyed members. With a crazy, evil grin, Isaac said that they were already rotting in hell and that this was the punishment they deserved. Then, boom, this idiot hurled a huge fireball straight at our hero, saying that being called our boy was the end of his luck. The fireball exploded with a giant bang, and everything went up in smoke and flames. This dumbface put his hand on his face, pretending to be all sad about losing control of his power, and acted sorry for killing our poor MC like that. He stared at his burning hand and, like a total psycho, decided his next target would be that masked streamer everyone was talking about. But, surprise! A voice called out from inside the fire, asking which masked one Isaac was talking about. This smug spun around, shocked, as the flames split right down the middle. Our protagonist strolled out of the burning mess, not even a scratch on him, holding his mask and asking with a cold tone if this fucking dude meant this mask. This fool jaw basically hit the floor. He couldn't believe it. He started stuttering, saying it was impossible for our boy to survive all that fire. But our hero didn't give him time to think. He dashed forward, slammed his fist into Isaac's stomach to shut him down. He even called Isaac a bratty little kid. Yeah, you deserve it, asshole. After receiving that crazy blow, that poor bastard groaned as if he had just been hit by a truck. Our protagonist forced him to the ground, and this smug screamed in agony, and spitting up blood, and totally confused about how a weak guy could hit this hard. Our hero stood over him, looking down, and hit him with a simple question. Who did Isaac see now? Was it Hosoi Subaru, the one he used to bully and make cry? Or was it the masked streamer, Narukami Subaru? And then, our boy's eyes lit up with that wild blue glow, as he added a third option, Narukami Subaru from the Blue Eyes Guild, the original one. This bastard tried to get up, coughing and shaking, refusing to fall for this. He figured our boy was just admitting to being the streamer. This stupid guy managed to power up again, acting almighty as fire burst from his hands, and said that the thunder skill wasn't that awesome if a loser like our MC could use it. He shaped his hand into a fiery claw and sneered, asking if Subaru really thought he could win at this level. He even bragged that if a weakling learned thunder, then he must be way stronger than the original Narukami Subaru. He charged in, swinging his flaming claw, screaming in our hero's face about how awesome he was. But our hero wasn't having it. Subaru moved like lightning and, in one blink, sliced off Isaac's hand with his sword. Isaac stared at his arm, totally shocked. Subaru walked up to him, cold as ice, and told him his answer was wrong. He said he was amazed at how much garbage Isaac could talk, while being so far from the truth. Suddenly, Isaac froze. He realized something was way off. He remembered our boy's earlier words about suffering because of some stupid family grudge. Our protagonist put his sword to Isaac's throat, and with pure rage, told this dumbface to never talk about his old friends like that again. This fool's eyes went wide with terror, and he muttered in a shaky voice as he finally realized it. The guy standing over him really was Blue Eyes Narukami Subaru. But our hero didn't let him finish. He cut him off, saying playtime was over. With one smooth, deadly move, our boy ended it. This pool staggered, blood spraying everywhere, and our MC told him coldly that he did him a big favor. Then he walked away from the burning battlefield, leaving this stupid guy's broken body behind, and told him to consider this payback for letting our MC take this new body. Yikes, that was savage. The next day, we're in a totally different place, a quiet cafe. One of the workers watched Subaru from a distance, feeling nervous and wondering if he was just some crazy superfan of Narukami Subaru. She scolded herself for thinking that, noticing that our boy seemed to be streaming right now. Meanwhile, our hero sat there planning out his next move as a streamer, thinking that not showing his real face was actually a genius move, since it stopped enemies from finding out who he was. Hatsuka, the manager, finally showed up, blushing hard as she apologized for being late. She introduced herself with a nervous smile, saying she was the manager in charge. Our MC shook her hand and introduced himself as Narukami Subaru. She kept staring at his mask, thinking to herself just how much he looked like the real, legendary Narukami Subaru, and even wondered if maybe, just maybe, he really was back. But she also worried that maybe he was just another fake, hiding his face for a reason. So, here's where things get a little wild for our hero. Hatsuka, the manager, was just sitting there, totally lost in her own anxious thoughts about the meeting. Suddenly, our hero snapped her out of it by asking in a loud voice if anything was wrong. The poor girl practically jumped out of her seat, bro. Right away, her mind flashed back to her boss, yelling at her to give a good first impression and act trustworthy, basically, not to mess up like, well, exactly what she just did. Talk about pressure. While this woman was busy silently screaming inside, our boy broke the silence again, asking if she was a fan of the old Narukami Subaru. She didn't even hesitate. She answered super quickly and with crazy passion, saying she was a mega fan. Our protagonist had to try and chill her out a little, explaining that he wasn't the real guy from back then, and even joked that he was younger than her. But then she surprised our MC by saying she was a big fan of him too, the new version. Turns out, she wasn't joking. Atsuka started rattling off details about his streams, like some kind of pro stalker. She said she was his very first viewer, all the way back when he had 0 people watching. She remembered when he beat the bat, passed Greg's trial, and even picked the lightning path. Our hero honestly couldn't believe how much she remembered. Some of it, he'd even forgotten himself. Our boy found himself smiling under the mask, thinking back to those clueless early days, and even admitted he was impressed that she was there from the start. Atsuka, all fired up, clenched her fist and said she felt like this was fate, bro. That's why she went straight to the company and begged them to let her be his manager. You gotta respect the hustle. She pulled herself together and got all businesslike again, pulling out the contract she prepared. She started summarizing all the details, saying they'd help make clips and ads from his streams to pump up the Narukami name. Our MC, wanting to know what the catch was, asked what he had to do. This lady kept it simple, just keep streaming like he was now. That's all they wanted. Our MC was honestly shocked. He thought, wait, being a streamer is this chill? So this woman explained that it was only like that because he was the first guy to master the lightning skill, and everyone at the company, even the big boss, was totally impressed with him. Our hero kept looking through the contract, then asked if all the managers at the companies were like her. But this lady got it twisted and thought he was asking if the other managers were weird like her. She got all flustered, admitting that everyone else at the company was probably more reliable than her. Our boy had to cut in and clarify that he didn't mean that at all. Then he looked at her more closely and noticed she had a pretty powerful aura, which got him thinking. Was it normal for a regular manager to have that kind of skill level? Meanwhile, this lady was straight up dying inside, thinking she'd blown it. But our protagonist realized something important. The fact that even business managers were this strong meant the enemies he'd fight from now on would be way tougher. No more breaks for our MC. He'd have to keep moving fast. So, there's Hatsuka, sitting at the cafe, her face tomato red from all the nerves, trying so hard to look professional. But she was also freaking out, worried that our boy might reject the deal. It got so bad that she even started thinking maybe she could just force him to sign, which sounded a little nuts. But right then, our MC walked up and held out his hand for a handshake. She got so startled, she actually jumped out of her seat and freaked out, completely losing her cool. Our boy just sat down, calm as ever, and politely asked her to look after him from now on. Hatsuka saw his shining eyes behind the mask, and instead of being professional, she basically lost it. She grabbed his hand and started crying and yelling that she should be the one asking him that. Man, what a scene. He instantly had 703 viewers. Messages started blowing up the chat, people welcoming him and asking questions about the mask. Our boy noticed right away that he was drawing way more people than usual. He realized it was thanks to all the advertising and pre-promotion Hatsuka had done. Not wasting any time, he picked up his phone and got serious, announcing that the 6th stage was starting, and this one was called The Legend. Big moves, bro. Then the story jumped to a dark, rainy night in the middle of a gloomy forest camp. Rain hammered down on tents and piles of weapons. Inside the biggest tent, a bunch of armored knights were gathered around a planning table. Commander Pellas suddenly spoke up, wanting to know where their savior was. One of the knights wasn't buying it. He straight up doubted that a random stranger could beat the giant boss alone, and said maybe this guy had been fooled or maybe the monster wasn't even the real leader, just some weakling. Well, Pellas wasn't having any of that. He got mad and yelled at his men for talking smack about the guy who saved him. Just then, the tent flap opened, and our protagonist walked in with the commander's aide, who said with a grin that their savior was awake and here. The captain rushed over, super grateful, and told everyone that thanks to our MC, he could walk normally again. But the other knights weren't convinced. They watched our hero with major side-eye, whispering about how he didn't look strong and that his mask was pretty sus. Our protagonist totally noticed all their dirty looks and icy attitudes. He called them out, cold as ice, saying it seemed like they either didn't believe he really beat the monster, or maybe they just didn't want to believe it was possible. He remembered something, too. Hatsuka had told him she tweaked his microphone so only people watching the stream could hear him, which, honestly, is a pretty sweet trick for boring meetings like this one. But things didn't go smoothly. He got ticked off by how rude the knights were acting, like, hello, he literally saved them, and they were still talking down to him. The chat went wild, clowning on the knights and telling our MC not to take them too lightly. But then this old dude with a gray beard and a super boss vibe, Dale, stepped up. This old knight gave our hero a handshake and did the whole thank you routine. A kind of formality. He told him, all sad, that he'd been protecting the village, but everyone just got trampled. Our boy was like, wait, trampled? He straight up asked if this leader was for real about that. But this old guy just got darker and scarier, saying that it was the work of that monster. Yikes. Then our protagonist stared this old man down, totally serious, and asked if there was really someone out there more dangerous than the giant boss he'd just smacked down. That old knight didn't even hesitate. He just gave a simple yes, and our MC knew things were about to get crazy. Dale started story time, telling this old legend about the real giants. He said the original giants fought the gods, then got sealed away and disappeared from the world. The ones around now? Just weak remnants, like shadows of the real deal. But then this old guy got spooked just talking about the new leader. He said, the one that showed up after our hero killed the last boss was almost as strong as those ancient monsters. Even this old knight looked freaked out, admitting he'd never seen anything like it. The chat exploded. Viewers were losing their minds, asking if this was basically an 8th floor boss and how they were supposed to fight something like that. Subaru didn't flinch though. He just said they had to beat it, plain and simple. This leader shot him a weird grin, kind of mocking how confident Subaru sounded, like he was way too full of himself. The knights started looking pretty nervous, and one of them coldly pointed out that they were only asking our protagonist for help because they had no other options. But honestly, he didn't think anyone could actually pull it off. He said that, yeah, the reason they sounded so hopeless was that none of them had actually seen the monster up close. Suddenly, Pelus jumped in, basically yelling. He started talking about an ancient legend about Millennium Mountain, the highest peak around. He said there was a thing called a fragment of lightning hidden up there, and that Subaru might be the only person who could find it as they were talking about this legend. Then, the day the apocalypse comes, the giants attacked the town, destroying anything in front of it. Fire everywhere, people running and screaming as the giants destroyed everything. In the middle of the burning hell, a giant with long, wild hair and a seriously scary vibe stood there, acting like he owned the place. The giant boss is angry because his son, Paydal, has been killed by the humans. Yeah, that's our MC's doing. He avenges his son by massacring the people. One knight tried to beg, but the giant just snatched him up and crushed him to death, and terrified everyone that he would kill all humans as a sacrifice to his deceased son. Honestly, it was nightmare fuel. High above it all, our boy was watching, his eyes looking sharply from behind his mask. The stream chat blew up even more, going nuts over how huge this monster was, asking if this was what a real giant looked like. So, our hero didn't waste time. He jumped on his horse and took off into the brutal rainstorm, thinking hard about how this test wasn't playing around. It was actually trying to kill them all. Our MC remembered what the knights said earlier. The giants were coming in 3 days, and if he couldn't find the fragment of lightning by then, he should just run for his life. But our protagonist had already made up his mind. He knew he needed that lightning power. Without it, there was no way to beat these giants. They'd all be dead meat. As he rode through the storm, some chats popped up asking if he wanted to retry. Our boy just answered no, totally confident, saying there was no test in this tower he couldn't clear. He didn't even realize he'd just dropped a classic old catchphrase, but the chat noticed right away and started roasting him for being too cocky. While the quests and donations from viewers started rolling in, a random viewer gave a mission. If our body could beat this trial, he would drop 3,000 credits on him. Our hero felt a bit relieved. At least he hadn't completely given himself away by using that famous line. He charged up the mountain with his horse, pushing through the crazy rain and rocks. When he finally got to the foot of Millennium Mountain, he hopped off, looked up, and told himself the lightning fragment had to be somewhere in there. He reached out, touched the cold rocks, and felt just how huge and intimidating the place was. At that point, his memory flashed back to his talk with Pelus. This knight had told him the lightning fragment was something out of legends, but nobody knew what it really was: a weapon, a power, or maybe even a person. The one thing everyone agreed on was this: whoever held the lightning before was the one who wiped out the giants. Meanwhile, back at Hatsuka's place, she was having her own party. She jumped up, screaming that she finally got the contract signed, and her boss called her, laughing and telling her she was finally reliable. This lady was dancing around, totally hyped about the whole thing. Her boss tried to say he wanted to talk about a meeting with Hawkeye soon, but this woman was so pumped she hung up without even listening. Filled with joy, she threw herself on the bed and told herself she deserved to chill and watch the Subaru stream after working so hard. She grabbed her phone, eyes sparkling, and said that watching him on the screen and seeing him in real life was the ultimate otaku dream. On her phone, the stream showed Subaru saying, with that classic confidence, that there was no test in this tower he couldn't clear. First off, Hatsuka was all hyped in her room, but then her eyes went wide. The excitement on her face faded fast when she realized something. Our hero just dropped a super old catchphrase, one that was famous 20 years ago. She started freaking out, thinking there was no way he said that by accident. The doubt started eating at her, and honestly, who could blame her? That was a big clue, and our hero really slipped up there. Back on the mountain, our boy went full maniac mode. He punched the huge rock wall as hard as he could, over and over. The chat blew up, asking if he had finally lost it or just lost all hope. Our MC didn't care though. He kept smashing his fist into that rock, basically telling the mountain to bring it on and see who would break first. He decided right there. He'd fight this thing to the end, no matter how ridiculous it looked. Every punch sent chips of rock flying and made his fist glow with energy. Then, out of nowhere, a giant crack split the wall, and the rock shattered. Our protagonist flashed that cocky grin, telling everyone he finally found what he was looking for. The comments roasted his muscle brain approach, but our boy just thought to himself that nobody watching the stream could really feel how it was in there. And besides, who said punching wasn't the right answer sometimes? Standing in the pouring rain, our MC suddenly felt this insane lightning energy calling to him, like it was trying to wake up the lightning, sleeping inside him. There in front of him was a massive metal door covered in old, weird carvings. It was clear that whatever was behind that door was the source of the power he needed. The stream chat started freaking out about how huge the door was and asking how he'd open it without a key. Our hero just shrugged and decided to do what he does best: smash things. He fired up his Wedge of Greed skill to level 3 so he wouldn't pass out from recoil, then started charging up his fist with black and gold lightning. He got all fired up, feeling like the real fight was waiting inside. That voice of the lightning kept screaming at him, so he focused all his power and threw a monster punch at the gate, basically yelling his answer back. Boom! The explosion was insane. A golden shockwave went everywhere, making the ground shake. The giant doors blasted open, showing a really dark, long hallway inside the mountain. Our protagonist just walked in like he owned the place, confidence off the charts, while the stream chat was still losing its mind about how he never stopped going forward. As soon as he walked in, the system dropped a message on him saying he just entered the path where lightning walks, and by the way, he couldn't leave until he finished the stage, so basically, he was locked in. Meanwhile, back at the Knights camp, the whole room was tense. The big shots were all sitting around trying to figure out if Subaru could really get the lightning or if they were just completely screwed. Pellis, the main guy, looked super chill, sipping his drink and telling everyone that Subaru would totally pull it off. He said anyone who saw what our hero had already done would know there was no reason to doubt. But the other knights were nervous as hell. One guy stood up, sweating like crazy, screaming that it didn't matter if our MC got the lightning or not, because something way worse was coming for all of them, and death was basically guaranteed. Dude was shaking, blood on his thumb from biting it, eyes about to pop out. He started shouting at this leader, saying he had no idea how terrifying that giant monster actually was. Pellis tried to calm him down, saying they couldn't just sit and wait for the end. They had to put their faith in their young hero who was risking everything for them, even though he got nothing out of it. The terrified knight just stared, clearly not buying it. Suddenly, a cup fell off the table, and the ground started shaking like crazy, full-on earthquake vibes. A soldier sprinted in, screaming that the thing had arrived, and the whole tent went dead silent. I mean, talk about bad timing. Back at the mountain, our MC walked deeper into the creepy cave, wondering what this test was even about. Viewers noticed there weren't any monsters or traps, just a weird empty space, and people in the chat started asking what was up with that. Subaru's golden eye glowed. Dude was using his brain now. He realized that lightning was too fast to see, and before a real lightning strike, all you get are electric charges floating everywhere. so it actually made sense not to see anything in there. He closed his eyes, finally getting the true meaning of this path where lightning walks. He could feel the super strong lightning energy calling him from somewhere deep inside. Suddenly, our protagonist picked up a rock and chucked it down the cave. The chat went wild, trying to guess what he was up to. Our hero explained in his head that you couldn't see the lightning because it was everywhere in the air, totally invisible. The rock he threw started sizzling and falling apart from all the electricity. The more he walked, the crazier the reaction got. Rocks just blew up into dust from electric shocks. Invisible thunderbolts smashed around him, and the chat was freaking out from all the crazy sounds they could hear but not see. Subaru finally understood what was happening. Even though he knew he was in real danger, he mumbled to himself that he had to keep pushing forward, calling the test design straight up nasty. He took off running, realizing this was all about endurance. If he couldn't take it, he'd be toast. As he ran through the hallway, someone donated 100 credits, sarcastically asking what he was scared of. More donations kept rolling in. One dropped 1,000 credits, another suggested he stop because it was dangerous, and a third hyped him up with 2,000 credits. Even in the middle of all that chaos, our boy Subaru remembered to thank his supporters, his eyes shining with determination. Meanwhile, in Ashigura's cabin, we're in this cozy little wooden cabin where this guy was totally chilling out on the sofa. The dude was just relaxing with a pot boiling on the fire. But then, bam, Rina walked in, catching him completely off guard. He freaked out and quickly tried to hide his device like he was hiding some big secret. This woman saw all of this, and you could see the sly grin show up on her face. She asked why he was hiding things, and basically accused him of watching something naughty. This man started mumbling and stuttering, trying to act cool by saying he wasn't hiding anything, and his eyes were just tired. Yeah, nice try, bro. Rina clearly didn't buy any of that. She sat next to him with this teasing attitude, dropping a line about how hair grows faster if you do those things. That made Ashen Hair totally lose it. He screamed at her to stop saying weird stuff. Man, the poor guy looked so done. Then, this lady just started eating a piece of bread, saying she had stopped watching the stream like he asked her. But honestly, she just couldn't help herself. This dude asked what she wanted, still acting all tense, but this woman called him out for being so jumpy and wondered if he didn't want her around. Just then, Subaru's voice started blasting out of Ashen Hair phone, saying he would endure it and do his best. That made this guy panic even more. He yelled at this lady about her annoying teasing, which almost made her ears explode. She covered her ears, complaining about his sudden yelling, while this man scrambled to put his phone on silent and told her not to pay any attention to him. Rina just stared at him, totally weirded out and suspicious, calling him stubborn and a weirdo. After that, she got bored and stood up, saying the whole situation was annoying. This poor dude got desperate and asked her where she was going, basically begging her to stay, and even offering her more bread or a spot to lie down, anything to keep her from leaving and maybe exposing him. But this lady was already done and walked out, slamming the door behind her. Shigure let out this massive sigh of relief, muttering that he almost got caught. Turns out, the guy was watching our boy's live stream the whole time on his tablet. He was talking to himself, saying if Rina found out, she'd lose her mind, and he didn't even want to think about it. Looking at the screen, he got a little sad, thinking that if things had been different, the real Subaru would never have forgotten about his friends like this. On the screen, our protagonist started explaining how deadly the lightning test was. Ashen Hair smiled, noticing how this streamer's personality and way of talking were just like the old Subaru he used to know. But then he grumbled that the only thing different was that the old our boy never cared about collecting credits like some desperate maniac. This guy even laughed a little at how weird this all was. Suddenly everything went dark. A creepy hand landed on Shigure's shoulder. Dude looked like he was about to die of shock. He turned around to find Rina standing behind him with this evil, scary grin, asking if he really thought she didn't notice what he was doing. Her face went full demon mode as she told him it was way too soon for him to try to trick her. Our dude was in big trouble now. Back inside Millennium Mountain, things got way more intense. The system sent a message to our protagonist, telling him to carve the path of lightning. He was sweating like crazy, totally focused, standing right in the middle of an electric storm. Thunderbolts were smashing him, and the lightning started gathering around his whole body. The progress bar on his test showed a tiny 2.3%, which was just depressing. Our boy stretched out his hand, lightning glowing around it, feeling right at home since he'd done this kind of thing a million times in his past life. He managed to endure the electric shock, his eyes flashing behind that mask, but the progress bar barely moved. Now it was at 3.2%. The road was long, and every step made the lightning attacks hurt even more. The chat was blowing up, people asking why he wasn't running or begging him to hurry up and end this pain. But our protagonist was already covered in wounds, his body under crazy pressure, and he had to just ignore the comments. He couldn't even read them anymore. He was in survival mode now. Our hero told himself that just finishing the test wasn't good enough for him. He wanted something way bigger. He was aiming for a goal way higher than just surviving. Lightning energy was glowing all around him as he resolved to go for something legendary. Meanwhile, in the mysterious room, Hawkeye was sitting in front of a bunch of screens, watching Subaru's stream. He remembered his talk with President John, who wanted him to team up with Narukami Subaru. This dude was thinking about how rare it was for this guy to manage things himself. This leader had given him this classic lecture, saying that in the world of entertainment, hard work was only half of it. The other half was about status and how people see you. This streamer got cocky, throwing out that it was all about who are your connections and what most people are looking for right now. But this president pointed out that our MC's streams didn't look like normal beginner stuff. They looked like the vlogs of pros who'd been at it for years. He encouraged this guy to just do his usual commentary, saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime shot and he needed to jump on it. Hawkeye started getting fired up, thinking about how he could become a superstar right alongside our protagonist. He admitted that he became a streamer and quit from climbing the tower because he wasn't good enough. Inside, he was just screaming to be better than everyone else. He pictured the night sky full of stars, always wishing he could be one of them, reaching out and wondering if he could ever become a legend himself. Suddenly, he totally freaked out, screaming so loud it looked like he was going to fall out of his chair. His eyes bugged out of his head and sweat poured down his face. The dude just couldn't believe what he was seeing. Subaru do. He even yelled out, asking if this guy was actually sane. Honestly, I get it. What our boy did next was next level nuts. Inside the cave, our hero was getting absolutely roasted by lightning. He started screaming in pain, and the whole place looked like some kind of hell. Blood was dripping down his face as he staggered forward, lightning just hammering him non-stop. But the poor guy stomped his foot hard on the ground and refused to go down. He was stubborn as hell, still moving forward even when it looked like he might drop dead at any second. Right then, he figured out what this test was really about. The stronger the lightning, the deeper it hit inside his body. And, bro, the amount of energy blasting him was nuts. But our MC decided that was exactly what he needed for his crazy plan. Suddenly, blue energy lines started to glow inside his body. The system popped up a message about some tiny micro-meridians in his body, those little channels even in his heart, finally filling up with lightning. Our protagonist watched the progress bar shoot up to 20.7%, and a glowing map of his body appeared, showing all the energy flowing inside. The system told him that the micro-meridians were being activated and lightning was settling in, which made his magic go up by 1 point. Our boy clenched his glowing fist and told himself he was going to master this power, no matter what. He reminded himself that the Ren and Du channels were the main roads in the body, and the micro-meridians were like all the little side streets connecting everything together. He kept pushing forward in the middle of the storm, the energy now filling every corner of his body. He realized the original Hosoi Subaru's body had never gone through this purification before. So, our MC was now basically forcing a shortcut with a lightning-powered cleanse, which led to the system slapping him with a nasty new status called Electric Shock. Usually, people do this slowly and carefully with their own magic, but our boy was just letting lightning do it for him. It made things way faster, sure, but the pain was absolutely insane. Our hero could barely stand, his whole body shaking, blood splattering on the ground. He was getting shocked so hard, I don't know how he stayed conscious. Meanwhile, in her room, Hatsuka was glued to her phone, staring at the live stream. Her eyes went wide when she finally got what our boy was trying to do. She started muttering to herself, saying he was actually trying to open his micro-meridians in a place like this, and in the craziest, most suicidal way possible. She put a hand on her head, freaking out, and realized the pain he must be going through was way beyond what normal people could take. Most people would have just fainted a dozen times by now. Even if losing here didn't kill you in real life, she knew the pain felt 100% real to our protagonist. She bit her lip, super anxious, and wondered why anyone would go this far just to get stronger. Back in the storm, the system said our MC's progress hit over 50.3%, but it was obvious he was barely hanging on. His foot moved forward, but it looked like every step took everything he had. The pain was so bad that it started messing with his head. That's when he started blaming himself, mumbling that he was the one who caused everything bad to happen, that it was all his fault. His friends died. The cave faded away, and suddenly our hero was in a memory, standing in a wild snowstorm in front of his old teammates. He remembered bragging to them, full of confidence, saying there was no test he couldn't beat. He saw all of his old friends, trusting him completely. He remembered telling them not to worry, that he'd win no matter what. But then, the memories overlapped with the real pain. Our protagonist started beating himself up for what happened, convinced that his big mouth and arrogance got everyone killed. If he hadn't been so full of himself, maybe none of that tragedy would have ever happened. Suddenly, Kazuki showed up in his mind, face covered in blood, wearing this nasty smirk. The bastard started mocking him hard, saying they all failed because our MC was too arrogant and thought he was a big shot. That just broke our boy, and he screamed in the storm, lightning all around him, finally admitting that everything was his fault. He collapsed, totally spent, reaching out with his shaking hand. His guilt just kept torturing him, those memories crashing in over and over. Then, just like that, everything changed. Our hero found himself standing in a sunny green field under a perfect blue sky. He looked around, confused, a gentle wind blowing his hair. Off in the distance, he spotted his old friends sitting together under a huge tree. His jaw dropped, and he ran toward them as fast as he could, full of hope. He thought maybe all the terrible stuff was just a nightmare. When he reached them, he put his hand on one friend's shoulder, smiling, with tears in his eyes, and told himself this had to be the real world. He wanted so badly for that nightmare to be over, and he tried to tell his friends all about the awful dream he had just had. Well, that dream turned into a nightmare real quick. One of his buddies called out his name, acting all friendly for half a second, but then boom! Their face twisted into something out of a horror movie, screaming that our boy was the reason they all died. Yeah, imagine your dead friends blaming you to your face. Brutal stuff. Another one of them cried that he never wanted to die in the first place. Our MC totally freaked out, just backed away, calling their names with his voice shaking, not believing what he was seeing. And then Chino showed up, the poor girl's body all torn up, looking like something straight out of hell. She started laying into him, scolding our MC for all the big speeches he always made, then asked with so much pain, bro, why he couldn't protect them when it actually mattered. Subaru just stared at her, shocked, whispering her name like he couldn't believe any of this was real. The whole place just morphed into a nightmare, flames everywhere, dead friends surrounding him, everyone screaming and begging for help. Their cries were desperate, full of fear, telling him over and over that they didn't want to die, begging for someone, anyone, to save them. Our protagonist lost it, bro. He started screaming back, reaching out as the ghosts of his friends drifted away from him, begging them not to leave him behind. But his voice just faded, and he ended up falling to his knees, lost in despair, while the echoes of his begging just vanished into nothing. Then, just like that, the nightmare was over. Our hero snapped back to reality, right inside the test cave, kneeling on the freezing ground, gasping for air with blood dripping from his mouth. He realized, with this messed up, shaky feeling, that it was all just a hallucination. Side effects from that insane process of opening his micro-energy meridians. He'd nearly fried his own brain for real, falling straight into something called chi deviation. Basically, if he'd gone any further, his mind would have been toast. The system window popped up, announcing that the progress for purifying the micromeridians was at 97.87%. It also said the thunder began to be absorbed into his body, and even gave him a bonus magic point. Our boy was not impressed. He just cursed whoever designed this test in his head, because it was honestly next-level torture. Slowly, our MC got back on his feet, the electric storm still raging all around him. He actually thanked the nightmare with heavy sarcasm. Trust me. Because, strange as it was, it reminded him why he kept fighting to stay alive. Sparks of yellow lightning were going crazy around him, and he looked up, just in time to see a phantom of Kazuki smirking at him, looking like his worst enemy had just won the lottery. What a jerk. But let's hit pause for a second because things were getting wild back in the village too. Complete chaos had broken out. Giants and monsters were stampeding through the place, smashing everything. Villagers and knights were running for their lives or trying to fight back, but it was not looking good. And then, this monster of a giant showed up, so huge and terrifying that even the bravest knights nearly wet their armor. A lot of them were ready to give up, thinking the masked hero had bailed and left them to get crushed. One of the knights, voice all shaky, tried to reassure his buddy that their savior would definitely come back. You could tell, though, hope was running thin. That's when Commander Pelus lost it. He yelled at his men, ripping into them for doubting the guy who was fighting for their lives, even if they didn't know his real name. This leader gave them this sharp, disappointed look, pretty much calling them out for not living up to their knightly titles. Dale, the older and way wiser knight, stepped up and put a hand on this guy's shoulder, reminding everyone that before they started blaming outsiders, they needed to remember that the job of protecting the village was theirs, not someone else's. He drew his sword, blue energy blazing, and told everyone that real knights don't hide behind others, they protect people. Then, like an absolute legend, this old knight charged straight into battle, calling his warriors to fight and, if needed, die as real knights. This commander and the rest followed, war cries echoing through the chaos. Back in the test, our protagonist was so close to the finish line, the system said 99% complete, and the yellow lightning was so thick you could barely see him. Suddenly, our hero spotted a glowing golden orb floating right in front of him. He didn't know exactly what it was, but trust me, he could feel it was the end goal. His fatigue was off the charts. His eye was bleeding under the mask, but he forced himself to take one last step. He jumped with everything he had, ignoring the system's red warnings, screaming at him to rest or risk instant death. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, Dale made the first move, smashing his foot into the ground and charging the giant boss. The old guy moved fast, way faster than anyone thought possible, dodging swings and getting up close with his blade. He slashed so quickly that his sword left streaks of blue energy, and the giant howled in pain. He just kept going, cutting into the beast with insane skill. That's when Pellis yelled out, telling this old knight to let him handle it from here. This leader sprinted in, jumped so high it was nuts, and brought his sword down at the giant's weak spot. With a wild burst of energy, this knight landed blow after blow, finally slicing the monster apart. The giant let out one last roar before crashing to the ground, totally defeated. The knights and soldiers went nuts. They screamed with joy, cheering for this leader and this old knight for finally killing the beast. They swarmed the giant's body, stabbing it for good measure, cursing it out, and praising their heroes. Pellis just stood there, breathing hard, thinking the nightmare was finally over. But Dale, looking super serious, told him they weren't done yet, not even close. This guy looked over, totally confused, as this old dude's face filled with worry. The old knight made it clear, the monster they just killed wasn't the real boss after all. The soldiers in the back were already acting as if they had won. These guys were laughing and talking about mopping up the last giants like it was no big deal. One dude even got all hyped about how easy it would be. Well, guess what? The universe did not like that attitude. Out of nowhere, a giant foot came crashing down from the sky and squashed that guy flat, turning the ground into a straight-up blood puddle. Bro, it was brutal. Pellis and Sir Dale just stood there, totally frozen in shock. This old knight started shouting, his voice full of panic, because now he saw the real monster had finally arrived. This leader was shaking like crazy and warned everyone that this giant was on a whole different level, nothing like anything they'd fought before. Honestly, our heroes were in deep trouble. Meanwhile, inside the lightning test, Subaru was so close to the end that the progress bar said 99.99%. He reached out his hand through that wild golden storm, grabbed the energy ball, and you could see the anger in his eyes. He promised, right then and there, he had to drag them straight to hell. The system popped up and yelled that he was at 100% now. Our MC stood there, surrounded by this insane aura, and sent a threat to Kazuki, swearing he would take his head as a trophy. Then boom, golden lightning exploded everywhere, lighting up everything. Our hero was left gasping for air, whispering to himself that it was finally finished. The system started spitting out notifications. The pulse penetration is completed, his magic was 20% stronger and faster, and all his stats went up too. The poor guy started complaining, saying if he'd taken even one more hit, he'd be dead, and then yelled at the system for not warning him about that. He just flopped onto his back on the broken ground, totally out of energy, while the system announced he cleared the 6th stage, the legend. Back at the Soughton Company office, the big boss was staring at his screen, looking super worried. He muttered that Subaru was pushing himself way too hard and that, honestly, this kid might not be cut out for streaming. Suddenly, his phone rang, and it was Hawkeye. Yeah, that crazy analyst guy. This guy was losing his mind, asking if the manager had seen Narukami's stream and calling our MC insane. The manager tried to get him to chill and explain what was so great about it, but this dude just kept going. He said this kid was going to become a real superstar, both as a player and a streamer. This streamer leaned back and said he always thought the original Narukami was more like a warrior than a content creator anyway. That's what the fans wanted, a new Narukami, as close to the real thing as possible. According to him, the legend was never about streaming, it was about fighting. The manager just sat there, kind of stunned, while Hawkeye got even more hyped. He declared that everyone was watching the rebirth of the legendary player Narukami, live and in real time. On the stream, Subaru started struggling to get up. The viewers were going wild in the chat, freaking out that he was even still alive, let alone moving. Our boy clutched his head, barely standing, and cursed the insane level of tiredness he felt. He checked his status window and saw his fatigue had dropped to 81, which was honestly a miracle at this point. He realized that the more his stats went up, the faster his fatigue went down, so he decided this was not the worst deal, even if that last hit almost killed him. Notifications started rolling in, showing viewers throwing money at him for finishing their missions. When he checked his balance, he was sitting on 20,420 credits, which wasn't too shabby. But then he opened up the skill store and saw that the Wedge of Greed upgrade would cost 40,000 credits. Ouch. The poor guy figured he was way short, but if he could manage to take down that giant outside, he might score enough credits for the upgrade. Our protagonist looked at the glowing golden ball in his hand and realized this thing was his only shot at beating the monster. Just then, the info window popped up, dropping the details. This was the Lightning Spear, a legendary weapon made from ancient lightning, and it could blow something away with one massive hit before vanishing forever. Our hero was honestly shocked. Items this rare usually only showed up on the higher tower floors. He noticed it didn't look like a spear right now, but he reminded himself that top-tier items could change shape under the right conditions. While his chat was busy spamming questions about how he knew all this stuff, our MC just shrugged it off and started walking straight for the cave exit, telling everyone that it was time to take down the big boss. Outside, Pelis was totally losing it. He stared up at the sky, sweating buckets, while this massive dark shape loomed overhead. A giant eye appeared and stared straight at the knights, making Dale almost collapse just from the pressure. The system window popped up, dropping the name of this nightmare. Giant King Grog, the seed that swallowed the thunder. This dude looked like a straight-up demon. One of the warriors snapped, started running away, and laughed like a maniac. This leader screamed after him, confused, but the guy spun around with tears on his face and told everyone they had no idea what they were really up against. He fell to his knees at the giant's foot, begged for mercy, and even called the monster a god. His eye burned with anger and disgust. The giant just glared at him, and he basically told the guy off for bringing him together with such filthy insects. The old knight tried to step in, yanking the soldier up and screaming at him to get it together so he could drag him away. He started barking at everyone to run for their lives, but then he suddenly stopped, eyes wide. Pelis screamed his name right as the giant's hands smashed down into the ground, right on their spot. At that moment, this knight realized something truly awful. There was no chance to win, and there was nowhere to run either. Every single side of the village was circled by an army of giants, closing them in. Surrounded, this poor guy broke down, screaming at the giant that he knew who killed his son and that he would tell the truth, just trying to save his own skin. Man, it was pure panic mode out there. The giant king stopped right in front of Pelis and stared him down with such a scary look that the poor guy could barely breathe. The giant wanted to know who killed his son, and he was not playing around. This knight tried to act tough, but his sword was shaking like a leaf while he pointed it in some random direction, telling the giant that the killer had gone over there to collect power and destroy them all. But even he was praying in his head that the monster would just believe his desperate lie and leave. Well, no luck for our knight. The giant just got closer, his face turning even more terrifying. He basically called out this dude for lying, staring straight into his soul with those glowing eyes. The giant asked if the killer was really here and wanted to know if this leader had just pointed his sword wherever out of pure panic. This poor guy started sweating buckets and could barely talk, feeling like he was about to pass out. Then, boom, something insane happened that interrupted their little talk. Up on the mountain behind them, this terrifying lightning show kicked off. Thunderbolts slammed into the mountaintop and shook the whole ground like a mini earthquake. Both the giant and Pelis whipped their heads around, totally shocked. This knight, looking more desperate than ever, called out to the so-called savior, pretty much begging for someone to help them right now, because things were looking really bad. Way above on the cliff, a huge system message appeared, letting everyone know the 7th stage was starting. Lightning. Subaru was standing there, watching everything. He told himself that this was the last big wall he had to break through. Meanwhile, his viewers were losing their minds in the stream chat, throwing comments like how the monster was way too huge, that this was no normal second-floor test, and honestly, they should all just run for their lives. But our MC's mind was ice cold. He already knew there was no running. This was a fight he had to take. The guy didn't waste time thinking it over. He figured he only needed one good shot to finish this. Our hero looked down at the glowing ball of lightning in his hand. He realized that facing something this massive head-on would be pure suicide. So if he wanted to win, he had to strike first, before the beast could even react. He raised his hand and started charging up the lightning spear. Instantly, sparks exploded around him, and a giant column of golden light blasted into the sky. The energy started gathering, slow and intense. As the activation meter hit 10.1%, our boy's fatigue jumped up to 84, and his body started screaming like he was getting hit by a truck. Even with his level 3 Wedge of Greed skill trying to help, the system popped up to say that resistance had failed, and the skill was barely working. When the charge hit 33%, the pain got way worse. Fatigue climbed to 88, and blood started dripping from Subaru's hand and mask. Our MC realized, not for the first time, that he was still too weak to handle a legendary weapon like this. But what choice did he have? At 50% charge, he just gritted his teeth and kept going while the chat spammed comments about how this was just another round of our hero suffering for his viewers. Down below, the giant finally noticed the giant light show up top. The viewers joked that there was no way the beast could miss it, unless he was blind, and our protagonist had to admit they were totally right. He was basically a giant neon sign now. When the charge hit 78.5%, the giant locked eyes with our hero at the top of the cliff and muttered with pure hate that this was the guy who killed his son. His face twisted into something out of a nightmare, and he started stomping right toward our MC, totally ignoring the knights. Pella screamed after him, still trying to convince the monster that his real enemy was the knights, but honestly, the giant did not care. He marched over everything, smashing trees and rocks, and the villagers realized that the whole army of giants was about to crush them next. With each step, the Giant King talked about his son Padal's pain and how he would make the killer pay back every bit of it. He was burning with revenge, and he sounded like he could explode at any second. Up on the cliff, our boy watched the monster close in while the spear charge climbed to 88.5%. Sparks were flying everywhere, and things were getting out of control. Our MC checked his odds and realized he only had a 50% chance of hitting this thing, and the chat went wild, everyone warning that one mistake and he was dead. Our poor guy pushed everything else out of his head and focused hard on the target. For him, it all came down to this: hit or miss. He remembered a piece of advice from one of his old friends, who used to drill it into his head: never take his eyes off the target. The memory hit him hard, and he could see his comrade giving him tips, telling him that throwing a spear starts with focus, not with thinking about straight lines, curves, or the weight. His friend always said there was no point predicting enemy moves, just lock on and throw. And then he remembered that smile, the one that meant, hey, our hero was never like the other spear throwers. His comrade reminded him exactly who he was: Narukami Subaru. Bro, it was go time, the legend himself. Meanwhile, the Giant King was barreling toward him, moving way faster than anyone would expect from something that huge. Down in the chat, our hero's fans were freaking out, spamming messages, asking what the hell he was waiting for, and yelling for him to throw the spear before he got stomped into the ground. But our MC paid no attention to the noise. He just locked his eyes on the monster, kept himself steady, and thought that he had to wait just a little bit longer. The giant kept coming, looking scarier with every step, but our protagonist did not flinch. He just waited. So chill it actually made people jealous. Finally, the system announced that the charge was at 100%. The preparation was finished. This was it. One shot, no mistakes allowed, or he was toast. The beast was right up in his face now, jaws wide open, ready to chomp down and end it. Our boy made his move. He let the spear fly, and bro, it was not just a throw. It was like a cannon made out of gold lightning. The spear became a huge beam, blasting right through the giant's head with so much power that the whole mountain shook. There was this enormous explosion. Sparks and energy went everywhere like fireworks on steroids. In his last seconds, the giant's eye went wide with shock, and he whispered his son's name, Vidal, as he realized he was finished. After the dust settled, our hero walked out of the smoke, looking like he owned the place. People in the stream could not believe what just happened. They said it was straight-up madness and called it legendary. Right then, the system popped up with a notification that he had defeated the giant big boss, and our MC cleared the 7th stage. Level up? Hell yes. His level shot up 3 times, and his strength went up by 2. He got extra rewards too: more agility, vitality, focus, magic power, and a fat 5,000 achievement points. Oh, and he picked up a new item, the Thunder Heart. Then, our hero held up the glowing golden jewel in his hand and wondered if this was the Thunder Heart everyone talked about. Suddenly, pain ripped through him, and his vision went fuzzy. Next thing he knew, he was in this super weird place under a purple sky, standing on water that showed his reflection. He looked around, totally confused, and felt something huge and mysterious watching him from far away. The feeling was so intense that it was like a monster staring right into his soul. Our protagonist tried to talk or move, but nope, his body was frozen, and no sound came out. All around him, a bunch of creepy system windows showed up, repeating the same message again and again. Something unknown was watching him. Our MC just stood there, sweat pouring down his face, trying to figure out what these freaky things wanted. But before he could do anything, the scene disappeared, and he was back in reality, clutching the Thunderheart, which was shining bright. The sky was clearing up, and the system sent him a new message. The main scenario called Thunder had started, and he should look for clues in the village using the Thunderheart. Back in the stream, people were asking why Subaru was just sitting there like a statue. Then a new notification came up. Our boy had lost consciousness, and the live stream was now closed. Bro, the guy just sat on the cliff, staring at the clear sky, thinking maybe that whole thing he just saw was just a system cutscene. He got up, kind of embarrassed, and apologized in his mind to anyone still watching for blacking out again. People online were already making jokes about how he faints every time he does a big test. Our hero didn't care. He grabbed his tablet, looking ice cold, and decided it was time to collect his winnings. System messages kept popping up. Mission clear, test complete, achievement points and credits rolling in, 3,000 from Safe Origin, another 3,000 from some other supporter, plus 1,000 more. His total was now 40,420 credits. Not bad for a guy still covered in blood and bruises. The chat went wild, some fans begging to see the Thunderheart, others yelling for him to go down to the village. But honestly, the poor guy was running on empty. He picked up his phone, his face looking totally wiped out, and told his followers he was just too tired, saying he'd see them next time. Some people grumbled about the sudden ending, but too bad, the system made it official. Narukami Subaru's stream was over. Time to rest. After that madness, things calmed down. The next scene showed Subaru sitting with Hatsuka, his manager, in some fancy restaurant. She started off by congratulating him, saying that his performance was totally insane, but our boy was a bit worried, so he asked if it was really okay to end the stream so quickly. Hatsuka just grinned and told him it was not just okay, it was perfect. She was glowing with excitement, bragging that his viewers had gone over 3,000 people the day before, and she wondered if he had noticed during the big fight. Our MC apologized, just sipping his coffee, and explained he was so focused that he had not even seen the counter. That made Hatsuka a little confused, since she actually meant it as a compliment. Moreover, she was surprised because our MC could sip the coffee by lifting his mask a bit. This lady looked like she was ready to take on the world again and started talking a mile a minute. She was so pumped, telling our hero that smashing through the 3,000 viewer barrier was totally insane for a newbie streamer. She pointed her finger like she was making a big announcement, saying the way he ended his stream was spot-on perfect. She even joked that his tired face made things even better. And honestly, our boy did look half dead by the end. Hatsuka kept going, explaining that cutting the stream right at the most exciting part left viewers on the edge of their seats, like those cliffhanger endings in TV dramas. She asked him if he did that on purpose, throwing him a sly little grin. But our hero was ready for her question. He told her he had a plan all along. He wanted to check his loot and rewards in the next stream, so his reaction would be totally real, not some fake show for the fans. That answer shocked Hatsuka, who stared at him like she had just found out her favorite idol could cook. She realized he was not just some lucky guy, he actually knew how to play this streaming game for real. This woman whispered to herself that her old boss had worried for nothing, since our MC was way smarter than they expected. Suddenly, Hatsuka slapped her hand on the table with a sneaky grin and told Subaru that she brought him a special gift today. That got our MC's attention, and he looked at her, all curious, asking what kind of surprise she was talking about. This lady did her best cool and confident pose, giving him a look that was both mysterious and teasing, then said in this calm voice that her gift was something he could never refuse. She asked our protagonist to search up a live stream by someone named Hawkeye, hinting that this was the special surprise she promised. Our boy shrugged and started looking at his device, and soon enough, he found himself inside a wild live stream. The famous analyst was already talking to over 9,000 people about today's big topic. The dude was totally hyped, breaking down our hero's fight move by move, calling him the second Narukami. This guy explained that our protagonist did not just pass the pain test, he went way beyond, talking about the crazy micro-meridian purification that Subaru pushed himself through. While our MC watched, this manager started getting all flustered, sneaking side glances at him like he was a celeb. This streamer finally wrapped up his speech and apologized for talking so long, but said straight up that this new streamer was, in his opinion, actually Narukami Subaru himself. No question about it. He said nobody needed another explanation. Our boy sat there, wondering if Hatsuka believed what Hawkeye just said. But then she turned to him and asked if she could throw a personal, kind of random question his way. Our MC, who could not say no, nodded nervously. This lady, knowing she was about to cross the line as a manager, took a deep breath and asked him the real reason he started streaming, like, Was he doing it for something more than just money? Our hero thought for a second, then replied totally deadpan that money was his only reason. That answer hit Hatsuka so hard she looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. She quickly apologized for asking something weird, saying she understood how important cash was, but the poor guy reassured her, telling her not to worry about it. Trying to get her cool back, Hatsuka switched the subject back to the gift. She explained that this streamer was actually part of their student agency and super popular because of how sharp his analyses were. The real shocker came next. She told our protagonist that, from now on, any money Hawkeye made from covering our hero's content would get split 50-50 with Subaru himself. That meant ad money, donations, everything. Our boy was blown away, thinking this was a next-level bonus just for signing the contract. This woman looked absolutely thrilled as she watched him process what she just said. Our protagonist admitted out loud that this really was a bonus he never saw coming. And this lady, all smiles, offered him the chance to do a joint stream with Hawkeye one day. Later that night, our protagonist was alone in his room, back to his usual overthinking. He shut the door and replayed everything in his mind, kind of regretting that he wore his mask for the meeting, and maybe laid it on too thick about how much he cared about money. Staring at his own reflection, he felt a weird chill. The more people he met and trusted, the more complicated it got to hide who he really was. Still, he decided to just keep going with the plan for now. That's when a system message popped up, telling him his Wedge of Greed skill hit level 3. He checked the skill window, but when he saw that getting it to level 4 would cost 80,000 credits, the poor guy nearly lost it. For a C-rank skill, that was just nuts. He glanced at his balance, 120 credits, barely enough for pocket change. So yeah, even if he pretended money did not matter, it was still his #1 problem. Lying in bed, our MC tried to find something to be happy about. He thought that the collab stream with Hawkeye would happen in 2 days, and maybe that would bring in some serious cash to help with his mess. He grabbed the blue flower, the proof his old friend was still alive, and hoped his new fame might spread word to the friends he missed, even if he could not reach them yet. Meanwhile, over in her own room, Hatsuka was hugging her pillow like her life depended on it, her face burning red as she replayed everything our MC said earlier. She kept thinking about his straight answer about money, and her gut told her there was a crazy big secret behind that mask. But, instead of snooping, she decided to let it go, figuring she'd only hurt herself if she dug too deep. Even though her curiosity was making her lose her mind, she promised herself she would not ask or get into his business. Then her imagination went wild, and she pictured our boy thanking her for everything, which made her squeal and punch her pillow until feathers flew everywhere. Finally, she calmed down, thinking about how mysterious Narukami Subaru was, that he was even cooler in real life than she dreamed. Anyway, on the 7th floor of some place called Nox Bella, there's this seriously buff dude, Amon, just crushing his workout, looking pissed as hell while watching a live stream. You could see the veins popping. The guy was not happy. He snapped at his assistant, basically asking, who the hell was this streamer talking so casually? The assistant, probably used to this kind of drama, calmly explained that the guy on screen was Hawkeye, a streamer who always pulled in like 8,000 viewers on average. Amon, who turned out to be none other than Kurokawa Amon of the Blue Zone Guild, just rolled his eyes and said he tried the whole streaming thing for a while, but wasn't impressed. But the assistant tried to get him back on track, telling him to forget about Hawkeye for a second and actually focus on Narukami Subaru, the real deal that this streamer was hyping up. Our boy Amon started mocking Subaru, calling him a fake and acting like it was impossible for someone to master thunder like that. But then the assistant played a clip of our MC's fight, and suddenly this bulky guy face got serious. He couldn't hide it. He was seriously impressed. He even remembered this old saying from Saku Shuhei, the Spear Knight of Blue Eyes Guild, about keeping your eyes on the target when you throw. This totally shocked the assistant, who didn't expect this guy to remember stuff like that. Amon said that you need to learn anything from top players, even how they breathe and their habits. He said everyone forgets that all the Blue Eyes guys were monsters, not just our hero, and that there was something weird about the way they all died. It seems he didn't know the fact, which is his guildmaster's hide. Then Hawkeye, over on the stream, started yelling that this new streamer was actually Narukami Subaru himself. That made Amon super mad. He hated how streamers just threw around legend names like it was nothing, all for some easy drama. He even shouted at his poor assistant, demanding to know why he had to watch this garbage. The assistant, probably sweating bullets, said it wasn't his idea. Their guildmaster, Kazuki, ordered it. That got Muscleman attention. The assistant explained that thunder was the symbol of Blue Eyes, and now Blue Zone. So of course Kazuki wanted to know what was up. Then the assistant said they had some good intel. This streamer was crazy about money. He called his lackey to bring a mysterious big item covered in black cloth. Suddenly, he lifted it, and boom! There were stacks of shiny gold bars underneath. This hunk eyes almost popped out of his head. The assistant explained they had orders to bring our hero into the guild no matter what it took. All that cash, just for one guy. This bulky guy just stared, seriously wondering if our protagonist was just some gold-digging maniac after all. Meanwhile, over in the wrecked village, things were not looking great. The system blared that the second-floor trial was starting, and the place was a total mess from the last giant attack. Commander Pellis was running around, shouting at his men to gather up the wounded, treat the worst cases first, and get medicine out to anyone who could still walk. All of a sudden, he spotted someone, and you could see the relief hit him like a truck. It was Subaru, finally awake. Pelus lit up like a kid on Christmas, rushed over, and called our MC their savior. He started fretting, asking how our boy felt and saying everyone was worried sick after he collapsed outside. Our protagonist admitted he still felt a little dizzy, and this knight said that was normal since only one day had passed since the nightmare battle. Our boy said they'd talk more at the inn because he had some questions, and this guy eagerly agreed, promising to answer anything. As this leader left, our hero watched him go, thinking this guy really took his job way too seriously, but in a good way. The stream chat was eating it up, making jokes about bromance between our boy and the commander. Our protagonist went up to his room, flopped down on the bed, and decided to check out his loot. He dug out the golden gem from his inventory, and the system popped up a window, Thunderheart, a unique item that boosts lightning resistance and attack power. Our MC kind of lost it for a second. He wondered if it was even real. Some fans in the chat started whining that it was a lame pull, but others said it was epic. Our hero realized this was basically the perfect item for a thunder user like him. He could practically feel the raw power zapping into his hand. The dude was hyped. Then there was a knock at his door. Subaru told them to come in, and when the door opened, someone held out a basket of fruit. It was Pelus, all smiles, wanting to check on his favorite hero and see if he'd slept well. They sat down together in the inn, and our boy got straight to the point. He told this dude the legend was real. This knight just grinned and said he saw the thunder himself, and that our hero saved the whole village. Our MC pulled out the Thunderheart gem, explaining that it came out of the giant's body. The look on this guy's face was priceless. He was totally shocked. Our protagonist asked if this leader knew anything about it, showing off the jewel as it sparkled with electricity. This leader's face turned serious. He said he actually had no idea what it was, which totally threw our boy off. Meanwhile, the chat was roasting this knight, saying he was definitely hiding something. Pelus apologized, looking pretty lost, and said all he had were some old legends, nothing for sure. Our hero calmed him down and asked to hear everything he knew. So this leader started his story. The first legend was about using thunder to wipe out the ancient giants, just like our MC did in that crazy battle. Our protagonist wanted more, so this guy told him about the second legend. This one was about the gods and the giants fighting a brutal war over the power of thunder itself. Our boy was floored, asking if that actually happened. This knight said it was more like a legend inside a legend, but yeah, it ended with the giants getting totally crushed by the gods. Our hero sat there, realizing things were way deeper and crazier than anyone knew. Our boy Subaru sat there, turning that Thunderheart gem over in his hand, his brain going a mile a minute. He figured this thing was definitely not natural. A normal stone didn't just zap with this much power. Our hero admitted that the old stories never mentioned who made such a thing. But one detail was clear as day. This gem was built to give humans a shot at using thunder. Why? Because, back in the day, gods and giants were always at war, way out of human league. So some big shot made this tool to let humans actually fight back against those monsters. Wild, right? Before our MC could even process all that, a bunch of system messages popped up in front of his eyes, like always. The system congratulated him for reading through all the ancient human stories and told him he'd officially passed the thunder test. Then it dropped the good news. All those achievement points he'd been stacking up, 17,050 inches total, would level up his thunder skill all the way to level 3. Not bad, huh? But the system wasn't done yet. It announced he was about to be transferred to the third floor, and suddenly, our hero's whole body started glowing like he was about to become a superhero. Pelus totally freaked out, shouting his name, probably thinking the dude was about to explode or something. But our MC just disappeared in a flash of light, leaving this guy with their mouths hanging open. When Subaru popped back into existence, he was smack in the middle of Ortanar, the big city on the third floor. When he entered the city through the teleport gate, his mask appearance suddenly became the center of attention, making people stop and stare. Some players nearby started joking that it was just another wannabe Narukami, wondering how long this trend was going to last. Bro, the haters never rest. Suddenly, a system notification flashed. Someone called Narukami Subaru Lover had just dropped a fat 1,000 credit donation, congratulating him for making it to the 3rd floor and wanting to know how he felt. Our hero just stood there, thinking about his feelings, but honestly, he didn't have an answer ready. His mind kind of wandered back to an old memory, but before he could get lost in it, he heard a girl's voice calling him shy, a little shaky. He turned and saw a black-haired girl, looking kind of familiar. It was Rina, one of his old friends from way back. That is the first moment they met. She explained she'd gotten separated from her team and asked if he'd seen some guy, showing his height with her hand. She said the guy was probably taller than our MC, which, ouch, but okay. Our boy told her he definitely saw the guy. And man, did that wake her up? She got super excited. He pointed the way, so this woman thanked him a bunch and took off running. But then she froze, looking around like a stray girl. So our protagonist, being the decent guy he is, offered to go with her, saying he was headed that way anyway. She seemed surprised by how fast he agreed, but he just shrugged it off, saying he had no special plans. As they walked, this lady thanked him again for the help, then introduced herself as Kyoka Rina, asking for his name. Our boy just said he was Narukami Subaru. While they walked, the memory started to fade away and bring back our MC to reality. Thinking how maybe things would have been different if he'd only showed her the way without getting acquainted, everyone would still be alive. That thought hit him pretty hard. Just then, another notification popped up. Narukami Subaru Lover donated 100 credits, asking again how he felt. Still ringing in the memory, our boy answered that he felt like he'd lost something really important. Everyone in the chat started making fun of him, calling him suddenly sentimental. But hey, it was real. Right after, he told the stream he'd be teaming up with Hawkeye for his next stream, then just ended it right there, leaving everyone totally confused and wondering what was up with their favorite streamer. The next morning, our MC headed out to a fancy restaurant for a meeting with someone important, already running a bit late. The company boss greeted him with a big smile, explaining that Hatsuka was on her way over since floor travel took forever compared to passing tests. This guy was pretty chatty, introducing himself officially, and our boy just thought to himself that this was the talkative manager Hatsuka had warned him about. He shook John Teal's hand, being all business, and said he'd heard about him from his own manager. This dude laughed and said he usually let Hatsuka handle these things, but wanted to meet our protagonist himself this time. Apparently, this lady only hyped up a player this much twice in her whole career. Our MC was surprised, so this company boss explained that the first time was, of course, for the original Narukami Subaru of the Blue Eyes Guild. Our hero felt all kinds of awkward, but tried to brush it off with a nervous laugh, pretending he didn't know anything. Chief took the chance to ask if he was interested in the old Blue Eyes Guild, which made our boy freeze for a second. This dude caught that, grinning slyly, saying that reaction meant he wasn't totally uninterested. Our MC asked why this boss was bringing this up all of a sudden. This guy explained that this was one of the main reasons he wanted to meet. He showed our hero his tablet, revealing that the big prize for the upcoming tournament on the 3rd floor belonged to the Blue Eyes Guild. Our protagonist couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was something seriously important to him, and just like that, he felt a wave of anger rising inside. Somewhere else, Rina checked her tablet to find out that Subaru's stream was already over. She wondered if the other matters was finished over there. She finally found Shigure, who was just waiting around, and asked if it was already done. Ashen hair, cold as ice, said it had ended a long time ago. This woman was ticked off, demanding to know what he'd been doing all this time. This guy said he'd been thinking about whether to kill a bunch of defeated enemies or let them go. She told him to just finish them off since they knew who sent them, but he explained he wasn't sure about that. He said if Kazuki really sent them, he would not have sent such weaklings. Still, he admitted there was a problem with letting them go. If their hiding place got exposed, they'd be in serious trouble. Rina, who was not in the mood for mercy, while Shigure's ice skill held the enemy team frozen in place, she called up a bunch of sharp blades and aimed right at those unlucky fools. This guy tried to yell at her to stop, but our girl already let those blades fly, slicing through the enemies at insane speed. The poor guys never stood a chance. One second they were there, the next, just broken ice and regrets. He totally lost it, screaming at this woman for going too far, with chunks of ice flying everywhere. But she snapped back, saying it didn't matter if Kazuki sent them or not. If they let anyone go, their secret would be out, and everyone would know they were still alive. She told him off for being too soft, reminding him he should be way more ruthless if he wanted to survive. At that point, Ashen Hair sighed and admitted she was right, saying sorry for hesitating. Things got quiet for a sec. Then Ashen Hair whipped out his tablet and told his mate to check something out. The second she looked, her face went from annoyed to seriously pissed. She started cursing those idiots on the screen. This man, trying to play it cool, asked if that made her mad. And bro, this war lady went off, yelling that, of course, she was mad. Turns out the screen was showing a sneaker. Yeah, just a pair of shoes. But not just any shoe. She screamed that it was Toshiya, one of their old friends. Shigure figured it out right away. He said this was 100% bait, a trap just waiting for them. This lady agreed, realizing that their enemies must know they were still out here somewhere. But even knowing it was a trap, this dude insisted they had to get the items back. She wasn't about to just sit around either, but her mate stopped her before she could run off on her own. He admitted sneaking around wasn't really his thing, but this warrioress was always good at that stuff. She just rolled her eyes and said she'd do it anyway, with or without his permission. Before she ran out the door though, Ashen Hair explained that he didn't want her to just rush in and get caught. He suggested waiting until after the tournament and then stealing the stuff once the winner was decided. Way less risky. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Subaru was getting shown the tournament prize by John Teal, his manager. And guess what it was? None other than Talaria, the legendary shoes that belonged to Toshiya, one of the Blue Eyes Guild's relics. This boss asked our boy if he wanted to join the tournament, and our MC pretty much shouted, yes. He was super interested, maybe a little too interested. This guy was over the moon, saying he didn't expect our hero to get so hyped. Apparently, this chief's whole plan was to use our MC's streaming name and make a series all about chasing down the relics of the Blue Eyes Guild, thinking it'd bring in a ton of views. Our protagonist was fuming inside. This guy was using Toshiya's memory as just an ad campaign for his stream, but on the outside, he kept cool, hiding his anger and agreeing to play along. This dude was pumped, cheering our boy on and wishing him luck, saying he'd be rooting for him the whole time. Our hero left the restaurant, swearing to himself he'd never let anyone else get their hands on those relics, no matter what. Later that night, Subaru was just chilling on his bed, thinking about the tournament. He was seriously hoping it'd be a solo event to make things easier, but knew he couldn't really choose the rules right now. Then, someone knocked on the door, a soft voice saying it was Hatsuka. Debating whether he should keep his mask on, he decided to play it safe and kept the mask, opening the door to see this lady standing there in a super fancy red dress. The poor girl looked surprised that our boy was still rocking the mask, even inside. Our MC just invited her in, but that only made her more confused. Like, did he really mean she could come in? When he noticed her hesitation, he told her it was fine if she wanted to talk in the hallway instead. She refused so fast, apologized, and hurried into the room, checking out the super basic setup he had. Subaru eyed her from behind the mask. Realizing right away that Hatsuka's magical power ran deep, this lady was no regular manager. She felt his stare and got all nervous, asking if something was wrong or if she had something on her face. Our protagonist just brushed it off, saying he was silent, then asked her about the tournament reference stuff she brought. This woman pulled herself together and apologized, explaining that the whole tournament would be a battle royale. Basically, everyone for themselves, fighting for one big prize. Our boy was happy to hear that meant it was solo, and she confirmed it, saying that's just how things go when there's only one top prize. She explained it would be held in a virtual arena, open to anyone from the third floor, and the entry fee was 3,000 credits, no limit on who could join. She promised to send him some old tournament material so he could see how things worked. Our MC checked out the stuff on the tablet she gave him and almost did a double take. It was all about him, clips of legendary Narukami Subaru moments, his win streaks, and even a How to Become Narukami Subaru in Battle Royale guide. The dude was honestly shocked. He thanked Hatsuka for all the effort, saying he'd use it for reference, and she replied that it was just her job. Then, this lady got all fidgety, asking if he'd heard anything from the boss. She told him they got a message from none other than the Blue Zone Guild, straight from Kazuki himself. That name alone was enough to freeze our MC, making his blood boil. She explained that they wanted to meet Subaru, and since he couldn't reach him directly, they sent an email to the company instead. Our hero instantly realized his old enemies were finally making their move. This woman guessed Kazuki probably wanted to cut some sort of deal or offer a better contract. But our boy shut her down quickly, telling her straight up to ignore whatever they said. She was stunned. Our protagonist explained cold as ice that he had no plans to join Blue Zone or any other guild. At that, this lady almost jumped out of her seat in happiness, saying she was super relieved and had been worried about whether to tell him or not. Now, she was totally happy with her choice. She wished him a good night with a big smile and told him to enjoy himself until their next joint stream, then left. practically glowing with excitement. After she left, our MC just shook his head, thinking she was celebrating like she just won a gold medal or something. He finally took off his mask, thinking about how hard this girl worked, even though she was technically just a normal employee. Deep down, our hero had to admit Hatsuka really was one of a kind. And outside that room, she kept right on celebrating her little victory. So, on the day of the big joint stream, Manager John and the famous analyst Hawkeye met up in this giant, tricked-out studio. This boss was staring at his project plan, thinking this whole thing was basically a head-to-head test between the legendary Narukami Subaru and the new guy with the same name. He warned this streamer that if he lost, it would be a huge embarrassment. But this guy just grinned and said he was always up for a challenge. He sounded real confident, even bragging that he never lost a fight before. This chief just laughed, telling him it all came down to how Narukami performed. Right then, Hatsuka walked in with our boy Subaru. This boss welcomed them, and Hawkeye got this big sly grin. He joked that this was his chance to become a star, and that he was finally meeting the legend himself. This streamer introduced himself to our boy, who looked around at how massive the place was, then said hi back and was glad to work together. This guy actually got hyped, saying he was a huge fan and felt like he was meeting the real Narukami Subaru. Our protagonist tried to keep things humble, saying he was just a beginner now, but you could tell this dude was already impressed. Before the guys could start fanboying any harder, this chief jumped in and said they should save the friendly stuff for after the stream. Then, right on cue, the system announced Hawkeye's live stream was starting. This guy hyped up his viewers and, dude, his numbers shot up like crazy, over 12,000 people watching in seconds. Even he was shocked, but he played it cool, telling everyone the big moment had arrived and he had a super special guest. He announced our MC to the fans, and the chat went wild. Some people were welcoming him, others were roasting him, and a bunch were asking who he actually was. Hawkeye threw some shade, saying our boy was so mysterious that even his own manager hadn't seen his face. Our protagonist fired back, saying he was actually really handsome, which made the comments go totally nuts. People started spamming for a face reveal. Some even dropped donations, demanding proof. Hawkeye laughed, saying his stream was crazier than usual, and our boy's presence was blowing up the chat way more than he expected. Our MC then got serious, saying he wasn't going to lose to this guy, and that just made this streamer admit to himself that this guy was even funnier and cooler than he thought. Our hero then added that he didn't have a single friend or girlfriend at the moment, which made Hatsuka secretly feel super relieved. Yeah, someone was jealous. This streamer called time on the jokes and said it was time to get serious. The system dinged, announcing the start of the test. He started explaining why he picked this challenge, as suddenly a whole army of armored robot soldiers showed up in the arena. He told the viewers there were 2 reasons for this test. First, it was perfect for measuring if someone could control their skills with real precision, and second, it would prove right now if what he said about Subaru being the best was actually true. The big leaderboard popped up for everyone to see, showing the top spot was held by none other than Narukami Subaru with 43 kills. Yeah, the OG legend. Right behind him were some other legendary players, Hades, Kazuki, and Asagiri Shigure. Someone in the chat dropped a sarcastic donation, trying to mess with Subaru, but our MC just answered with full confidence. He said if he wasn't sure he could win, he wouldn't have come at all. The robot suddenly lit up with evil red eyes and got ready to attack. The comments went wild. Some fans cheered him on. Others said there was no way he'd beat the record. Then, the quests started pouring in from the viewers. One dude even offered 10,000 credits if our boy could kill more than 43 robots, but if he failed, he'd have to show his face on camera. Our hero hesitated, thinking it was way too soon to reveal himself. But when more donations and similar quests rolled in, he gave in. He thanked everyone for the support and promised he'd do the face reveal if he failed. One viewer pointed out the bet was all risk for our protagonist, but the reward got split up, which sounded pretty unfair. Hawkeye agreed, and announced that every credit from this quest would go to our MC alone. This guy flashed a confident smile and slammed the timer button. 3 minutes on the clock. The robot army rushed at our boy from every direction. Our hero activated his thunder skill, his whole body glowing gold, then zipped around at insane speed, dodging attacks and smashing robots left and right. He got his first kill in just seconds. Hawkeye was stunned. He couldn't believe he was watching the legendary thunder power right there in real life. Our MC went all in, fighting harder and faster, breaking robot after robot with his fists. As the seconds ticked by, the robots got even crazier, their eyes burning bright red as they surrounded him. Did our boy back down? No way. He jumped high into the air, flipping and moving like a total acrobat. hopping from robot to robot just like the old days. Then he whipped out his sword and covered it in lightning, cutting down even more enemies. By now, his kill count hit 26 and there was still more than half the time left. Hawkeye and John watched, mouths open, and the viewers started betting he'd easily take second place, maybe even break the record. With only 13 seconds left, Subaru's kill count hit 41. The guy was locked in, totally focused. In those last moments, he ramped up the attack, smashing another robot for kill number 42. Only 5 seconds on the clock. The robots closed in around him, but Subaru's eyes just burned brighter. He got ready for his final move. With 3 seconds left, the robots came at him from every side. Our hero moved in a flash, and as the timer hit the last second, he leapt on another robot and dropped it with a perfect strike. The timer buzzed. The kill counter jumped from 42 to 43. Our MC did it. He tied the Legends record on his very first try. Chew on that, haters. The system blasted out the final results. Narukami Subaru, 43 kills, top of the board. Well, actually, the scoreboard now said Narukami Subaru was sitting in first place, twice. That's right, our hero tied the all-time record, and the chat totally exploded. Fans were losing their minds, dropping comments full of shock, hype, and non-stop congrats for this insane achievement. Hawkeye just stood there, looking like he'd seen a ghost. The guy's hands were actually shaking a little when he said, kind of quietly, that our MC had just matched the legendary Narukami Subaru's record. But then, he snapped out of it, fired up and grinning as he announced to everyone that it was officially a tie, asking the viewers what they thought of this wild performance. The comments poured in, and everyone was going nuts about how strong this new Subaru really was. While Hawkeye was still busy chatting with the fans and responding to donations, then a user with weird name, Feet Wiper Hawkeyes, donated too. The streamer thanks him, but also asked to change the username. Yeah, that seemed to happen a lot. Then, out of nowhere, someone in the chat asked if this was actually Narukami Subaru's own stream. Hawkeye quickly shut that down, saying, nope, not his stream. Suddenly, boom! Somebody with the name Reinhardt dropped a 10,000 credit donation. Even this steamer was stunned. Like, was this really the Reinhardt, the one-strike swordsman? The chat just lost it, spamming questions and wild guesses. He thanked this old man, sounding like a kid meeting his idol, and everyone knew this was a big deal. A high-ranking player was watching live. Our MC just kind of muttered, one-strike swordsman, under his breath, mocking the title. Reinhardt wasn't done either. He sent another donation, saying he watched Hawkeye's streams all the time and was actually inspired by our hero's performance. Hawkeye couldn't handle it. He was stammering out thanks, super humble for once. But Subaru, being our edgy boy, was just wondering what Reinhardt was even doing here. Was he here because he figured out what happened to his son Isaac? Our boy was definitely thinking about trouble coming his way. Then, Reinhardt donated again, offering to do a collab stream with our MC. That set off alarm bells for manager John and Hatsuka. They almost jumped out of their chairs, waving their hands, trying to signal our hero to say yes. But our protagonist just turned it down, saying he needed to focus on his own tests right now. You should have seen this boss and this lady faces. They looked like they'd just watched someone throw away a winning lottery ticket. Our protagonist apologized to Hawkeye, saying he'd used up all his energy and asked to end the stream. He didn't care about Hawkeye's whining or the chat's complaints. He just walked off, totally ignoring them. John and Hatsuka ran after him, still in shock. They couldn't believe he just tossed away such a golden chance. Collabing with a ranker was like getting a free ride to stardom. Our boy just shrugged and asked if all that was really so important. This guy tried to explain that working with top rankers was super rare and basically career-changing. Our MC hit them with a cold, confident line. If being a ranker was such a big deal, then he'd just become one himself. No biggie, right? Even Hawkeye ran over, telling our hero how amazing his performance was and promising to send over his share of the stream profits. But this guy had to ask. He noticed our boy didn't look his best in the fight, like he might be hurt or struggling with something. Our MC realized right then that this dude really did earn that Hawkeye name. He saw straight through Subaru's act. Our protagonist figured out that no matter what, the result today would be risky. If he won, the hype would die fast. If he lost, people would just say he wasn't as good as the legend. So, Subaru explained, for him this stream was never about beating the old legend or falling behind. It was about putting both versions of Narukami Subaru on the same line, showing the world they were equals for now. That was the real win. A tie was the only perfect move. This dude, still curious, asked if our hero could have beaten the record if he really tried. Our MC just dropped a cool, who knows, and said it didn't matter. The result was set, and now it was up to everyone else to decide what it meant. With that, our hero walked away, leaving everyone, managers, fans, even Hawkeye, stuck in their own thoughts, trying to figure out what just happened. Somewhere far away, over at the Golden Lion Guild, things were getting violent. A massive guy. Yeah, this was Reinhardt himself, Guildmaster and official ranker 121, smashed his table in pure rage. He was shouting about how our boy was a disrespectful brat. Dude had just watched Subaru's stream, and he was not happy. His assistant crept in, trying to look calm, but this old guy was steaming. He pointed at the screen, yelling about our protagonist, refusing his collab offer. This angry dude admitted he'd wanted to crush this rookie live on stream and shut up all the annoying rumors, but our boy's refusal totally ruined the plan. He didn't even care about the credits he threw away. What really set him off was the insult to his pride. The assistant tried to hand him the device he just dropped, and this angry man demanded news about Master Isaac. The assistant explained they were still looking for him, and that a missing kid like Isaac wasn't weird for a few days. This angry man lost it, grabbed his assistant by the neck, and nearly choked him out, threatening him for mocking his orders. With one angry shove, he threw the guy across the room, then snapped at him for daring to question his commands. The poor assistant scrambled on the floor, begging for mercy and promising to get back to work as soon as possible. Meanwhile, back on the normal side of things, Hatsuka was scrolling on her phone when her annoying manager called. Her nagging boss scolded her for not sounding excited enough, telling her to show the same hype as Narukami. She groaned. Apparently, this happened a lot. But the manager reminded her not to waste the shot Reinhardt offered. She asked what they could even do, and the manager said our MC was still a streamer. She should try to convince him again. But this lady knew better. She admitted that our hero only cared about climbing the tower, not about easy shortcuts. The manager was getting mad while cooking, telling this woman that she only got excited when fighting with him. So, she just said she would hang up, not caring about his desperate begging to stop her. But even though she acted all tough, our girl admitted to herself that missing this chance would be stupid. She decided to give it another shot. So, she knocked on Subaru's door, calling his name. When our protagonist opened up, she was surprised. He still had his mask on. He told her that wearing the mask made him feel more comfortable right now. Then, our boy teased her, asking if she was also curious about his real face. That just made her all flustered, and she denied it hard. She explained that the mask made people think of the original Narukami Subaru, and said that maybe, one day, our MC could show his real face, but only when he was ready to stand as himself. Then our boy started wondering out loud why everyone was so obsessed with Narukami Subaru anyway. Hatsuka listed some reasons, like how the OG our MC started weak, or just that even his existence was cool. But the big thing, she said, was that Narukami Subaru gave everyone hope. That word made he pause. This woman told him her story, saying he probably didn't know this part. When she first arrived at the tower, there was nothing, no food, monsters everywhere, and no way to make money. Life was just chaos, and surviving meant always climbing higher. The more they climbed, the more credits they got, so little by little, people started thinking this world could belong to them. The greatest players made them believe the tower could really be conquered, and at the top of all those heroes was Narukami Subaru. She explained that he didn't just pass floors. He proved that impossible things could be done. Our hero asked if she really believed all that. She answered that it was a secret, just like whatever he hid behind his mask, but maybe she would tell him one day. Our MC realized he was asking too many questions and apologized, inviting her in to talk about whatever she needed. But she suddenly panicked and said it wasn't important after all, then ran off. Our boy just watched her go, while she blamed herself for her chattering and failure to convince him. She was also totally freaking out about why her heart pounded every time he asked her to come inside. Our protagonist was left alone, muttering the word hope with a sarcastic smile. Later, our boy started a new stream. His loyal fans jumped in right away, some viewers dropped donations, and asking why he refused Reinhardt's collab. Then, out of nowhere, a massive donation popped up from Mondo of the Yggdrasil Guild, begging for a moment of his time about something important. Our MC's chat was full of people begging him to join one faction or another on the third floor, or asking if he'd just keep going solo. The hype was wild, and donations kept rolling in. So, he decided that if people wanted collabs and drama so much, he'd give it to them, if they kept paying. Two options appeared: join the Ottoman Empire or the Conrad Kingdom. The chat went nuts, making jokes about how times change and arguing about which group was stronger. The system explained that picking a side would change everything about this stage, since the two factions hated each other and all the quests would be different depending on Subaru's loyalty. Then boom, our MC chose Conrad Kingdom. Apparently, only 3% of players went with Conrad. There was a reason for that, and our protagonist found out fast. He appeared in the kingdom's mercenary rest lounge. He barely walked in before a huge guy noticed him. The dude grinned like a shark, saying it was perfect timing for a new guy to show up and kill his boredom. This meathead came right at Subaru, obviously trying to pick a fight. But our boy didn't back down, not even close. He slammed shoulders with the guy so hard that the big dude almost fell over. Now, the bully, super mad, yelled at our MC and demanded to know what his problem was. Our hero just stared him down and said the real problem was with him, and that the shove was on purpose. The guy lost it, grabbed our protagonist by the collar, and started freaking out. He called our MC scum, asking how an E-rank mercenary dared to talk back to a B-rank ranker. A bunch of other mercenaries gathered, whispering that Vulture was bullying another rookie. But our boy was on his own vibe. He wanted to test something out on this so-called ranker. Suddenly, sparks of lightning crackled around our MC's leg. With one quick move, he kicked Vulture straight up into the air, sending the big guy flying and knocking him out cold. Everyone around just froze, staring at the new guy in shock. Some joked that maybe Vulture was just sick, while another guy said he clearly saw the newcomer blast him with a kick. Someone got mad, asking why an E-rank mercenary was showing off, and threatened to rip off Subaru's mask. The whole group surrounded our boy, swearing this room would be his grave. Yeah, bad idea. A little while later, our hero had already wiped the floor with all of them. One of the mercenaries, gasping on the ground, muttered that this guy wasn't human. That's when a classy-looking man finally stepped in. He clapped, saying our protagonist had some wild skills, and introduced himself as Raymond, the rank examiner. This dude shook Subaru's hand and said he'd never seen him around before, then asked what kind of jobs he had already completed. Subaru told him that E-rank mercenaries could only do small missions anyway. Meanwhile, our boy was thinking about how this third-floor test worked. You had to complete a bunch of mercenary jobs and collect 10,000 experience points, but each E-rank mission only gave you about 50 points. Most people got stuck here for a year before finishing, but our MC didn't have time for that slow grind. That's why he started all this drama, to find a shortcut. Raymond noticed and asked if he was from the other world, which is what the locals called players. He said he hadn't seen many of them lately, but rules were rules. No special treatment for anyone, no matter where they came from. Why give out privileges to someone who was just going to leave anyway? But our hero cut him off, straight-faced, and said there was only one way to clear the third-floor test in a single shot, and that he'd do whatever it took to reach his dream. This guy just looked even more confused, wondering what the hell this crazy new guy was talking about. So, our boy looked Raymond in the face and said he was going to clear the Thunder Cave and claim it for the Conrad Kingdom. Yeah, he just put that out there like it was nothing. Rank Examiner could not believe his ears. He told Subaru that only A-rank mercenaries ever even tried that mission, and even then, there was a much bigger issue. Subaru just nodded, acting like he already knew all this. He explained that the Thunder Cave was a huge rivalry thing between the Ottomans and Conrad. See, nobody, player, merc, or knight, had cleared this dungeon in all recorded history. The two kingdoms had been fighting over these mountains forever, but there was only one easy way through: Thunder Cave. That passage meant you could rush your whole army through and crush your enemies. No wonder both sides wanted it so badly. Then, our boy made his move. He told Raymond to give him proof that he was rank A, swearing he wouldn't abuse it. In exchange, he would clear the cave for them. This guy had to think about it for a second, and our MC figured if the answer was no, things might get ugly. But this rank examiner surprised him by agreeing. He said he'd write a recommendation letter so our hero could join the upcoming raid team. After all, the more guys, the better. The raid squad was leaving in 5 days, and this man promised to bring the letter then. Right away, our boy's streaming quest started going nuts. Viewers were throwing thousands of credits at him, begging him to clear the dungeon solo for extra glory. He noticed the raid was set for the exact day the tournament ended. He couldn't help but wonder if the Blue Zone Guild planned that on purpose. Raymond left, still looking like he'd seen a ghost, and even admitted he'd tried Thunder Cave himself when he was younger but lost half his squad in there. Our protagonist reassured him it wouldn't go down like that this time. Raymond was so confused, he had to ask why our MC even wanted the letter, if he was so sure of himself. That's when our hero let him in on the real plan. He was going in alone. This gentleman totally lost it, saying the cave was built for 20-man teams, and how the hell was our protagonist gonna solo that? Conrad was already short on people compared to the Ottomans. He figured our hero must have some secret squad, but our boy just told him straight, nope, not right now. Meanwhile, Rena was out there climbing crazy mountains for her own mission, watching our boy stream the whole time. She said he looked just like the original Subaru and kind of wished it wasn't even a stream. She heard him talk about not caring to do the normal test stuff, and she laughed to herself. Then, our MC suddenly ended his stream, and this woman grumbled because she wanted something to distract her on her climb. But she smiled anyway, thinking he was so much like the real our hero, always doing whatever he wanted. She remembered he would be in the tournament too, so she decided to stick around hoping to talk to him. She even wished, deep down, that he wouldn't win. Guess she was feeling competitive. Elsewhere, in a bustling town street, our MC walked together with Hasuka. She was watching and praising him, saying he totally nailed the Narukami Subaru style, even though the viewers were booing him for not being a people-pleaser. She explained that it was this exact attitude, the unexpected moves and not caring about the crowd, that made his stream epic. Our protagonist thanked her for the advice. She asked about his next move, so he told her straight up he was going to hunt monsters until the tournament, level up, and test his thunder power and see how the Thunder Heart worked for him. All the while, he promised himself no way was he letting anyone take Toshiya's memento from him. Now, let's switch to Genzaki Naoto, a dude from the Blue Zone Guild, who was stomping through the city, pissed about having to come out for someone. Usually, people lined up to see him, but now he had to dance to someone else's beat. He stormed into a bar, announced his arrival, and got waved over by John, Subaru's content manager. This boss was all polite, telling Genzaki he heard he wanted to talk to one of their creators. This punk got straight to the point, asking where the big shot was. This boss told him our hero wasn't there. He was busy. This scum thought that was crazy. What could possibly be more important than meeting him? But this guy wouldn't spill any private info, just said they already delivered Subaru's answer. He wasn't interested in the Blue Zone offer. This grump got more annoyed, saying he was going to talk to our MC directly, but John wouldn't budge. This punk called him out, saying he was just protecting his moneymaker, and freaked out about leaving empty-handed. He pounded the table, saying he knew what their game was, and warned that it was smarter to join a big guild than some streaming company. The company boss just shrugged, saying popular streamers made as much as top-tier players, and that he'd met plenty of old-school types with the same attitude. That made Genzaki laugh, accusing this boss of trying to pick a fight with Blue Zone. But this guy asked him to listen up. Their company always put their creators' wishes first. Since Narukami's answer was clear, they were backing him 100%. This scum tried to act tough and hinted that Blue Zone wouldn't just let this slide, but John's whole vibe changed. He got cold and serious, telling this grump that there are people out there you really can't move with threats or violence. If this dude was done, he should leave. This scum froze, suddenly feeling some crazy, crushing pressure from John's mana. He tried to muster up some attitude and ask who this guy thought he was talking to, but this boss was just sitting there, totally chill. So, this grump backed out, totally thrown off, and left with a promise for revenge, though he was clearly shaken. This dude just smirked, thinking this punk's threats were pretty lame. 3 days passed, and our hero ended up right in the middle of the Sky Serpent's nest. The place looked like a disaster. Rocks everywhere, ground all busted up, and huge evil serpents thrashing around as someone stepped on their tails. A giant white serpent, bigger than a bus and looking pissed off, with scars on its face and blood dripping off its fangs. Our MC is standing in front of it, looking tiny but all badass, ready to hunt this nasty beast down. Our boy's eyes were lit up, and he looked like he was about to do something insane. Then, boom, he ran right onto the face of the monster and smacked it so hard with his sword that it made the blood splatter everywhere. The poor snake started freaking out, screaming and writhing, while the whole sky started shining yellow. Our hero just stood there, his sword covered in blood, totally calm while the energy around him faded. The guy decided he was done with the warm-up, thinking this test run was enough, so he told himself he should wrap it up. Then he blasted up into the air, lightning crackling everywhere, and came crashing down on top of the serpent's open mouth. There was a massive flash, like someone dropped a lightning bomb, and suddenly the snake was toast. The system messages started popping up like fireworks. He got the message that he had beaten the Sky Serpent boss, then leveled up, and then a bunch of his stats went up one after another. Not bad for 3 days of work. Our hero sat there, chilling on top of the dead, bloody serpent, totally casual. He checked out this huge glowing red fang he'd ripped out, a Sky Serpent's fang. He figured this thing would be worth at least 10,000 credits, or that's what it sold for back in his day. Then he checked his stats. Subaru Hosoi, level 35, and all his numbers looked pretty beefy. 9 levels in just 3 days? That's straight up nutty. But our MC didn't want to get too greedy. He had a promise to keep to take back Toshiya's legacy. The next day, our hero met Hatsuka in a fancy restaurant. She was hyped out of her mind, waving her hands around and almost screaming. Our hero sat across from her in his mask, wondering what the hell got her so excited. She asked if he'd seen it, but he just looked confused and said he'd been too busy grinding. This lady told him not to worry, that this was exactly what made him Narukami Subaru, but there was one thing different about him compared to the original. She slid him a tablet, told him to check it, and when he looked, he saw it was the revenue statement from his last stream with Hawkeye. Almost 50,000 credits? Even our MC was a little shocked, but Hatsuka had more to say. She started talking about her friend Seong-hyun, some gambling freak she wasn't exactly proud of. Thanks to this dude, she learned about gambling odds and payout rates. She explained how the stronger a player, the lower the payout rate, since it's basically a safe bet. Right now, everyone betting on our MC could make 6.1 times their money, which sounded cool, but there was some other dude with a payout rate of 1.2 times, basically the favorite to win it all. She dropped the name, Omar Schneider. This guy had been stuck on floor 3 for 10 years, obsessed with conquering the Cave of Thunder. He wasn't even a streamer or a top ranker, but everyone knew him because of his crazy dedication. She warned our MC that this Schneider guy was probably already making plans, since Subaru's big solo challenge was like spitting right in his face after 10 years of hard work. That was some serious beef brewing. And you could see Hatsuka getting really close, almost in our hero's face. Our protagonist called her out for it, and she jumped back, blushing and flustered as hell. She tried to play it cool, but you could tell she was worried. She warned our hero that between his Cave of Thunder plan, the tournament, and the next trial, it was almost certain he'd run into Schneider. She begged him to be careful. Meanwhile, in Ortainarl, a city on the 3rd floor, a carriage was zipping through the streets at night. Some angry bald dude inside was ranting about finally meeting that cocky bastard who said he'd solo clear the Cave of Thunder. His red-haired buddy tried to calm him down, saying the guy probably didn't even know what kind of nightmare that cave was. But both of them were just talking big in front of their captain, Omar Schneider himself. Omar looked out the window, calm and serious, and told them he wasn't bothered. He admitted our MC had the reputation to brag, called him the new Master of Thunder, and honestly seemed to respect him a little. His subordinates were still salty, saying that just because someone mastered Thunder didn't mean they were the real Narukami Subaru. But this tough guy shut him down hard, saying now wasn't the time for envy or trash talk. He even said he could respect our MC if he had to. The two subordinates were in shock, thinking their captain's pride was getting smashed. But you could tell Omar was thinking deeply, wondering how this streamer was going to back up all his big talk against a monster challenge like the Cave of Thunder. Back in our MC's room, he was digging through documents and old news stories. He called Omar messed up in the head, saw that the dude only started streaming 5 years ago, and joined Blue Zone around then. He found a headline about this warrior nearly reaching the bottom of the cave and realized there was probably an inside favorite for the tournament, which explained a lot. But our MC wasn't worried. He was thinking to himself that he was already back in action, ready to see if things would really go the way this dude wanted. The next day, the market in Ordinar was popping, people everywhere, and a tough-looking merchant arguing with a player trying to sell some monster hide. The merchant said the hide was trash, offered a low price, and the poor player walked away looking totally defeated. The merchant was grinning to himself, thinking he'd scored a nice deal since most folks didn't even know how valuable those hides really were. Suddenly, our hero walked up, masked and holding a glowing red fang, the sky serpent's fang. The merchant's eyes nearly popped out of his head, realizing this was some S+ grade loot. But instead of being grateful, this dude started scheming, thinking he could rip off the seller, pro or not. He tried to lowball Subaru, calling it high B to A rank, saying it had a scratch, and that the market was flooded with fangs lately, so he couldn't pay much. He offered 8,000 credits with a big fake smile. But our MC was thinking maybe that wasn't so bad after 20 years out of the game. But then, guess who showed up? Omar Schneider himself. He saw the fang and instantly knew it was worth at least 15,000 credits, since those things were rare. He called out the merchant's nonsense, and the guy started sweating buckets. Then, the moment everybody was waiting for, this man stared straight at our hero and asked if he really was Narukami Subaru. Our MC just looked right back at him and called him Omar Schneider. After that, they moved to this fancy cafe. Our hero, masked up and legendary as ever, was sitting right across from Omar Schneider. The blonde in the background was whispering, "Is this really this guy?" Our hero was not wasting any time and told this man, "Just get to the point already." Our MC looked down at the table, thinking in his head that this whole vibe was weird. Like, was Omar really the kind of guy to mess with parfaits? For real? Parfaits? This dude was eating ice cream with a tiny spoon like he was at some kid's birthday party. That image did not match his scary reputation. Anyway, this tough guy got serious. He said our boy had bragged about soloing the Cave of Thunder. Our MC just answered straight up, "That's right, he did. So what?" This warrior said at first he thought our boy was just a cocky nobody, coming up to floor 3 and running his mouth. But now, after watching him, he had mixed feelings. He would give our hero half his respect, but he still didn't get how people could compare him to the original Narukami Subaru. Subaru noticed those eyes. Yeah, this dude looked like a weirdo, but there was fire in there. Guy wasn't joking around. So our protagonist shot back that he hoped this wasn't just about getting a pat on the head. But Omar dropped it. He had a proposal. He wanted Subaru to take back what he said about clearing the Cave of Thunder, live on stream, and apologize for being so cocky. Not right away, but if this beefcake beat him in the tournament, that's when Subaru would have to bow down and admit he was out of line. The poor guy just exhaled, then agreed. But he set his own condition. If he won, this guy had to spill everything he knew about Spirit Cave. Those were the terms. Omar smirked, super confident, and said, "Deal." He basically told the whole room. There was no chance he'd lose anyway, not to someone like our MC. Then he stood up, ready to walk off, and everyone in the cafe was watching, like they could feel the sparks between these two. As this man left, our MC stared at the parfait sitting there, thinking that maybe this guy hadn't wasted those 10 years grinding after all. Jump to the Soughton Entertainment office. There was this guy, Seong-hyun, just slouched in his chair, eyes glued to his tablet. Suddenly, he freaked out. Over 10,000 people had signed up for the tournament. He checked out the prize on his screen, a pair of legendary shoes called Talaria. This dude started talking to himself, saying that if they'd had this back when he was on the 3rd floor, he would have joined for sure. Then he looked at the betting options. Narukami Subaru was risky but wild, and Omar was the safe bet. The dude had this smug look, numbers flying around in the air, all that, he said with so many players. The answer was obvious. Even if the payout was only 1.2x, a pro gambler like him always bet on trust, not just on the numbers. Then he did something crazy. He put all his credits on Omar Schneider, saying gambling was the fastest way to go broke. Not the smartest move, bro. But just as he was feeling proud, his tablet went nuts with an incoming call from his coworker, Hatsuka. Poor Seong-hyun almost had a heart attack, rolling out of his chair in total panic. He picked up the tablet, still freaking out, and started yelling that someone was spying on him. This lady's voice came through, asking what he was doing. Her coworker tried to play it cool, but she caught him. She knew he was gambling again. The guy started ranting about hidden bugs and how she must have planted something to watch him. This woman didn't care. She just wanted to know what he was up to. Hatsuka said she was just betting on Subaru. Seong-hyun lost it. He yelled that credits were precious and asked if she really thought our MC was going to win. He said it wasn't that he doubted her, but if you looked at fighting styles, power, and the numbers, Omar was in a league of his own. He said people said this guy had done more on floor 3 than the original Narukami Subaru. He called Hatsuka's bet on our hero a fantasy wrapped in a fairy tale. Then she got all fired up and said if he was so confident, they should bet their whole next paycheck against each other. Seong-hyun agreed, but you could tell he was kinda shocked. When Hatsuka was walking while talking on the phone, a mysterious hooded person passed by, and she was suddenly startled. Then she looked back and hung up the call, leaving poor this dude sitting there in a daze, staring at his tablet and wondering what the hell just happened. Outside, the city was packed. Schneider was walking through the crowd with his subordinate. He asked his captain what our MC looked like, and Omar just said, "He's no amateur." This bald guy was astonished, asking if his captain might lose to our boy. But this man just grinned, totally sure he would win. No doubt at all, he wasn't worried for a second. But they weren't the only ones watching. Up on a rooftop, some mysterious hooded figure was checking out the whole scene. This person said Omar's mana was no joke, and looked really sure that this dude was the favorite here. Finally, tournament day arrived. Flags waved over the city, and the place looked epic. At the Ortnarl Coliseum, the crowd was going nuts, everyone eager for action. Our hero walked down this dark hallway, sword on his back, mask shining in the light. He stepped into the arena, confetti raining down, and the cheering crowd went wild. People in the stands started losing their minds. One guy recognized the mask. Narukami Subaru was here to compete. The girl next to him said she thought voting was already closed, and that Subaru's odds were second place at best. She asked who the number 1 was, and you already know, it was Omar. Then, as if on cue, this guy made his entrance, looking like a total boss with his giant spear. The crowd exploded, chanting his name over and over. Dude was a real rock star. Up above, the host floated down. Mizuha, this energetic blonde from Blue Zone, hyped up the crowd as the tournament host. She explained the rules, splitting the event into qualifiers and a main event. Then, she showed off the prize. The legendary Talaria, Hermes's magic shoes, glowing and floating above her hands. Everyone stared, amazed. She said these were the pride of Blue Zone and the relic once owned by Hibiki Toshiya from Blue Eyes. Subaru looked up at those shoes, thinking to himself that he would get them back for his honor, no matter what. In the crowd, Hatsuka was going full fangirl, cheeks red and eyes shining, waiting for Subaru to start his stream. That mysterious hooded figure from the roof was now walking through the stands too, staring at this lady and remembering her from before. Something was definitely up with that one. Then, the streamer started. Our favorite streamer popped up in the middle of Ortonal Coliseum, ready for the new tournament. He rocked his mask and dark gear, standing all cool while a bunch of players hung around in the background. Bro, the hype was real. As soon as he went live, blue system messages flashed in the sky. Our boy's live stream had started. People in the stream chat went wild. There were messages like, "Let's go," "Aiming for the win," and "Long time no see." Some even called him out for disappearing all the time, saying they'd been waiting for him to show up. Subaru apologized, saying he knew he'd been gone. The chat clowned on him, joking that it was just him ghosting everyone, but hey, what's new? That's pretty much his style. Some people wondered if this was the real Thunder stream. Others said it sounded like noob slang, and the chat just kept rolling. One even said they were watching both the stream and the tournament from the stands, which is honestly kind of insane. Our MC looked over the crowd, eyes glowing behind his mask. He could barely keep up with all the chat spam. Then, bam, a system message popped up. Someone named Narukami Subaru Love cheered him on, saying if he won, they'd drop 30,000 credits. Our boy mentally thanked them for the cash. Meanwhile, the chat threw around predictions. Some thought he'd win easily, others joked about him getting second place. One dude said he was just there to watch Subaru lose. Savage. Suddenly, Mizuha, the host, floated up in the air with fireworks and all this crazy green energy swirling around her. She yelled for everyone's attention, then shouted for the tournament to begin. She created a green energy ball, which grew to a massive size, then exploded across the whole Coliseum. The stands were packed, and everyone watched as the dark green energy covered the arena. Players looked up in shock, absolutely stunned. Random guys in the crowd started talking about how wild this was. Like, seriously, this was Blue Zone flexing hard. Another system message hit. You have entered the preliminaries. The Coliseum was now wrapped in a giant, glowing green dome. A new system message came up. The preliminaries had started, and the rules were simple. If you died, you were out, and everyone but yourself was an enemy. Kind of brutal if you ask me. The goal? Survive until only 1,000 people were left, out of over 10,000 starters. That's a lot of people to beat. The Coliseum turned into a big forest, sunlight breaking through the trees while silhouettes of players moved in the distance. Subaru stood there, calm as ever. He thought to himself that, since it was a solo match, nobody would target him in the prelims, and he could just chill and save his strength. Suddenly, new missions popped up around him. Viewers were dropping extra credit rewards for every kill. Our MC counted up the rewards and figured there were 200 credits flying around now. A random ran from him, instantly terrified merely by his presence. But our boy sees it as a walking cache. While Subaru was minding his own business, Omar Schneider showed up on the other side of the forest. This guy was a beast. He only cared about one thing, taking down our hero. He made it clear in his head that he wasn't interested in fighting the weaklings. Someone tried to hit him with an arrow, but missed. The group of mercenaries with the archer joked around, thinking they could handle any problem with numbers, and even called this dude just some washed-up guy stuck on floor 3 for a decade. Bro, they had no idea. Omar proved them wrong fast. One cocky player rushed at him with a katana, but he just stabbed him through, easy. The other mercenaries freaked out. They couldn't believe this guy's spear even reached that far. Then this guy let loose, his spear glowing with purple energy. He took down the rest of the group, flexed on them, and told everyone that shortcuts didn't work here. Only your own strength could save you in this tower. The rest of the players were so scared, they could barely move. Over at the spectator stands, people watching the match on big screens were freaking out too. They're amazed by Omar in action. Back in the arena, he started slicing through opponents with his glowing purple spear. He was so fast and strong that other players could barely react. One guy tried to run away, saying this wasn't even a real fight, while another tried to shout him down, but nobody was sticking around to fight the legend head-on. In the spectator seats, a mysterious hooded figure wearing a mask of our MC watched the match. It was Rina. She admitted that out of all the players, Omar was in a different league and would definitely break into the top ranks soon. But even this hooded figure was annoyed by Hatsuka, Subaru's manager, who was yelling at the screen and calling all the other players cowards. Then this hooded lady spotted her watching our hero's stream, and she asked her if she knew about Narukami Subaru. Hatsuka, surprised that she wears that legendary mask, guessed they must be a Narukami Subaru fan too. This lady manager went all fangirl, saying she'd been a fan for 20 years. Then, she introduced herself. Back on the battlefield, the system reported only 1,342 survivors left. Subaru checked his kill count. He was up to 98, including the last guy who tried to escape. He figured the round was about to end, but honestly, he thought 200 credits per head was kind of lame. A little light bulb went off in his mind. Maybe he should just pull all the players out of hiding and finish this faster. So he unleashed this insane golden energy that blasted through the forest, making it super obvious where he was. The chat lost their minds, saying he was trying to farm aggro. Everyone else was trying to hide, but our boy was just flexing, loving the attention. So he released his thunder power, instantly cutting off the trees around him. Bro, that was not environmentally friendly. And then, the forest got all quiet and weird, and that's when a worthy challenger showed up. Omar Schneider, himself. This dude stood in the middle of the scorched trees, standing around his enemies he'd just killed and looking all deadly. He saw our MC and said he finally found him, but our protagonist just calmly said he found the guy first. Classic MC power move. The chat blew up again, saying a big shot was coming. Everyone knew there was a 10,000 credit bounty for taking down that legendary spearman, and they were ready to watch the fight. Our hero thought to himself that there was no reason to drag this out. He wanted to finish things here. The Spearmaster expressed his relief at not having to entice him out, and that he finished him immediately. But honestly, our boy looked more than ready to show everyone who really ran the arena. Man, these guys were about to throw down hard. Anyway, now, the system threw up a big, purple hologram, reminding everyone that there were only 1,202 survivors. Our MC was moving so fast, his eyes glowed yellow from behind his mask, and everywhere he went, purple energy exploded out, like lightning. The arena looked like a hot mess, all twisted and cracked from his speed and power. If you blinked, you'd miss him. But it wasn't just our hero causing trouble. Somewhere else in the arena, his enemy was standing in a scorched patch of forest, looking like he was born to fight. He figured that with 202 people left, he still had plenty of time. Bro, that was confidence. Now, Subaru, holding this crazy red sword, was studying Omar's moves. He thought to himself that the last attack wasn't a skill, it was actual martial arts. He realized that if he missed even the tip of his spear, he was as good as dead. And get this, that spear could hit places regular weapons couldn't even dream about. Yikes. Soon enough, he was dodging these wild energy blasts from his enemy, twisting through the air, purple energy swirling all around. Then, the system started dropping secrets about our boy's weapon. That unnamed demon blade was sucking up his life force. But, in exchange, it pumped up all of his stats. Luckily, another skill, the Wedge of Greed level 4, was keeping him from getting totally wrecked by the sword's side effects. Sounds rough, but hey, power has a price. Subaru kept swinging that sword, trading wild attacks with Omar, parrying spear strikes that got way too close for comfort. Sometimes, the tip of Omar's spear was just centimeters from our MC's face. Dude was living dangerously. Now, the big showdown kicked up another notch. Omar went for a heavy energy blast, his spear glowing purple. Our boy dodged with some slick moves, landing so hard he cracked the ground and sent purple energy in every direction. Both guys were moving almost too fast to see, their weapons clashing and bursting with color. It was almost beautiful, if you like your art violent and sparkly. And then, a pause. Subaru and Omar faced off, taking a second to breathe. Omar asked why Subaru wasn't using his thunder. Our MC just shrugged it off, saying it seemed like a waste, since the fight would be over soon anyway. Oof, that was cold. Well, his enemy did not like that answer, and it showed. A system alert flashed. There were 1,007 survivors left. He got angry, asking if Subaru was really saying it was a waste to use his lightning against him. He looked like he was about to explode. He then accused R of stalling for time, but our boy just kept his cool. Suddenly, Omar let loose with a massive attack. Boom. Our boy took the hit, got swallowed up in a giant purple and orange explosion, but when the dust cleared, he looked completely calm, maybe even a little smug. He taunted him, saying that better not have been his full power. Bro, the disrespect. Then, Omar's veins were popping with rage. But then the system hit everyone with a big notification. Only 1,003 survivors left. And just for a minute, it went to be only 1,000 survivors left. The prelims were over. He, now surrounded by a green glow, stared at our bot with fire in his eyes. promising that Subaru better be ready next time. Then, just like that, he started to fade away, removed from the arena. Meanwhile, our MC, surrounded by green light, realized the 10,000 credits stash on hold till then. As the light got brighter, the system announced he was being moved to the waiting room. Now our hero was chilling in the waiting room, still masked up, everything glowing blue and futuristic. The system let him know he had moved to the waiting room, and then gave him a 30-minute break. He just stood there, thinking about the fight. He admitted to himself that, yeah, he almost got crushed at the end. If he dragged it out any longer, he might have lost. Then, he checked his stream. The live sign was on, and there were 11,009 people watching. The chat was going crazy. Some folks were saying he almost made it, others wished for more time, and a few even said they were so excited they forgot to breathe. Gotta say, our boy was becoming a real star. Somewhere else, in a fancy office, Hatsuka was making a big point. 10,000 viewers was the streamer's wall. If a streamer could get there even once, they could survive in the industry. That was a big moment for our MC. Back in the waiting room, Subaru thought about those 10,000 people. He was proud that he made it as a streamer, and that both his fight and his stream went well. Even the stream with Schneider ended up being a net positive. Still, even someone at Schneider's level can't clear the Cave of Thunder, huh? Meanwhile, in another place, a dude named Shigure was standing by a chill wooden house, looking up at the sky. He was sighing, thinking about all the crazy stuff going on. He checked his phone and thought that Schneider still had the advantage, and wondered why a guy like that was even on the 3rd floor. He figured the only thing Subaru had over Schneider was his thunder, and that, unless our MC had way more talent than it looked, a big upset wasn't likely. Of course, if he really had talent on par with his, a total comeback could happen. But from what he can tell, that doesn't seem to be the case. Back in the waiting room, suddenly, our boy got rewarded, twice, missions cleared, and 9,800 credits, each, came in from some wild-named donors. The chat roasted him a bit, calling him shameless and greedy, but he knew you had to grab what you could. He even thanked everyone, because why not? Then the system dropped more news. He spent 80,000 credits to boost his Wedge of Greed level 4, leaving him with just over 16,000 credits. The skill now suppressed the side effects of anything he used. Not bad, but the next upgrade? Bro, 160,000 credits. Our protagonist looked at the screen, thinking B rank was pretty cool. Maybe now he could try that thing, whatever he had in mind. Meanwhile, the chat kept talking about how greedy he was, but honestly, it made for good entertainment. Anyway, in another location, night had fallen over a massive tower, glowing green, and looking all kinds of mysterious. Down below, a huge arena was shining with bright lights. The mood was serious. Inside a big guild HQ, Mizuha stood staring at this floating cube with some dark shoes inside. She was worried. She wondered if the rumor was true, that a thief was after those shoes. And maybe that thief was even in the building right now. Then, boom, someone called out her name. Reinforcements had arrived, led by Kurokawa himself. She was shocked he'd come all the way down to the 3rd floor. He said the guildmaster was in a bad mood, not just about Subaru and Schneider, but also because of another, different problem cropping up. Dude didn't look happy. Meanwhile, in the spectator stands, things were getting interesting. Hatsuka sat next to Rena, in her mask and cloak, who had a magical glow around her hand. She noticed that a girl besides her had crazy magic power, and wondered why someone like her was down here. She was pretty suspicious too, thinking the girl might be an assassin or something. These girls were not here to make friends. Then, Rena told Hatsuka, her name is Tamiya. Our manager smiled, and said the reason she was interested is because Tamiya has a strong aura, and she must have trained for a very long time. She also pointed out that she knew Tamiya was using a disguise skill and hiding her real face, and then she guessed she must have had a good reason for hiding, since strong people usually did. Rena, disguised as Tamiya, was surprised why she knew it. She starts thinking that maybe she's an assassin sent by Kyojo, but why is she so open about it? But then, things got serious. Hatsuka said that, just to be sure, she needed to ask if Tamiya was planning to mess with the tournament. Tamiya, with a little smirk, basically said, "And what if I was?" Hatsuka's aura exploded red, and she told her that, if she tried anything, she would stop her no matter what. Anyway, now, our protagonist, Subaru, was back in the crazy arena, ready for more action. The break was over, and the system basically shouted that the main event was starting. The floor started glowing, and suddenly, a bunch of players popped up all around him. Everybody looked confused as hell. Some were yelling, asking what was going on, or how someone was suddenly next to them. One guy said he didn't even hear anything before being moved. Suddenly, a tiny, fairy version of Mizuha, floated up, waving a wand like she was about to drop some girl power magic on everyone. Then, boom, the system explained the rules. This round wasn't just a simple fight, it was all about territory capture. Every player got their own turf, and only 2 people could be in one space at a time. If you beat the other guy, you could take their territory for yourself. The player who captures the most territories within the limit is the champion. The winner even got these wild-looking golden and black shoes called the Teleria. Mizuha teased everyone, saying they'd find out who got the shoes in 2 hours, then zipped away as the floor turned into a rainbow grid. The match started. Each player stood on their own colored square, not wanting to be the first to jump in. Our boy stood on a yellow square, just watching, thinking that, of course, everyone was being cautious. His plan was to wait, because fighting right away would only win him one little square, but if he bided his time, he could maybe grab a bunch later. But our boy wasn't fooling anyone, not even himself. He remembered he had 300 credits riding on each player he beat, so being patient just wasn't his style. Next thing you know, he was a blur of violence. He just tore through the crowd, sword glowing, purple energy everywhere, and dude was absolutely merciless. Blood splattered all over the bright grid, and players didn't even know what hit them. Some tried to beg for mercy, but they got knocked down before they could even finish their sentence. One poor guy on the ground was just thinking, where the hell our MC even went? While all this chaos was happening, the livestream chat was blowing up. People were talking about bloody hammers, laws of physics, and how greedy our MC was for going so hard for credits. But hey, that's what made him entertaining. After the massacre, he was standing over another defeated player, sword dripping blood, looking kind of bored. He thought the 3rd floor was actually not that tough. There was a huge gap between him and Schneider. Then the system threw up a warning. Another dude, Don Chow, had entered Subaru's territory, and now they couldn't leave until one of them got knocked out. The bald guy showed up, all serious and ready to fight, and asked if our boy was the famous Narukami Subaru. The chat started buzzing about Don Chow too, saying he was from the Blue Zone and maybe used to work for Schneider. Some folks in the chat thought this match could actually be spicy, but the bald guy, in his head, was worried about getting in trouble for beating Subaru here. Still, he jumped right in, swinging his weapon and moving like a maniac. He even yelled an apology to his captain, Schneider. Bro, this guy was dramatic. Their weapons clashed in a flash of light and sparks. But Subaru's sword just cut his weapon in half, like it was made of plastic. Don Chow hit the floor, totally crushed, and mumbled that he was taking back everything he said earlier. Subaru just stood there, looking at the guy like, was that it? The chat roasted him so hard, calling him a one-swing swordsman, even though he wasn't a swordsman at all, and wondering how he even got into Blue Zone. Suddenly, the system announced that Schneider, that Schneider, was entering Subaru's territory. The chat went wild, saying Schneider must have been waiting his turn for this showdown. Then, this big rival appeared, looking like he was ready for revenge. He glared at Subaru and charged in, that purple spear of his glowing with energy. The two of them clashed, sword versus spear, gold against purple, the floor lighting up under their feet. Schneider planted his spear in the ground and told our boy to use his lightning, saying that if Subaru didn't, he'd be dead on the next attack. The chat couldn't figure out if Schneider wanted to destroy our boy or help him grow stronger. Some even joked he was being a gentleman, waiting for a transformation. But he didn't back down. He stretched out his hand and let golden lightning crackle around his arm. The system lost its mind, shouting out message after message. Subaru's lightning skill powered up. His Heart of Lightning was resisting all the bad side effects, and his Wedge of Greed, Lu 5, was canceling the backlash. Bro was basically a cheat code at this point. Then, he formed a whole spear out of pure lightning in his hand and told Schneider that only weaklings ran away. He was so shocked, he started freaking out, wondering if Subaru could really just make a weapon out of lightning like that. Our boy then flipped the question, saying, if Schneider thought he looked like he was running, then what about him? He asked him if he was planning to run away instead. That rival looked like he was about to cry from the pressure, but he shook his head and said, no, not this time. Just then, he started thinking back to a talk with Don Chow from before. The bald guy had asked why Schneider was so obsessed with the Misty Cave, especially since he was strong enough to reach much higher levels. He said it was because people like him got so focused, they sometimes forgot the real reason why they started. He called it reliability, if you wanted to sound cool, obsession, if you wanted to be honest. He said his life would change, depending on whether he could overcome this challenge or not. Back in the arena, Schneider powered up big time. Purple energy exploded around him, his arms and legs glowing as he got ready to give it everything he had. In his mind, he said he could never give up, and now, Subaru was becoming his new obsession. Then, he rushed our boy, with everything he had, purple energy spear blazing. At the same time, Subaru thought he would show Schneider respect for his 10 years of grinding, and swore not to hold back. Subaru turned into a golden streak, flying down at him with lightning energy bursting all around. The two of them slammed into each other, spear against spear, purple against gold. The explosion was insane, energy swirling, the floor shattering, and the entire arena getting rocked by a storm of color and power. Golden lightning shot up like a pillar, with purple energy mixed in, and the whole place was swallowed up in the light. First off, up in the arena stands, Hatsuka was on fire. She was finally told the reason she was here and why want to stop Tameya if she was messing around with the tournament. She yelled that she was Narukami Subaru's manager, and she looked like she was about to fight the whole world to protect his stream. Then, she smiled again and said if the tournament got ruined, the stream would take a huge hit, and there was no way she was letting that happen. Tameya was standing there with his jaw on the floor, totally shocked, asking if she was really his manager. The manager bragged that it was true, and she had to fight off a bunch of idiots to get her job. Dude, she was flexing hard. Just right then, Tameya started fangirling, saying he'd watched her stream since the Wolf Warrior battle. Then Subaru's manager looked at her and asked, is she also originally a fan of Subaru? But right when the fan talk was getting going, the whole arena blew up. Like, literally, a massive explosion of golden lightning hit the floor and lit up the place like the sun. People in the stands freaked out as the light kept getting brighter and brighter. Hatsuka looked terrified, and she muttered that there was no way this was happening. Bro, the whole ground was shaking. The fight between Subaru and Schneider was tearing the arena apart. Down in the middle of all that chaos, you had our MC, Subaru, standing like an absolute boss, with golden lightning swirling around him. The place was trashed, cracked ground, blood here and there, and Schneider, yeah, he was still standing, but he looked wrecked. He had blood coming from his mouth, his armor was broken, but his eyes still burned like he wasn't finished yet. Our boy didn't say anything at first, just stared down at his beaten opponent, then looked up, eyes glowing. He told him that they'd meet again soon. You could tell he meant it too. Then, the system went full flex mode. Big hologram messages popped up, counting Subaru's wins. 283 territories. Dude, that's nuts. It declared that he was the champion, right in front of everyone. Fireworks exploded in the sky. The crowd lost their minds, and the manager was freaking out with happiness, jumping around and holding hands with some random guy. But Tameya, hiding in her cloak, looked like she'd just seen a ghost, muttering that it was impossible. She can't believe that finally Subaru was the winner. Well, she doesn't look happy though. Meanwhile, Mizuha, the host, floated out above the arena with her big energy, ready to announce the winner. She spun around and shouted, with a mic, of course, that the glorious champion was Narukami Subaru. The crowd was still losing it. Then, it was time for the reward. Bro, the prize was awesome. A giant, purple, glowing cube floated in, and inside were those legendary winged shoes, the Teleria. Hearing that, Tameya in her seat literally looked not happy. Then she finally walked away. Hatsuka looks at her, wondering why she acts like an angry person. Then, Subaru reached up and took them, examining them like an old treasure. He got super quiet, thinking about how it had been 20 years. Yeah, 20. Since he last saw something like these. He remembered his old guild back in the day. There was this kid Toshiya, losing his mind, screaming about someone ruining his shoes. Past our boy just laughed, gave him a little kick, and looked like he missed those times. You could tell these shoes meant something deep to our MC. Back to the present, he stood on stage next to Mizuha, holding his prize. The chat was going insane, calling Subaru greedy and saying he'd definitely sell the shoes for a crazy price. Some said he'd get millions of credits for them, but our hero looked straight at the crowd and told everyone he wasn't selling, not even for a few million. The people in the arena started yelling offers, 2 million, 2.5 million, 3, 4, some even higher. Subaru got annoyed. Golden lightning started crackling around him, and he finally snapped. He said he wouldn't sell the shoes even for 10 million credits. Then, Mizuha was flustered, caught in all that golden lightning, and just told the crowd that's what he said, so deal with it. Our boy said he was done and just walked off stage, looking cool with his new legendary shoes. Bro left everyone behind, walking down a golden path like he owned the place. Later, the scene switched to the city at night. Neon lights everywhere, banners, the works. Then, at the Blue Zone Guild HQ, Kurokawa Amon was talking with Hanamaki Hiyori. He was surprised because he actually got scratched in the fight, which wasn't supposed to happen. Hiyori was super hyped about Subaru. She asked if he'd ever be as good as the real Narukami Subaru from back in the day. He just said no one knows about it. Then, Hiyori continued that lately people have been saying stuff like, if the original Subaru can do it, the new Subaru should be able to as well. Amon was annoyed at all this original and new talk. He asked her, what does it mean? She said that now people are calling the two of them. Blue Eyes is the original Subaru, and the streamer is the new one. He didn't get it, and she just kept buzzing with her energy. Then finally, he said, it's time to catch the shoe thief, and the debate is finally over. They walked off the place, but, bro, there's a lot of people in robes following them behind. Back on his stream, our MC Subaru was relaxing, unmasked, holding the Teleria, and looking deep in thought. The fans kept commenting about the shoes, saying they weren't really their style, or that they'd be worth a fortune. He thought about Toshiya, the old friend connected to these shoes, and felt thankful for all the missions that kept his mind busy. Someone in the chat asked if he was really okay, or if he was just pretending. Then our boy checked out Teleria's stats. Turns out, they were pretty sweet. Movement speed boost, extra jumping power, and some wild ability called Cloud Walk. The chat was divided. Some thought the shoes were underwhelming, but the real gamers in chat knew how rare and valuable this kind of item was. Suddenly, he got a nervous message from Hatsuka. She said she saw someone suspicious and felt uneasy, warning him that someone might be after the prize. He thought, what the hell does she mean by that? Meanwhile, somewhere else in the arena, a mysterious figure in a cloak and mask, just like Subaru's, was lurking. This person, who turned out to be Tamiya, was having her own inner struggle, staring at the shoes and thinking how close they were. She finally decided if it came to it, she'd just have to go after his ankle. Dude, talk about ruthless. Anyway, now, our hero walked into this super fancy bar. The place was all moody lights and class, but he looked tired, still rocking his mask. Guess who was waiting for him? Yup, Hatsuka. She was waving both hands like she was trying to land a plane, and she had a whole row of empty glasses in front of her. This girl had energy, bro. She shouted his name and told him to come over. When our MC sat down, she was all smiles and said congrats on his win. She pointed out that she already ordered him a drink. No alcohol, just something nice. Because she thought he probably needed it. After all that fighting, honestly, that's a solid manager move. But Subaru wasn't in the mood for drinks. He held up his glowing screen, showing the messages she sent. They were all warnings about some suspicious person, telling him to be careful, because someone might be after his legendary shoes. So, yeah, our boy was not just being paranoid for once. Then she got serious and explained what happened in the stands. She said she met this weird girl, totally hiding her face with a mask, just like Subaru's. At first, Hatsuka thought the girl was sketchy, but then they started talking, and, turns out, the girl claimed to be a big Subaru fan too. They hit it off and chatted forever about him. She actually started to like her, but then, right when Subaru won the tournament, that masked girl's face changed hard. Hatsuka said she looked like someone who just got dumped by their boyfriend, which, ouch. He pointed out that real fans don't act like that when their favorite wins, so she knew something was up. And then, poof, the mystery girl disappeared. She tried to keep up, but the girl was way too good at hiding. She admitted she couldn't find her no matter how hard she tried, and Hatsuka knew that meant this girl was no casual player. Then Subaru started putting it together in his head. Anyone sneaky enough to trick Hatsuka and pretend to be his fan? Yeah, that sounded dangerous. Then Hatsuka remembered something else. She said, when she asked if the girl liked Narukami Subaru, meaning our hero, the girl reacted kind of weird. He explained that she specifically meant the Blue Eyes Subaru, not this current one, and the girl didn't really say yes or no. It was like she was lost in old memories or thinking about something sad, but, for sure, she didn't deny it. Man, that got our boy thinking hard. His eyes started glowing yellow, and it looked like he was hit with a truckload of emotions and memories at once. Something big was clicking for him. Then, out of nowhere, he shot up and bolted out of the bar, moving so fast he nearly left his drink spinning. Hatsuka just sat there stunned, calling after him, but our MC was already gone. Bro, he didn't even finish his free drink. Now, the scene switched to the rooftops. Tamiya was chilling up there, looking tough as always, her red eyes glowing and blue energy zapping around her. She was watching everything going down below, talking some serious trash in her head about her old rival and how Kyojo got soft too. She figured that if Subaru really came at her, it'd be one thing, but no way some rookie below was going to beat her. Then, she sighs and thinks that finally, Subaru is gone now and won the whole thing. But, suddenly, She saw him. Our boy was rushing off after winning the whole tournament. Was he just hyped up? Or was there some crazy reason for his speed? She thinks, maybe it needs only 10 seconds. No, 5 seconds is enough to steal the shoes from him. Anyway, now, she also has a partner now. This man with wild, long, gray hair. Tamea looked stressed out as hell, screaming in frustration and nearly crying. She said she'd come all this way, made a big scene, but suddenly couldn't go through with whatever plan they had. And that everything he does just reminds her of him, the dead Subaru. Tamea was so torn up, she started threatening the air. Like, if he joins Blue Zone, she's not chopping off his ankle, she's taking his neck. But you could tell her heart wasn't really in it. But deep down, she just wanted to talk to our boy face to face, tears in her eyes, wondering if meeting him would feel like seeing the real Subaru again. That hit pretty hard, dude. Meanwhile, Subaru was running through a huge, shiny hall, his mind racing. He realized he hadn't even thought about the most obvious thing. Maybe the legendary shoes were just bait to draw out members of Blue Eyes, the old guild. And Reina, who's supposed to be some infiltration expert, was probably here to take back Toshia's shoes. It'd explain why she deliberately hid her presence. Now, she sensed Shiyu's mana from the ice flowers, and someone who could have been Reina was in today's tournament. And maybe all 4 of them are still alive. But our hero forced himself to calm down, thinking things through. He guessed that if she was really here, she wouldn't just sit and watch someone else walk around in Toshia's legendary shoes. Right then, Hatsuka caught up to him in the crowd, worried because he just ran out of the bar, like a maniac. Our boy said that before, he thought maybe someone they talked about is someone he knew. But then he said maybe he was wrong. And, bro, this part was rough. Hatsuka looked at Subaru and, all serious, told him that he didn't really have any friends, especially not any female friends. Oof, you could almost hear the sad game show sound effect, because that one stung for our boy. Our boy didn't even answer. He just looked up at the full moon, all thoughtful, and said they should go home. Hatsuka, looking like a chibi cartoon, wondered if she made him mad. While they walked off under the night sky, the action jumped to another place, where Hiyori and Eamon from Blue Zone were hanging out. She was whining hard, her feet hurt, she was hungry, and she was bored. She kept bugging him, asking if they let the target escape, but Eamon was just watching his glowing device. Suddenly, he got a message, retreat. Hiyori lost her mind, shouting about how lame it was to quit now. But Eamon explained that their boss said if the others had come, they wouldn't have let the prize fall into someone else's hands. Even if it was a trap, those crazy, loyal people from Blue Eyes would have showed up anyway. That's when they dropped the real bomb. The big rumor was that Subaru Narukami died because Blue Eyes betrayed him. Everyone was worried it might actually be true. Anyway, now, our boy standing alone on top of a tall building, staring out at the city under the full moon. His face looked tired, serious, and a little bit broken. Dude just wanted a break, but the past would not leave him alone.